These eyes were never meant for a human.
Hello everyone, welcome to What If Naruto Had the Legendary Eyes of Rikudo Sennin movie. Before we start, please go support UzumakiHirashin for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Naruto is a male. A newborn child on that fateful day when the Kyuubi attacked Konoha, sealing it within itself, will become a living legend, possessing the eyes of the person who created ninjutsu, the Rikudo Sennin. Chapter 1: The Beginnings. Every living being has a destiny. A path that must be traveled. It's true that we are the only ones. We can handle it and change it to our liking. But there is something that governs us. And that something, he decided that he would be the savior of the world. Rikudo Sennin. Hokage Office Konoha after the Kyuubi attack. Impossible, how is it pose? Many would believe that those words from the great Gamma Sennin were due to the destruction of Konoha because of the release of the demon fox, Kyuubi no Kitsune, but that wasn't the reason. I don't know, Georgia, it's a good thing I took him away before any of my counselors saw him, said Hiruzen Sarutobi, now the Hokage of Konoha, in a tired voice. At that moment he was in a slightly spacious room, the third Hokage's preferred place to talk about important matters. It's incredible, I only saw it once and... Did you see him once, Georgia? What do you mean? Where exactly did you see him? It was during the Second World War. Do you remember that I was away for 3 years in AIM? Yes, Orochimaru and Tsunade told me that you stayed behind to take care of 3 orphans. Those 3 orphans were more than they seemed. Old man, one of them had it too. What? Why didn't you bring them to Konoha? I only trained them. They wouldn't have wanted to come to Konoha. They had their village to be loyal to. Besides, I thought that he would be the child of the prophecy. Yes, you told me about it, but you didn't say it was Minato, did you? I believed it until a few days ago, but this kid. Naruto, Georgia, don't call him a child, he's your godson. I'm sorry, I'm still not feeling well, I need to sit down, Gamma Sennin said, doing what he said. After taking several breaths, he focused on the crib in front of him. Tell me more about that boy from AIM, Georgia. Well, his name was Nagato, he could master the 5 elements, he was a prodigy, and not only that, he could create jutsus never seen before. I'd bet that in a few years he would have faced Minato. Interesting, but is that all? Wasn't there anything else? Well, there was something that always bothered me, especially after I met Kushina. Kushina, what's this about? Nagato had bright red hair just like Kushina. It was extremely rare to see that type of hair, especially in a rainy place like AIM. Georgia, are you thinking what I'm thinking? The Hokage asked. I think, tell me, old man. When I was a child, I once saw the first Hokage's wife and... Seriously? And I thought you'd forgotten everything at your age, Georgia interrupted with a loud laugh. Sarutobi just closed his eyes, raising his fist. 10 seconds later, the Sannin had a huge bump on his head. Old man, you really have no sense of humor. And you don't know how to respect your elders. The point is, the first Hokage's wife was Mito Uzumaki and the first Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. So what does that have to do with anything? Asked the Gamma Sennin. She had reddish hair. I learned decades ago that members of the Uzumaki clan are known for having red hair. But old man, Nagato was in AIM and... Yes, I know what you're saying, Georgia, and I haven't told you that when Uzumaki was destroyed, the remaining members of the Uzumaki clan scattered all over the world. Are you starting to understand? Well, you don't have to be stupid to think that Nagato was in Uzumaki, so what? Georgia, if one Uzumaki was born with the Rinnegan, it wouldn't be crazy if another one was, the third Hokage said, looking intently at the crib in front of them. Georgia raised his head, realizing something. Old man, you said that Hashirama's wife was in Uzumaki, right? But also the first Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, right? So what about it, Georgia? In response, the Gamma Sennin stood up and approached the crib, looking attentively at the baby with blonde hair and whisker-like marks on his cheek. Not only that, his eyes were half open, showing a slightly purple glow. Impossible, he said while admiring Naruto. Georgia, what's wrong? It's him, it must be him. What do you mean? Sarutobi asked, approaching the crib to see the infant along with his student who was thoughtfully rubbing his chin. It's destiny, it must be. This child is the child of the prophecy. About the prophecy, why do you say that, Georgia? You told me you thought about it twice and it didn't work out in the end. Look at it this way, old man. This kid, son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, extraordinary ninjas in their time, heir to the Namikaze and Uzumaki clans. Apparently a distant relative of the same clan as Nagato, the wielder of the Rinnegan, and even worse, the current Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi being the son of the aforementioned, plus the Namikaze being a clan closely related to the Senju. And this is the best part, his name is Naruto, the name of my story about the savior of the world based on the prophecy. Sarutobi was utterly stunned by so much information. Everything, damn it, everything was absolutely true. If you saw it as Jirya put it, it was extremely unreal, but the clearest proof was the newborn's eyes, which he couldn't open completely, but you could see those ringed purple eyes. What will we do? Thought the third Hokage. It was no small matter since the council members, especially Danzu, would see Naruto as a weapon because they all wanted the Rinnegan to be produced to increase Konoha's status. I'd rather die than use Naruto as a weapon. He certainly couldn't deny what would happen in the future, that the council wanted the restoration of the Uzumaki clan, just a cover to obtain the Rinnegan. He couldn't prevent it, but he could prevent Danzu from getting his hands on the little Uzumaki. He knew the War Hawk perfectly well. He'd bet that he wanted to use Naruto as a weapon of war. Old man, what will we do? What do you mean? He asked, playing dumb. Don't play dumb with me, old man. I know you're thinking about that vile rat Danzu. I don't know what the future holds for Naruto as the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki. Minato asked that he be treated like a hero, but I doubt it. That's something we can verify over time, but you don't have to be a genius to know that Naruto will be coveted, damn. Huh, dude, I didn't think you'd say Orochimaru, damn it. How could I not have realized it before? If we think about it very carefully, Naruto can't show himself to the village with those eyes. What could happen? The same as Nagato being killed, so the only way is for me to take him. What for, Jirya? It's for the best, old man. It's obvious that Naruto will have to learn to master his future abilities. If he doesn't, Minato's fear could come true, being hunted down and killed by Iwa ninjas. I think it's worse. I suppose it would be all the ninja nations. And now that the village is defenseless, we can't take any risks with this. I must take Naruto with me. But Jirya, that would be terrible too. It's better for Naruto to have a normal childhood. If you train him throughout his childhood, I can't imagine what might happen. He's already an orphan, and now he has the Nine Tails sealed inside him and the burden of saving the ninja world. Damn it, when you talk like that, nobody can refuse. But then, old man, what will we do? The problem is the same. Everyone will be able to see the Rinnegan. Not exactly. There is a way, a bit risky, but it might work, the Hokage said in a serious voice. He knew full well that the action he was about to take could cost him his life, but there was no other way. Chapter 2, Genjutsu and a Pact for the Future. Several days later, Hokage Tower. In the same room were two unique ninjas from the entire village, belonging to two ancient and renowned clans, and interestingly, being the heads of the clans, they were Hayashi Hyuga and Fugaku Uchiha. They had been personally summoned by the Sannin Jirya. Seeing that the matter was important, they came immediately, only to get the biggest surprise that almost caused them a heart attack: the possessor of their Daojutsu brother, who was only less than a month old. Fugaku and Hayashi were shocked, especially the Uchiha, upon seeing in the Kyuubi container the eyes that belonged to the creator of the shinobi world, Rikudo Sennin, also being the Daojutsu that gave birth to their own. After the third Hokage informed them about the Naruto matter, the two clan leaders were extremely annoyed and incredulous. The demon container that had recently caused destruction and pain to their village was the possible cause of a major revolt in the ninja world. Who wouldn't be angry and surprised? But they didn't object at all. They had to look out for the safety of their respective clans first, and then Konoha, and the best thing for their clans and the village was the survival of the newborn. It was simply the greatest treasure there could be. Jirya wasn't happy with his sensei's decision. Summoning those two, they were cold, meticulous, calculating, and strategic by nature. I'd bet they'd send marriage proposals in the future so their clans could gain fame and prestige. Sarutobi thought the same, but what could be done? It was obvious that at some point they were going to find out. It was better sooner than later. But the main reason he called the two clan chiefs was simple. They were the possessors of the Daojutsu related to the Rinnegan, although the more accurate word was descendants, and they were the right people for what he had planned. So Hokage-sama, what is it you need? Hayashi asked coldly. You see, it mainly seems that Naruto was born with the Rinnegan active, but after properly investigating, we discovered that it can actually be deactivated. What do you mean, Hokage-sama? Fugaki asked. Due to some setbacks, we believe Naruto shouldn't have the Rinnegan active. At least for now, we'd have problems with both Iwa and Danzo. He whispered the last part, but it was heard by the three men present. Fugaku understood what the Hokage meant. It would be terrible if the Jinchuriki were turned into a soulless weapon. He could imagine the disaster that would cause, especially since Naruto would be the ultimate weapon. Imagine seeing the Dojutsu that gave rise to all the others combined with a Biju, and the Biju being the strongest of them all. So I suppose what you want is for us to find a way to keep the boy's Rinnegan hidden, right? That's right, I think Naruto can show it when he becomes a genin or when the time is right. That way there won't be any problems of any kind. I see your point. That method is better. I just want one condition. Sarutobi sighed slightly. It was obvious that those two would ask for something, and Hayashi seemed serious as to be the one to take the lead. Yes, say it. I want an arranged marriage to be arranged so that the Daojutsu can be preserved. Really? What a surprise. He exclaimed with a hint of mockery, "Stop with the sarcasm, Jirya good Hayashi, but as far as I know you don't have any daughters." "My wife has about 2 weeks left to give birth, and before the Kyuubi attack we were informed via ultrasound that it was a girl," Fugaku growled angrily. He had no children and his wife Mikoto had recently given birth to Sasuke. He couldn't force the use of someone from the clan's daughter, he was the only one who could know the condition of the Uzumaki infant. He had only one alternative left. "Hokage-sama, I only ask one thing. And what is Fugaku?" He asked, intrigued since he didn't have a daughter. "My son Sasuke was just born and—" "Oh wait a minute, don't come at us with that weird stuff." Gama Sennin shouted in terror at the look of the two clan chiefs. 5 seconds later they understood what he meant and a strong tick appeared in Fugaku's eye as Hayashi and Sarutobi looked on in pity. "I'll make sure he doesn't hear anything," he said angrily. "What I want is a friendly alliance. If things go well, what I want is for Sasuke to be put on the same team as the Uzumaki kid." "Why Fugaku?" "Nothing really, but the fame that Sasuke would gain by being recognized as the partner of the Rinnegan holder would help to increase the prestige of the Uchiha clan." "Good point, now they just have to hide the Rinnegan," the Hokage said in a tired voice. Fugaku and Hayashi attended and approached Naruto's crib. The two activated their respective doujutsu and looked directly into the infant's ringed eyes. They remained in that same position for more than 10 minutes when suddenly they began to show signs of fatigue, and the first to deactivate his doujutsu was Hayashi, who closed them tightly. This caught Jirya's attention. "What's wrong, Hayashi?" he asked, noticing Hayashi's reaction. "It's strange, but a faint trace of Kyuubi's chakra remained connected to Naruto's eyes, which is why they were activated at such a young age. The chakra flow seemed uniform as if the chakra were managing itself. I couldn't continue watching it because it was too strong for the Byakugan." "I think that's fine," Fugaku's tired voice said, closing his eyes as Naruto began to cry loudly, his eyes turning sky blue like his father's. Sarutobi gently took him in his arms. "What did you do?" Seeing the image of Naruto who looked just like Hinata. As the Hyuga said, "But I saw it myself, the Kyuubi's chakra was forced to transmit a faint trace of chakra to the eyes. How can it do that? I think it's the seal, since it's programmed so that the Kyuubi's chakra is transmitted continuously." "Yes, I already know that, plus Naruto's chakra will merge with Kyuubi's." "Well, all I did was cancel the flow of chakra using a genjutsu and that's it. Now the chakra will pass through its small chakra channels, right Hyuga?" "Correct. Thus his eyes will be deactivated, but the same thing that happened to the Uchiha could happen. In a moment that causes him a strong emotion, the genjutsu will break and the flow will activate, therefore the Rinnegan will reappear." "How long will this genjutsu last?" "As I said, the Kyuubi's chakra will be transmitted throughout his entire body, as will the genjutsu which feeds on that chakra. In short, it will only dissipate when he experiences a moment of shock and all his chakra is released, thus breaking the flow of the genjutsu. However, it can only be repaired once after that, the genjutsu can never be used again. It seems fair to me." "When the time is right, your request will be fulfilled," Sarutobi informed, looking at the newborn Naruto with a slight smile which the newborn returned slightly. Fugaku and Hayashi expected great things from the possessor of the Rinnegan, while Jirya only had one thought in mind. "He will change the world and bring peace, I know it." Chapter 3: A Small Accident. 10 years later, on October 10th in the hidden village among the leaves. Everything in the streets was festivities and celebrations, for everyone except for an 11-year-old boy who was in his home, but Naruto wasn't in a position to complain. That was better than living on the street, and he had to thank the third one who gave him the house when he was kicked out of the orphanage. The 11-year-old boy hadn't eaten for 3 days, and his stomach was telling him he had to get food, but in his mind he knew what would happen if they saw him today. "But in the end I had no other choice, hunger was stronger than reason." The only place that sold food was a small restaurant called Ikaraku, but it was really far from where he lived, and to get there he would have to cross many streets. Finally, he mustered up enough courage. He moved through the shadows so as not to be seen, but just as he was about to arrive, a villager saw him. "The demon!" shouted a villager, causing everyone in the street to pay attention to the young man who froze in fear. Naruto, recovering from the shock of being discovered, tried to run but was soon surrounded. Seeing himself surrounded and knowing what was coming, he tried to reason with them. "Why are you doing this to me? I haven't done anything to you, and if I have, I'm sorry, I didn't realize, please don't hit me," he said, half terrified. "What you've done is make us demons," shouted one of the villagers among the 20 or so who had gathered, and with that shout they began to hit him with whatever they had at hand. But suddenly, when all seemed lost, Naruto placed his palms in front of the villagers, causing a shockwave that killed them all, leaving a large crater with Naruto lying in the middle, badly injured. At that moment, someone watched the whole scene in amazement. It was an Anbu with black hair, a crow mask, and 2 Sharigan glowing in the dark. "Naruto," he said softly, "in the Hokage Tower." "Hokagesama." An Anbu with a dog mask and silver hair entered the office shouting, Calm down and explain what's happening, Kakashi, Sarutobi said, trying to calm the no-recognized Kakashi. It's Naruto Hokage-sama, he's being beaten up by the villagers. Shouted a worried Kakashi who knew that Naruto was his sensei's son. No, how can this be? Naruto can't suffer that, otherwise the genjutsu that was applied to him will disappear and his eyes will come to light. Sarutobi spoke desperately. Hokage-sama, we have to hurry. This time it's really serious. If we don't hurry, he might die. The Hokage then left the tower accompanied by Kakashi, who was indicating where Naruto was. When they arrived, they found blood everywhere and a Naruto who was unrecognizable, with almost all his skin torn off, wounds all over his body, almost all his bones broken, and several blows to the head. Poor Naruto, how could they leave him like this? But how could a child do this? Kakashi said, surprised that he had killed almost 20 villagers. We'll talk about that later in you, he said, because he had sensed 3 people spying on them. They're definitely from the ANBU, Ray's added. Sarutobi picked him up as best he could, trying not to hurt him further, and took him to the hospital. Once there, he had to stay all night waiting for them to finish because he was afraid they wouldn't take good care of him if he went to rest. When the doctors came out of the operating room, the doctor immediately approached the Hokage. Hokage-sama, Sarutobi jumped in fright at being called so suddenly. How is Naruto? Sarutobi asked desperately. He's stable, but what? She said, grabbing the doctor by his lab coat. He's in a coma. The doctor shouted in fear. At that moment, the Hokage dropped the doctor to the ground and stood in shock, thinking, I've broken my promise to Minato to protect his son. 1 month later, Naruto opened his eyes, revealing the Rinnegan in all its glory. He stared at the white walls of the hospital where he hadn't been for long because they refused to treat him. He spent a while trying to remember why he was there, then recalled the encounter with the villagers, and after that, everything went black. Several hours passed before anyone entered the room. Oh, Naruto, you're awake. I'm glad you're okay. Naruto heard a voice after the door opened. When Naruto looked to see who it was, what are you doing here, Sarutobi? Naruto said, a little surprised. Damn it, his Rinnegan activated. I have to call Hiashi and Fugaku, he thought, looking into Naruto's eyes. Guess what? Well, I've come to see you. Anbu, come out of there and call Hiashi and Fugaku, he said, turning back to look at Naruto. Naruto remained silent for a moment without saying anything until he asked, how long have I been in this bed? All my muscles ache and my eyes are burning a lot, Naruto said, breaking the silence. You've been in a coma for a month, don't worry, your eye problems will resolve themselves, Sarutobi said as calmly as possible. 1 month, how is that possible? Sarutobi pondered how to respond to that. Naruto may have a big heart, but everything has its limits. If I don't do something, this is going to explode and he'll seek a well-deserved revenge against the village. I have to tell him the truth, but telling him only half the truth might accelerate things, so I'll have to tell him about his family as well. And besides, he's awakened the Rinnegan, another thing that will put even more pressure on poor Naruto. Anyway, for now, I'll see if I can apply genjutsu again so that at least he won't have to be under so much pressure, the Hokage thought. Who's there? Naruto asked, pointing to a specific spot which puzzled the old Hokage. I apologize for interrupting, Hokage-sama, but my father sent me. How is Naruto? Said an ANBU with black hair and a chrome mask. Itachi. I didn't even sense you, he said, looking at Naruto who had noticed him because of his Jujutsu, although he didn't understand why he saw so clearly. The Hokage quickly performed hand seals to create a barrier so no one outside the room could hear. Naruto is fine, but now put the genjutsu on him, it's too early for him to use it. He tried to speak as discreetly as possible so Naruto wouldn't interrupt, though he knew he'd find out eventually. Well, that's fine, Hokage-sama, he said, looking him in the eyes. Those eyes are truly powerful. He placed his hand on Naruto's head and applied the genjutsu his father had told him about. Naruto-sama, good luck with your recovery. Thank you, but don't call me Sama. It seems strange that he calls me that and not demon. Wait, I don't understand anything. Why is he here and why did he seal the room? Well, it's a long story, Naruto. Now I'll tell you properly, Itachi, you may leave. All right, Hokage-sama. Okay, I'll tell you everything now. The only thing I ask is that you interrupt me as little as possible. Naruto lowered his head and raised it again as if to say yes. Naruto, you know that 11 years ago the nine-tailed fox demon attacked the village, right? The Hokage began. Naruto nodded slowly, somewhat confused, and the Hokage continued. You've also heard that the fourth Hokage killed it, but that's not exactly what happened. Demons can't be killed. Instead, the fourth Hokage summoned the Shinigami and made a pact that would cost him his life. Naruto was stunned. He didn't understand anything the Hokage was saying. What pact did the fourth Hokage make? And what does that have to do with me? The Hokage made a sad face. The fourth Hokage gave his soul to the Shinigami in exchange for sealing the nine tails inside a newborn child, to be more precise. His son, the third Hokage, saw that he looked sad, and then everything started to make sense, because on the day of the nine tails' supposed death, they beat him up because they called him a demon. Wait. If I'm the child from that story, that makes me the fourth Hokage's son, Naruto thought. Sarutobi, seeing that he had already realized who his father was, continued. Naruto, your father had to do it to save the village, but he didn't want them to treat you like that. He wanted them to see you the way he saw you, as a hero. Naruto understood why his father had done it, but then another question came to mind. So if I wanted them to see me as a hero, why are they treating me like this? Why do they insult me and hit me almost daily? Why haven't they said anything to me? The Hokage thought for a moment. After the war with Iwa Rock, your father had many enemies, and to protect you we decided you would use your mother's name, Kushina Uzumaki, instead of your father's, Minato Namikaze. Seeing that people were turning their hatred for the Nine Tails onto you, I decided to make a law to save you from the hatred of your generation. I forbade the village from speaking to or telling their children that you are the vessel of the Nine Tails under penalty of death, so that at least the children of your generation wouldn't know and you could play like a normal child. But the hatred of the parents is being passed on to the children, even though they don't know why they hate you. Seeing their parents hate you, they imitate them without knowing why. So it didn't work. Even though they can't tell them you have the Nine Tails, they tell them to stay away from you. The Hokage finished, disappointed, but continued speaking. I forgot to mention something else. Besides being the Kyuubi's container, you were born with a power that no one imagined would ever be seen again. A very special bloodline, Sarutobi said very seriously. Silence had fallen again until, wait, what is that power? Bloodline, is my mother alive? Has she abandoned me or does she hate me like everyone else because of the Kyuubi? Naruto asked, already thinking the worst. Naruto, you possess immense power, but for your protection, some ninjas placed a genjutsu on you, causing it to deactivate. However, if you experience a strong emotion like the one you felt today, it will reactivate. That's why Itachi came to check on you and reactivate the genjutsu. It's still too soon for you to use it, and to answer your other questions, no, Naruto doesn't hate you. Sadly, your mother died giving birth to you. I know you're going to ask what your parents were like, but don't worry, your father left you a few things, including a letter explaining everything. They're at your family's house where you'll live from now on. There's no point in staying in that apartment now that you know the truth, the Hokage said. What? I have great power, I asked, but seeing Hiruzen's serious face, I decided not to ask. I know he doesn't want to tell me for his own protection. Fine, I won't ask anymore. Yes, Naruto, but Itachi already put the genjutsu on you. When you experienced that intense emotion, it activated. I told Fugaki to put the genjutsu on you again because your father has many enemies. Besides, if the council finds out you have that power, they'll surely marry you off to every woman possible so that power can be reborn, he said, clearing up all his doubts. Okay, Gigi, although I still don't understand why I saw and felt Itachi so clearly, he said, a little calmer. Gigi, can I leave here for a while? I need to think about a lot of things, Naruto said, mentally stressed. You can leave whenever you want. When you're ready, come by the Hokage office and I'll take you to your new home, said the third Hokage, standing up and making hand seals to deactivate the silent seals. Gigi, I didn't ask, but why don't you want them to see my power? He asked since he hadn't understood why they wanted to hide his power if he were to awaken, even though he didn't yet understand that power. Because of what I told you before, your power is very strong and I don't want anyone to take advantage of you. At least don't show it until you become a genin, Naruto, and only when you become a chunin can you reveal who your parents are, obviously if you want to. Okay, I'm going to take a walk to think, Naruto said seriously. He got dressed and left the hospital. Chapter 4, Truth and Proposal. Naruto went to the fourth Hokage's head and stayed there until the sky turned orange. He was about to leave when he heard someone crying. He approached the sound, which wasn't far away, just a few meters, until he saw a little girl crying with her back against a tree trunk. The most curious thing about the girl was that she had pink hair. Are you okay? Has something happened to you? The young woman was very surprised to hear this. She saw a blonde boy of somewhat short stature with orange glasses covering his eyes. Did you come here to laugh at me too? The little girl asked, still crying. Naruto was taken aback by this response. No, why would I laugh at you? I have a huge forehead. The girl shouted between sobs and Naruto looked at her. It's true that it's bigger than normal, Naruto said, and the girl began to cry harder until she noticed something on her forehead and watched as the boy kissed her forehead, which made her blush deeply. But it's better to kiss her, and I'm sure you're very smart. Besides, a girl as pretty as you shouldn't have to worry about that, you know. What makes you different is what makes you special, Naruto said, smiling, and Sakura, still blushing, gave a small smile. Are you feeling better? Naruto asked. Yes, thank you very much. By the way, my name is Haruno Sakura. What's your name? Sakura asked, sounding more cheerful. What a beautiful name. Nice to meet you, Haruno Sakura. My name is Uzuma. He couldn't finish because Sakura's mother took her hand and led her away, leaving Naruto stunned but not before saying, Stay away from my daughter, demon. Naruto, already used to the name and the way he was treated, let him go and decided it was time to go to the Hokage Tower to find out everything. In the mansion. Shall we go in? The Hokage said upon seeing him. Is all this mine? Naruto asked upon seeing a huge mansion. Since everything is yours, your dad left it for you to have when you turned 18, but given the circumstances, I've had to give it to you sooner, he finished in a sad tone. When they entered, there was a stone path leading to the main, larger house. Naruto looked around and saw what appeared to be a small lake, but he couldn't be sure because it was dark. The doorway was 2 meters high. They went inside, and the first thing they saw was the darkness because the lights weren't on. When they turned them on, they found a huge hall with a massive staircase leading to the second floor, which was decorated with many plants. To the right was the kitchen with a pantry full of instant ramen. When Sarutobi saw it, he thought, like father, like son, and they left the kitchen. To the left of the entrance was the living room with a round sofa and a table in the center with a bar and drinks in one corner. Straight ahead, to the left of the stairs, was a training room with dummies, weights, and things like that. To the right of the stairs was the fourth Hokage office. It had a desk with enormous shelves full of scrolls of techniques. Opposite the desk was a fireplace with 2 sofas on either side. On the desk was an envelope that Naruto decided to look at in the morning. They went up to the second floor, and there were a bunch of rooms that were just like Naruto's old apartment, except for his parents' room, which was bigger. He decided he would stay in his parents' room. Naruto looked in the wardrobe only to find the famous white cloak of the fourth Hokage with the flames and red lettering on the back. He decided not to use it until he became a Chunin so no one would know he was the fourth Hokage's son. Like all the others, this room had a bathroom, a desk, and a balcony. Since it was already very late, Sarutobi told him to go to bed and come to his office tomorrow so they could talk about everything. The next day, Naruto got out of bed and went to the desk where the letter was. When he arrived, he saw a letter that said Mom and Dad. Naruto, if you read this letter before you turn 18, I know the village hasn't respected you. I'm sorry for all the burden I placed on you if that's the case. Well, first of all, I want to tell you that for your mother, Kushina Uzumaki, and for me, the news that she was pregnant was the best news we could have received, but circumstances don't allow us to be happy for me because of what I'm about to do, and for your mother because she died during childbirth. Your mother was from the land of whirlpools. Unfortunately, that village was destroyed during the war. She survived and came to Konoha. We became comrades. Once Kushina was kidnapped and I was able to save her, that's when we fell in love. We lived together for a couple of years and then I became Hokage. Your mother was the most beautiful person in the whole world. If you want to see our photos, they're in the safe in the next envelope. I'll tell you the password if you're going to read the inheritance envelope next. Your godfather is Jiraiya, and if you run into him, you can trust him. He's my sensei and he can teach you many of my techniques. Naruto was already severely dehydrated from crying so much, but he continued reading anyway. Well, everything in the Namikaze compound is yours, as well as some training grounds and some properties. Furthermore, I'm leaving you an entire library with thousands of techniques of all levels, and one of my secrets for using the Flying Thunder God technique, Hirashin no Jutsu, is the gravity seals. I'm also leaving you my entire fortune, which you can withdraw as soon as you turn 18, but I'm leaving you plenty of cash in the safe so you won't have to go to the bank for a long time. The code is 12,649. By the way, the safe is behind the scroll shelf. Naruto went to open the safe to look at his family photos first. When he opened it, he was shocked by all the money inside, but he went straight to his parents' photo album. There were pictures of his dad from when he was a child and he realized he looked exactly like him, but there were only pictures of his mom from when she was a teenager. He spent hours looking at the family photos. The last ones were his parents together with his mother pregnant with him. When he finished, he decided it was time to go see the Hokage. When he arrived at the Hokage Tower, he was telling her what was written on the envelopes, and when he finished, Sarutobi-san, could you do me a favor? I'd like to enter the academy to become a ninja. In this story, Naruto won't start the academy as a child, so when he enters, he'll coincide with the canon characters and won't repeat the exam twice. Alright Naruto, but the Genin exam is at the end of the year. Do you feel ready? You'll have to study more than the others because you're way behind. Yes, Gigi, I think it will be easy, she said confidently. Okay, that's fine. Naruto will start tomorrow. Okay, Gigi, I'll be going. Good luck, Naruto, in your new house. Thanks, Gigi, replied the blonde boy. Naruto left the Hokage office and headed straight for the Namikaze residence, but as he was walking peacefully, he sensed a chakra he had felt before. Itachi, come out of there, I know you're in there, she said as Itachi, dressed in an ANBU uniform, came out. Wow, Naruto, you're really skilled, he said, surprised that he could sense it without even having the Rinnegan active. What did you need, Itachi? He said happily because he could talk to someone without being called a demon. Naruto, I want to propose something to you. What is it? Tell me, he asked excitedly. I want to train you since our family has a pact with you. I think it would be fair if I also taught you some of our clan's techniques. Yes, Itachi-san, that will help me become Hokage. He shouted excitedly. Nir-san, I asked. The truth is, you're one of the first people to talk to me normally and without calling me a demon. Haha, okay, little brother, how difficult Naruto's life must be being alone, but I see that he is emotionally strong. Anyone else in his position would be seeking revenge against the village, but he is the opposite. You want to be Hokage to be recognized, but Naruto, now call me Itachi-sensei. I'll be waiting for you at the training field tomorrow afternoon. Make sure no one sees you, although with your abilities I don't think it will be difficult for you. Hi Itachi-sensei. See you later Naruto, she said, raising her hand in a farewell gesture and disappeared in a crow body Shushin no Jutsu. Damn, I have to learn that jutsu, it would be so useful. He muttered before heading home so he could finally get some rest. Chapter 5, Beginning of the Academy. Things didn't go so well this year at the academy. When he started, he was very excited, but as he saw the hatred of the teachers and that no matter how hard he tried, he always failed, he began to accept it. With that came a great idea. When he left the academy, he would train with Itachi until late and sleep at the academy. This resulted in him getting the worst grades, although he wouldn't have made a difference if he hadn't done that. But since everything they were teaching had already been taught to him by his sensei, he didn't care. He had the same reputation as Shikamaru. He played a lot of pranks to relieve the stress of all the training and to practice how to escape from ninjas, which to this day hadn't caught him, not even the Anbu, only Uruka. Naruto had been able to learn a lot from Itachi. He learned everything possible about chakra control, even being able to walk on water, although sometimes he had difficulty. For Itachi, it was essential to teach him this since Naruto possessed enormous chakra reserves. He even dared to say that his reserves were almost equal to those of a Jonin, although Naruto had a lot of trouble controlling it. Flashback. Itachi-sensei, what will we learn today? I'm tired of climbing trees. Relax Naruto, today we'll see what affinities you have and maybe I can teach you a jutsu. Alright Itachi-sensei, but how will we know that? Naruto, take this, he spoke as he handed him a piece of paper, put chakra into it. Hi, while putting chakra into the paper. But Itachi's surprise came when he saw the paper cut into 4 pieces. One of them fell apart, another wrinkled, another burned, and the last one got wet. Naruto possesses all 5 elements, how is that possible? He thought. Naruto, did you see what happened? Yes, sensei, but I don't understand what this is for, he asked doubtfully. What happened is that you have all 5 elements, Naruto. No one has been able to master all 5 elements for a long time, he thought. The Rinnegan must have something to do with it too, though it's strange that it affects him even though it's not activated yet. Okay Naruto, I'll teach you my clan's classic jutsu. Is Itachi-sensei sure? If Naruto uses it too, everyone does. He made hand seals and said Katen, Gakakyu no Jutsu. Naruto barely saw the technique before copying the hand seals and saying, Fire Release. Great fireball technique. Itachi was surprised to see that Naruto's jutsu had great power, something surprising since almost no one can pull it off on their first try. He's as talented as me or even more so, Itachi thought. Naruto, that's all for today. There's only a week left until the Genin exam. I know you'll pass since you're at an elite Genin level, almost a Chunin, but keep improving. Thank you Itachi-sensei, you'll see I'll become a powerful shinobi and Hokage, believe it. He said with a determined look and bowed. What should I do with the weights you gave me, sensei? Keep it Naruto, it's to help you improve your physique for Taijutsu. Alright sensei, thank you very much, she said as she left. Meanwhile, Itachi went to talk to Fugaku about Naruto. Upon arriving at the Uchiha compound, Father spoke the dark-haired man who had just entered the mansion. What happened, Itachi? Fugaku replied, it's about Naruto, father. Tell me, she said as she sat down. Well, to begin with, Naruto possesses all 5 affinities, something that hasn't been seen for a long time. What do you mean Naruto has all 5 affinities? That's impossible, nobody can have all 5 affinities. He asked, very surprised. Well, from my point of view, the Rinnegan has something to do with it, but I'm not sure. Anyway, continuing with Naruto's abilities. He has a very large chakra reserve, and despite being only 12 years old, he has almost the same chakra as a low-level Jonin. Furthermore, the boy is very quick to learn. I taught him the Katen, Gakakyu no Jutsu, and he only saw it and was able to perform it almost perfectly. Naruto's only disadvantage would be his chakra control given his enormous reserve. Damn, he'll be a powerful shinobi. He has a lot of talent in addition to the characteristics of his blood, he thought. I already know why he has chakra, Fugaku replied. Why father? He asked, somewhat intrigued. Let's just say it's the Uzumaki bloodline. They have enormous chakra reserves and a vitality that allows them to live to 150. That's surprising, I've never heard of that. The truth is, very few people know that, but I know about the enormous chakra reserves because of Kushina. That woman possessed the same chakra reserves as Minato, who was a powerful Hokage, an SS rank shinobi. Now I understand where all of Naruto's talent comes from. I'm glad I made that deal with the Hokage, he said, looking at Sasuke. Itachi, I forgot to ask you something. Does Naruto know anything about his Daojutsu? For now, he doesn't know anything, he replies seriously. Currently. Naruto's style was somewhat different from the others. He had long golden hair styled in bangs that covered his eyes, as Sarutobi had told him to keep it that way. He also wore black pants with shuriken pouches, and a blue shirt with the Uzumaki clan emblem in the middle. Luckily for Naruto, he was paired with Uruka, with whom he had a good relationship and who didn't treat him like a demon. Uruka was so interested in Naruto that he invited him to eat ramen many times. Naruto trusted him so much that he told him that he was the son of the fourth homie. In his class is the pink-haired girl he fell in love with the day he discovered everything. But as always with Naruto, luck isn't on his side. Sakura was in love with the Uchiha like all the females of her age. Naruto didn't like Sasuke but not more than the other boys in his class, and he simply didn't talk to him, that's all. They didn't have any kind of relationship because he believed that he was the best of all since Fugaku raised him that way, and Naruto because he was always asleep. They entered the room one by one to be examined. This year's test was the Bunshin. Naruto had problems with that jutsu, but with Itachi's teachings, he learned the Kage Bunshin. Itachi had told him that he had a lot of chakra to make a Bunshin, and since the greater the chakra, the less control it would have and the more costly it would be to mold it, that's why he taught him the Kage Bunshin. When it was Naruto's turn, everyone murmured that he was too clumsy and lazy to be a ninja. He ignored the comments and entered the room. Uruka and Mizuki were sitting there. Hello Naruto, well the test is to perform the Bunshin. Can I do a variation, Uruka-sensei? Wait, a variant? He asked, intrigued. If Uruka-sensei, someone taught me, may I? Okay, fine, Naruto, do it. Alright, Uruka-sensei. He brought his two fingers together and made a cross with those of his other hand, but before doing so, he saw that Mizuki was trying to do something under the table. Before starting with the hand seals, Naruto made a small seal, causing Mizuki to fall into a genjutsu that Itachi had taught him. Naruto finished molding the chakra and said, Shadow Clone Jutsu, making 10 Narutos appear. How do you know that jutsu? It's a kenjutsu, it's dangerous, said a very surprised Uruka. The boys in the classroom were speechless when they saw 10 Narutos and then disappear in a cloud of smoke. Damn Dobi, who does he think he is? Thought a certain Uchiha. I don't want to admit it, but that was amazing, but no one is more powerful than my Sasuke-kun, thought a bubblegum-haired girl as she looked at the Uchiha with a slight blush on her cheeks. What do you say, Mizuki? But Mizuki didn't answer. Don't even try it, Uruka-sensei. I tried to do something and I had to put him in a genjutsu courtesy of Itachi, so it will take him a while to get out of it, said Naruto, more serious than Uruka had ever heard him sound. He stood up to get a closer look at Mizuki and saw that his hands were under the table, resting on the tiger seal. Alright Naruto, when I inform the class about the Rookie of the Year, I'll go tell the Hokage about this and let him decide what happens with Mizuki. And congratulations, you're a genin now. After that they left the classroom already wearing their ninja headbands. When Naruto got to his place, he put his headband on his forehead, letting his hair fall down the side of the headband. And Mizuki-sensei asked Shikamaru, who was the smartest of them all. He's had some problems and won't be able to attend this time, but well, now it's time to announce the name of the Rookie of the Year, and it is Uchiha Sasuke. All the girls and one boy shouted, "Marry me." Sasuke's hair stood on end when he heard the boys say that. Before leaving class, Uruka told them that tomorrow he would meet his teammates and their sensei, and then he left the classroom. The class then headed towards the Hokage Tower. Uruka told the Hokage what had happened and Mizuki was arrested. Afterward, Uruka went to get Naruto so they could go eat ramen at Ikaraku since they were the only place that would accept Naruto as a customer. When Naruto returned to that enormous mansion, he went to his parents' room to lie down so he could rest. Chapter 6, a test you absolutely must pass. The next day, Naruto woke up, took a shower and headed towards the academy. He arrived, sat down, and people started arriving. To their surprise, Sasuke sat down next to them. When Ino and Sakura arrived and saw Naruto sitting with their Sasuke-kun, they almost fell over backwards. Sakura was not willing to tolerate this and pulled Naruto out of the chair, got up from the floor, dusted herself off, and sat down at a table next to the door. When Uruka arrived, he began announcing the teams. Team 7 will consist of Uchiha Sasuke. All the girls fell silent, waiting to see which one would be paired with Sasuke. Haruno Sakura and well, see I know you pigs, love conquers all. Uruka had an anime-style sweat drop on his head, but continued, Uzumaki Naruto. At that moment, the whole class looked towards a sound of banging, and saw Naruto banging his head on the table. He liked having Sakura on his team, but with Sasuke too, he knew it was going to be very hard to put up with Sakura all day. Besides, Itachi had told him about how proud Sasuke was of being spoiled by his father. Uruka continued announcing the team names, with Ino complaining that it wasn't fair she wasn't on Sasuke's team. The teams are the same. When he finished, Uruka told them to wait for their senseis and left. Naruto, for his part, decided to lie down until he heard Team 7. 2 hours passed and all the teams had left with their senseis except for Team 7. When Kakashi arrived, he saw a black-haired boy looking out the window, a pink-haired girl looking at him with hearts in her eyes, and another boy he knew very well, who was asleep. He entered the classroom, slamming the door to announce his presence and to wake Naruto up. "Hey Naruto, why were you sleeping?" Everyone was surprised that she knew his name, although they didn't decide to ask. "Why are you late, Kakashi?" Now surprising Kakashi, she knew his identity. "Hee because I ran into a black cat on my way to the academy and had to take the long way around. All 3 of them had a drop of sweat on their foreheads." "Well, that's why I was asleep, because you ran into a black cat and you didn't get there in time." "Okay, let's drop the subject. Come to the rooftop in 5 minutes." And with that, he disappeared in a flash. Naruto had already heard about Kakashi since Itachi had told him that he was his partner when he was in ANBU. Also told him that he was a student of his father and warned him that he was always late. When they arrived, Kakashi told them to sit down and introduce themselves so they could get to know each other better. "Why don't you introduce yourself first, sensei? That way we'll have an example," Sakura said. "Well, my name is Hatake Kakashi, my likes and dislikes are none of your business, and my dream for the future it's not for your ears. You only told us the name." Naruto and Sakura shouted. "Now then, Naruto, introduce yourself," he said, even though he already knew him very well and it seemed that Naruto knew something about him. "My name is Naruto Nami." "Your last name wasn't Uzumaki Dobi," Sasuke said. You're right." The 3 of them had a bead of sweat behind their heads but didn't say anything. He almost said sensei's last name, Kakashi thought. "Well, my likes are ramen and training with my sensei as well as 2 people, a redhead and a blonde. What I dislike are chronically backward people, and I don't know why, but also snakes and red clouds." While Kakashi was left pondering why he had an aversion to that, besides having also understood who those people he had mentioned were, and his companions wondering who that blonde and that redhead could be, and my dreams for the future to become the strongest Hokage. I see there's no doubt in his voice, and besides he has the strongest bit. I think if he becomes Hokage, if he learns to control the Kyuubi, I'd even dare to say he'd be one of the strongest. I'm really glad I got Naruto, he thought as he remembered how he begged the Hokage to give him Naruto. "Bubblegum hair, your turn," pointing at Sakura. "Kill him?" his inner voice screamed. "My name is Haruno Sakura and my likes are looks at Sasuke and blushes. My dislike is Inopig, my dream is looks at Sasuke and blushes. Perfect, and a fangirl and her wish on my team." "Your turn, duckbutt hair, my name is Uchiha Sasuke. I have few likes, many dislikes, and my dream is to surpass my brother and become the clan leader." "Perfect and emo, well now we know each other, I'm going to tell you about the last test. It will be tomorrow at 6 a.m. Bring your ninja equipment, you'll need it, and one last thing, I advise you not to eat breakfast because you'll throw it up. Goodbye," and he left in a leaf shushin. Sakura tried to get Sasuke to walk her home, but he said no and she felt a little sad. "Hey Sakurachin, do you want me to walk you home?" "No Naruto," and with that he turned around, shrugged and left. The next day, Namikaze Mansion. Naruto got out of bed, showered, and put on his clothes for the test. He took the shuriken and kunai and started eating breakfast, completely ignoring Kakashi's warning, because according to Itachi, Kakashi was known to arrive quite late, and by the time he arrived he would have already digested his food. He would also take an apple to eat while he waited for Kakashi-sensei to arrive. She left the house and headed to the training field to meet up with her teammates. When she arrived at the training field, she saw Sasuke with his hands in his pockets and Sakura talking to him, a one-sided conversation, of course. "Good morning, Sakurachin," Sasuke. "Oh, it's you," Sakura said disdainfully, but at least she answered. Sasuke just looked at him, called him Adobe, and turned away. Seeing his attitude, Naruto clenched his teeth and went to sit down by a tree. After an hour had passed, Naruto decided to eat the apple. The other 2 saw him. "Hey Dobi, Kakashi-sensei said not to eat anything," Naruto said. Sakura, realizing this, simply ignored him. "Are you deaf? Sasuke-kun is talking to you." Naruto didn't say anything to this, nor did he eat his apple. Just as he was taking the last bite, Kakashi arrived and saw him eating. "You're late," Sakura shouted. "I had to help an old lady cross the street, everyone with a bead of sweat on the back of their head because of such a stupid excuse." "And I say not to eat breakfast, Naruto," Kakashi said, watching him get up from the tree. "Well, you said he advised us not to eat, but it was just that advice and you either take it or leave it, and I decided not to follow it," Naruto said, smiling at Kakashi. "It's a good thing Itachi-sensei told me what Kakashi-sensei is like," the blonde thought. "Alright, I'll explain the test." He took out an alarm clock and placed it on a log, then took out 2 bells. "Okay, the rules are simple. You have to get a bell. You can use whatever you want to do it. I warn you though that anyone who doesn't come here intending to kill me won't get a bell. You have until noon to get the bells. Those who don't get a bell will be tied to the log and given nothing to eat. At this, Sakura and Sasuke shouted at the same time, so that's what you wanted us to get, nothing to eat. Yes, but that's not all. Whoever doesn't get a bell will also return to the academy. Now begin. Upon hearing this, Naruto threw a smoke bomb, made a copy and told him to hide as well. When the smoke cleared, only Naruto remained sitting cross-legged on the ground, lost in thought. Why are there only 2 bells if there are 3 of us? It doesn't make sense. All teams have 3 members and a Jonin, and here it could be that there's only a Jonin and a Genin, but I've never seen a team like that when they ask Jiji for missions. Konoha wouldn't waste a Jonin training just a Genin, so that's not an option. Therefore, the bells aren't the real test, but I still don't know what the test means. Naruto was interrupted by Kakashi before he could answer. Shouldn't you hide with the others? He said, pulling out an orange book. What's the point of being a Jounin? It would be a waste of time, wouldn't it? Yes, but it's better to just stand there doing nothing. Who says I'm not doing anything? I'm thinking, but if you're in a hurry to take down the bells, then I'll begin. Naruto ran towards Kakashi to test his taijutsu skills, but he stuck to simple punches and weak kicks to lull him into a false sense of security, using only the taijutsu techniques he'd learned at the academy. Kakashi meanwhile dodged them all while reading his book. When they were about to start fighting, Naruto figured it out. I've got it, he thought. The real test is teamwork. That's what the bells are for, to separate us and see if you're capable of putting the team before your personal interests. I have to warn Sasuke Sakurachin, he thought. With that, Naruto stopped hitting and made 4 clones. 3 of them stood leaning against a tree, watching without doing anything, while the 4th went to find the first clone to explain the plan and have it warn the other 2. Kakashi watched, curious about what he would do with the clones. Nothing you try will work, Kakashi said. How do you know if I haven't done it yet? Naruto said, making faces. Well, we'll see. After a short time, the copy arrived, left, and placed itself in a tree, watching them as well. Meanwhile, the other copy found Sakurachin. He couldn't finish because she wouldn't let him speak. Naruto, leave me alone. I have to get a bell or they'll separate me from Sasuke-kun. This made the copy very sad. But you don't care if it happens to me, do you? Naruto thought and went to find Sasuke to see if he could convince him and then have him tell Sakura. When he found him, Sasuke, we have to work as a team to pass the test. A Genin can't beat a Jounin alone. Naruto was aware that he wasn't yet strong enough to face a Jounin alone. Sasuke glanced at him sideways. You say that because you're not capable, that's why you want my help, but we'll see about a Genin not being able to remove them alone. You don't understand, Sasuke. The bells for the 2nd time today, they cut it off again. Dobi, I'm not going to work with you, so stop bothering me, and then he left, leaving the copy alone, which instantly dissolved. When the information about the copy reached him, Naruto became furious and Kakashi noticed. What's wrong? Is something the matter? He said mockingly. The bells want it, don't they? Well, now you'll see, and with that he began to attack Kakashi, but not like before. He had a plan. The clones he had left watching the fight would gradually disappear, giving him a clear view of the field to see if Kakashi's defense had any cracks. Kakashi was getting bored with this and was very curious as to why the copies weren't attacking. Why aren't you attacking with the copies instead of dissolving them? You ask a lot of questions for someone who's the sensei, don't you, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto said mockingly, imitating him from before. Kakashi saw that this was leading nowhere and decided to teach him a lesson. So he disappeared from sight and appeared behind Naruto crouching down. And that's when Naruto made a copy disappear to see where there was a crack in Kakashi's defense. You must never lose sight of your enemy. Naruto was not paying much attention to what he was saying because he was already making his move. Kakashi was more focused on humiliating him than on watching the bells and noticing that Naruto was taking them away, 1,000 years of pain. With that, he threw Naruto into the air with his 2 bells, which he put in his pocket. When he landed, feeling a bit sore, he turned back to Kakashi. You know, Kakashi-sensei, what my copy did. When did it disappear? It went to tell Sasuke and Sakurachin that the test involves teamwork, Naruto said seriously. I see your academy record doesn't do you justice, said a surprised Kakashi, although he suspected that Naruto was just playing dumb at the academy. Wait, the best part is yet to come. Sakurachin didn't even listen to me. I was worried about being separated from her, Sasuke-kun, and Sasuke thinks he's too good to have to work as part of a team. What does God have against me to put me on this team? But it's okay, maybe next year I'll be on a better team. And she went to sit next to the Stone of the Fallen. Then he undid the copies and fell asleep. He has not only discovered the trick of the shadow clone but has blown all the tricks of this test. I think I underestimated him before. He may even be a genius, he thought as he went to fight the others and show them that they would never succeed alone without teamwork. Chapter 7. Teamwork. When Naruto's fight ended, Sasuke decided it was his turn. He leaped to attack Kakashi and threw a punch that Kakashi easily caught. Sasuke then threw a kick which Kakashi caught with his other hand. Sasuke then tried to grab a bell but realized there wasn't one. Kakashi, realizing his intentions, moved away before he could grab it. Nice try, but you'll have to do much better. I think I've already tried that. I'm going to think of a plan, said Sasuke, who was thinking of going to look for the bells since he thought he had dropped them and obviously didn't realize that Naruto had gotten them. Kakashi went with Sakura and it was much easier for him. A single genjutsu from Sasuke stabbed with kunai was enough as he fainted. With that, the alarm clock rang as Sasuke searched for the bells. Sakura and Naruto woke up and the three of them went to the logs. Kakashi tied Sakura and Sasuke up, who of course complained. Why did you tie us up and not him? Sasuke said angrily. Because he understood the test and he's the only one who passed, you two are going back to the academy. Kakashi said, angry at the Uchiha's attitude. But he hasn't been able to get a bell because you dropped them like that because… Wait, what did you say, Sasuke? Kakashi said, looking towards where the bells were and not finding them. But when did I ever drop them? But at that moment they heard the sound of bells and all looked towards Naruto, who was making faces with the bells dangling from his neck. That's not entirely true, Sasuke, I did get them. When did you get them? She asked in surprise since she didn't know when he took them off. Damn Dobi, how did you get it? He asked, his pride wounded. Naruto looked at him, while smiling. Your first mistake was assuming that my academic record was fine, and that my taijutsu sucks. Crow Niasen has taught me well, said Naruto with a sinister face. Wait, if it's a crow, then Naruto has been training with Itachi. I guess he has a lot of potential for Itachi, the genius of the Uchiha clan, to take him on as a student. How long have you been training with him? Kakashi asked, his face showing surprise. Since last year, and your second mistake was underestimating me and not fighting seriously. Never be overconfident no matter how small your opponent is. When you attacked me with that technique, I was too busy trying to get the bells to dodge it. And you were too busy trying to humiliate me to see that I took the bells from you. And the third and final mistake was believing that my copies weren't doing anything. Kakashi-sensei, I know I can't beat you right now. I still have a long way to go to reach your level, but with some ingenuity I can take the bells from you. The three were stunned. Naruto, but what did the clones do? They were just standing there. When I made the clone disappear, he saw an opening in his defense. That's when I saw an opportunity to steal the bells, he said, surprising everyone. You damn Dobi, I demand you teach me that technique. He said, going to attack, but before he could, Kakashi stopped him. Enough, Sasuke, he said in an authoritative voice. What's Naruto's true level? Because if he's trained with Itachi, he must be carrying weights or using gravity seals. I know you knew the bells weren't the objective of the test, so why did you grab them? Kakashi asked, completely baffled by Naruto's behavior. What do you mean catching the bells was pointless? Sasuke and Sakura shouted in unison. I grabbed them as punishment even though they're useless, it's what they wanted, so I took away the object of their desires, and also because I was bored and there was still a long time until noon, said Naruto, ignoring his teammates. Very well, Naruto, I see I was very wrong about you. Naruto was right. The real reason for this test was teamwork to achieve something for the good of the whole team, but one that harms you individually. You have to look beneath the surface to decipher it. A friend of mine told me that those who break the rules are trash, but those who abandon a friend are worse than trash. I'm going to tell the Hokage that you're the only one who's going to pass. I'll be back in half an hour. You can have lunch in the meantime, but don't give them anything or you'll fail too. Yeah, he can even see through this. I don't know what to think of him. And with that, he vanished in a puff of smoke. Naruto grabbed 2 kunai and threw them at the ropes to free his teammates. Why did you release us? Sakura asked sadly and ashamedly. Naruto shrugged. She told me not to give them food, not to untie them. Before either of them could speak, their stomachs growled and they both turned red with embarrassment. Naruto, who hadn't opened his food, threw it at them as they stared in surprise. Why are you risking going back to the academy for us? Sasuke asked, not understanding what Naruto was thinking. First, we're not going back to the academy because teams can't have just one genin, and if you guys go back to the academy, I'm going with you. The village wouldn't waste a jounin on just one person and even less on me. 2, I give them my food only because they are hungry and I have had breakfast. I ate an apple this morning. 3, this is another test from Kakashi-sensei about not abandoning our teammates. We have to look underneath to decipher it, right, Kakashi-sensei? His teammates no longer knew what to say, they were speechless. Kakashi jumped out of a tree, his eyes wide with astonishment. How did you know all that, and how did you know I hadn't left? Kakashi exclaimed, still in disbelief. Because let's just say I have the ability to sense people's chakra, said Naruto, who had recently discovered he was a sensor. Kakashi, on the other hand, was deep in thought. This kid is really skilled. He really is Minato-sensei's son. I can't believe it. I'm still a jonin and I feel perfectly fine. Alright, Naruto was right. This was another test and everyone passed. However, if they don't work as a team, I won't just send them back to the academy, but they won't be able to be ninja indefinitely. We'll meet at the bridge near the Hokage Tower to begin the missions. Okay, I'll be with Sasuke-kun, Sakura's inner voice shouted. Sakura was still deeply shaken by everything that had happened. Everyone left the training field in silence and went home, pondering what had transpired. The next day, It was a sunny day and Naruto woke up in a good mood, not knowing what the day held in store. When he reached the bridge, he saw that Sasuke and Sakura were already there. He didn't say anything and sat on the railing with his feet dangling over the side, facing away from them, and stared at the water. What kind of mission will they give us? He wondered. It's probably not anything special since it's our first one, but I hope it's exciting. They waited for about 45 minutes until Kakashi arrived. "You're late," Sakura and Naruto shouted. "I was attacked by a swarm of rabbits and had to fight them well. Today's mission is to capture an animal that the daimyo of the Land of Fire has kept chained up all day, but it managed to escape. It has claws and teeth as sharp as kunai and eyes that glow in the deepest darkness," Kakashi said in a terrified tone. "Tell us what animal it is, Kakashi-sensei." Naruto shouted excitedly. "It's a cat." "What?" Sasuke and Naruto shouted. After completing their mission without incident, thanks to Naruto putting him under a genjutsu, they headed to the Hokage Tower. There they found Uruka, Sarutobi, and an Anbu wearing a crow mask. Chapter 8, First Mission Outside the Village. When he offered them a mission to clear weeds or do the shopping for a restaurant, "No," Naruto said as he turned around. "What did you say?" said a surprised Sarutobi. "I'm not going to do another mission that the academy students could do. I'm going to train at home and not waste my time or yours, because we can do much harder missions than this, hee, Naruto said with his hands behind his head. "Naruto, show more respect to Hokage-sama." Sakura said. "All right, Naruto-kun, I know you're right, and I'm going to give you an escort mission," said the Hokage, cutting off Uruka, who was about to challenge Naruto. The Hokage told someone to come inside and explained that he was a famous bridge builder and that they wouldn't have to fight any ninjas since he had requested protection from bandits and looters. "These brats are going to protect me, especially the blonde one." Naruto looked at him indifferently. "Relax, I'm an elite jonin and they're just bandits." This made Tazuna very nervous, which Naruto and Kakashi noticed but didn't say anything. "Okay, let's meet at the gate in 2 hours, everyone said. Naruto said goodbye only to Hokage and Uruka and went home to get things ready. After a few hours. They had been walking for a few hours when Tazuna spoke. "Hey Blondie, you seem really happy. Is this your first time leaving the village?" Tazuna asked. "Yes, it would be nice to have some peace and quiet and get away from that village for a while," she said with a smile. "You shouldn't talk about Konoha like that, Naruto," Sakura said, hitting him on the head. "Perhaps I didn't explain myself well. I wasn't referring to Konoha itself, but to those who live in Konoha." "Enough talk, our mission is to protect Tazanasan, so no more distractions," Kakashi interrupted before Naruto could say anything else that would require many lies to get out of it. As they passed through a puddle, Kakashi simply glanced at it and continued walking. A short time later, 2 ninjas wearing gauntlets with clawed hands and attached chains attacked Kakashi and sliced him in 2. "One less," shouted one of the ninjas. Sakura was frozen. Naruto saw her. "Sakurachin, protect Tazuna," he shouted, but Sakura was frozen. Sasuke was fighting one of them. The other jumped toward Tazuna and Sakura. Seeing this, Sakura closed her eyes, waiting for the blow that never came. When she opened her eyes, she saw that Naruto had stopped the attack, but the claw had pierced her back. "Are you all right, Sakurachin?" "What are you saying? You're the one who's hurt," she said, very worried. Naruto managed to react, and simply by placing his hand on the ninja's body and whispering "Futon Futopa," he pushed him with terrible force, pinning him to a tree and leaving him badly injured. Kakashi appeared and looked worried. "Naruto, those claws were poisoned. We're going to have to go back to the ville." Although he couldn't stop thinking about the technique Naruto used to make the ninja fly. "I heard it was a wind technique. Damn, he's really advanced. Not just any genin can use an elemental technique." Naruto cut him off. "No way, now that we've got a normal mission, I'm not going back to the village after that devil cat." Everyone stared at him as he made a copy. The copy pulled out a kunai and began stabbing the wound as blood gushed out. Sakura turned white as a sheet when she saw what he was doing. "What are you doing, idiot? You're going to bleed to death," Sakura said, running to check her wound and being surprised to see it slowly closing. "Why don't you bandage my wound instead of yelling at me?" said Naruto. "Okay, take off your shirt so I can sell it to you." God, I thought he was going to say no, but I hope he doesn't see the stamp. Sakura took out the bandages and some water to clean the blood from his back. When she turned around to see Naruto shirtless, she was shocked. He had well-defined muscles, even a six-pack, but what surprised her most was the huge scar covering part of his back. She didn't know why Naruto had it, but she was surprised by his age. On his arm was a circle with a number in the center, 3 to be exact. "Wow, what a body," her inner voice exclaimed. Sakura, ignoring her approach, "Take the bandages while I clean your wound, although it's slowly closing." Naruto took the bandages while Sakura wet a handkerchief. As she wiped away the blood with the wet cloth, she noticed his muscles and blushed. "Wow, what muscles he has." Her inner voice exclaimed excitedly. "Shut up, I like him, Sasuke-kun." When she reached the wound to clean it, Naruto let out a small cry of pain as she touched the deepest part. "I'm sorry, this wound is my fault," Sakura said apologetically. "Don't worry, Sakurachin, this little wound won't kill me," he said, smiling even though she couldn't see it. When the wound was clean, Sakura ran her hand over the scar without realizing that she was caressing Naruto's back and muscles. "Since when did you have that horrible scar on your back, Naruto, and what's that on your arm?" Sakura asked, puzzled, although she had to admit it looked impressive on him. Naruto shrugged. "The scar is from when the villagers beat me up, but that doesn't matter," he said, leaving Sakura frozen. "And the one on my arm is a seal to improve my stamina, but we'd better finish this before nightfall." Then Sakura realized he'd been running his hand down her back for a while and blushed. She was grateful none of them were watching because Kakashi and Sasuke were listening to Tazuna, who was telling them he lied because the land of waves was poor and that Gojo was behind it to prevent him from building the bridge and maintain his monopoly there. Sakura was thankful no one was watching and began bandaging his stomach and back. When he finished, Naruto took out a scroll, and from it he took out a black t-shirt and an orange jacket, but this time he left it open to let the air in. Ooh, it's over already. Why didn't you tell him he had to inspect it further to see if there was anything strange about it, huh? Shut up, I already told you I like Sasuke-kun. Sakura shouted to her inner voice, which didn't respond. Thank you so much, Sakurachin, Naruto said happily. It's nothing, well, let's see what happens with the mission. They went along with the others and decided to continue with the mission thanks to Naruto, who refused to return. The story here follows the same format as the anime. I'm going to skip to the fight on the bridge. Haku's fight against Naruto and Sasuke. He gritted his teeth hard, unable to believe how things had ended. He hadn't wanted this to happen. He had trained for a long time with many people, but even so, it was all for nothing. His teammate was injured or worse, killed. No, he didn't want this. He knew Sakura would be angry about it, everyone would be, everyone would hate him for being the indirect cause of Sasuke Uchiha's death. She squeezed her eyelids shut, unable to accept that her cold companion had sacrificed himself to save her life. Sasuke had always been cold and antisocial, and among other things, Naruto had never liked him, but she never expected him to sacrifice his life for hers, for the life of someone pathetic. Naruto felt like seconds were hours, he felt like time itself was moving much slower. He opened his eyes again to see Sasuke's pale face covered in cuts and gritted his teeth at the sight. It was too much for him. It seems this is the first time you've seen a comrade die. It's understandable. We're shinobi, our lives are governed by death. Naruto heard Haku's cold but true words. He didn't feel like yelling at her because she was right. A shinobi lives so long for death, but it's hard to accept and even worse when your partner sacrificed themselves for you. All he could do was hug Sasuke's cold body with the affection and respect he could give to a comrade. But it's time you followed your friend. Something broke in Naruto's mind. Hearing that he had lost not only a comrade in arms but a friend was a profound shock. A growing anger began to invade him, which at the same time clouded his mind with a thirst for death. When he looked up, his eyes were filled with pure hatred. "I'm going to kill you," I yelled, scaring the ice ninja. Her scream, along with a burst of red chakra that took the form of a demonic fox in her blood-red eyes, would have initiated the following. Naruto savagely attacking each mirror of Haku's jutsu, using pure brute force plus an increasing and enhanced speed. After catching her, he would land a blow that would send her flying several meters. After learning the identity of the Kiri Kunoichi, she would disappear to shield Zabuza from Kakashi's Reikiri, then be attacked by Gojo along with a group of bandits. But they are ultimately defeated by Zabuza and die during the course of the battle. But that never happened. Chapter 9: Indescribable Fury. In Konoha Hokage's office, Sarutobi calmly read some reports and other missions that had been sent requesting some famous groups or ninjas in the village. He continued doing all that paperwork until he came across a notification that he had not read carefully. Upon reading it, I just raised an eyebrow in disbelief. Apparently the Raikage wants a new alliance to be formed. Pretending not to care about the Hyuga matter, of course, only this time, for the formation of the alliance, a marriage of young ninjas is required. Sarutobi initially appeared incredulous, but eventually sighed wearily upon understanding the reason for the request, given that they were only asking for specific clans. The Raikage requested that, for the formation of the alliance, the representative of the Leaf Village must be someone from a clan with a Jujutsu, as many might think, the Uchiha or Hyuga clans. The Raikage subtly still desires the power of a Daijutsu to increase the prestige of his village. Therefore, they need a member of one of those clans to ensure the continuation of that clan and obviously to make the alliance of the two villages official. Sarutobi sighed again. He knew well that this was not a kind of trap, but simply a very subtle but functional political move. He could already see in the future how his counselors would accept this, but he was sure that the Hyuga would refuse since they were resentful towards the ninjas of Kumo. The council will see this as a good move since Danzu told them a long time ago about the resurgence of the Uchiha clan, but making sure they are loyal to Konoha, And that starts with Sasuke. There was a small dispute, although it didn't end in a civil war. The Uchiha clan was greatly reduced, and Sasuke, being the son of the clan leader, is the most important. They planned a little after the small war in which many Uchiha died that, for the resurrection of the clan, they had to eliminate the law prohibiting free marriages, where a person can marry several people at the same time, thus ensuring a large number of descendants of said clan. Although this was planned less than 3 years ago, Sasuke will have to accept several suitors at 16, and both his suitors and descendants would have the protection of the village. Itachi was offered the same, but he flatly refused, and as a legal adult for ninjas, the council could do nothing against him. Although the Raikage request asks for a clan with a Daojutsu, there are only one other clan, but they are minor and not well known. In short, the Uchiha clan is specified, although there is another clan that rivals the Uchiha clan, the Uzumaki clan, although many do not know that they possess the legendary Daojutsu. Moving his eyes from side to side and sensing the presence less than a few meters from outside his office, he noticed that only his 2 Anbu bodyguards were at the office door, so knowing that he was not being watched, he took off his Hokage hat to see a unique seal. With a kai, the seal was released, revealing another one a little more difficult and with many writings. Putting my finger on it, I expelled a little chakra. When I removed my finger, I noticed that the seal was modified to open a hole in the center where in the end there was nothing. No, it can't be, he whispered in shock. It had happened. He'd expected it to happen when Naruto was on his first A-rank mission, but he was on a crank mission. How could Naruto have seen death on a mission like this? Anbu. Yes, Hokage-sama. I want you to go immediately to the Hyuga and Uchiha mansions and inform only Hiashi Hyuga and Fugaki Uchiha that has happened only that and that he send an Anbu to the land of the waves where Kakashi Hadake is located. Anything else? This mission should be classified as S-rank. In short, nobody should know, not even the advisors. After informing Hiashi of this, send the Anbu as quickly as possible. Yes, Hokage-sama. Just as suddenly as he appeared, he vanished in the blink of an eye. Sarutobi slumped wearily into his seat. The time had come. He needed to summon Jiraiya immediately to train Naruto. Naruto, are you really the child of prophecy? He didn't pay attention to his student the first time he mentioned Minato, but seeing who he had become and how his descendant had the very will of fire in his blood, made him think that perhaps he was the savior of the world. He glanced at the notification and just sighed heavily. Now the most important clan in Konoha would be the Uzumaki clan, and he could already imagine all the paperwork that would be created because of it, both for the future marriage proposals and the resurgence of the Rinnegan that the council would request, as well as the problem that the Raikage would demand to put Naruto in an arranged marriage. Yes, things were going to get complicated. I hope everything turns out better. In Nami's no Kunis. Naruto raised his face, showing a rictus of pain and fury. His red eyes shone menacingly and deeply, looking in the direction of Haku, who felt small before that gaze. The air was suddenly separated by the demonic chakra of the Kyuubi, flooding it at the same time with a large amount of murderous instinct. Zabuza and Kakashi sensed that murderous instinct, causing them to pause slightly in their fight. Zabuza tried to remember where he had sensed that feeling of death, and Kakashi immediately recognized the Kyuubi's chakra and intended to rush in to stop the whole mess. But just as suddenly as it appeared, it disappeared. Haku, Zabuza, and Kakashi were incredulous as they perceived that the air returned to normal so quickly that it seemed almost impossible. But they could not say anything more as they felt a pulse of chakra explode from the center of Haku's mirror zone, deflecting all the mist. Naruto was looking upwards, seemingly lost in thought, or so it appeared to those who saw him as he was still. His eyes were their normal sky blue color, but they were empty, as if he were not mentally present in that place. Before doing anything, they watched in shock as Naruto let out a heart-wrenching scream while quickly bringing his hands to his eyes as he doubled over. Sakura noticed this and felt fear that something was happening to her blonde companion, but she was shocked to see Sasuke's body. Before she could recklessly rush to the scene, she stopped short when another wave of chakra was expelled by Naruto, who continued to scream loudly. Naruto! Kakashi shouted, throwing himself to help his student and the son of his sensei. This attitude was already worrying him since Naruto was expelling chakra strongly and erratically, but this time it had nothing to do with the Kyuubi. However, he was stopped by a thrust from Zabuza that he was able to dodge. Kakashi, you should let the boys fight, although this is strange. Concealment jutsu. Before he could finish saying his jutsu, a huge explosion was felt, raising a large curtain of smoke, but before he could say anything, Zabuza caught an unconscious Haku in his arms and looking up was shocked, as were those present. Before them walked Naruto with a serious expression, ignoring the tears of blood that ran in his eyes, but it was his eyes that took the shinobi's breath away. They were no longer those sky blue eyes, no, now they were purple in the form of rings that were counted in total of 3 and a small black dot in the center. Naruto saw everything differently. The colors were more vivid. He could perceive everything in such a wide way. He didn't know what the hell was happening, but he could see even where his master and Zabuza were, even though they were more than 10 meters away from him. He brought his hands to his face, wiping away the tears that had come out, noticing with shock that it was blood. Using the sleeve of his jacket, he wiped away all traces of blood, blinking again and seeing in such a different way. He realized that something was different. He moved his purple eyes between his teacher, his partner and platonic love to the Jounin of the Mist, seeing that they looked at him impressed and fearful in the case of Tazuna and Sakura. Confused, he took out a kunai to see the reflection of his face. Ahhhhhhh. What the hell is this? He didn't know what had happened to him. His eyes were different. That was bullshit. His eyes were in the worst state, but he could see differently but not badly. He didn't understand what was happening. He even remembered being angry about Sasuke's death. And the anger, along with the bloodlust, caused something to snap in his mind, releasing a large amount of chakra, a red color that had traces of bloodlust. Conclusion: the Kyuubi. But even though it only lasted a few seconds in that wild state, he knew it was that damned fox that had ruined his whole life. He had learned about the Kyuubi a long time ago thanks to the third Hokage, who had found out some things to understand that the Kyuubi was a chakra being. He could tell that the chakra that wasn't his was the Kyuubi's, but those things, where did they come from? In a way, they resembled the Sharigan, but they were completely different. He looked up to see the Sharigan in his sensei's left eye, who was staring at him intensely. He was confused. He didn't know what to think or do until he remembered how it all started. He would do what he always did when he didn't understand something, ignore it and concentrate on what was most important. He headed towards Sasuke, who was still lying on the ground, pulling those present out of their thoughts. Sasuke, his friend was still pale, gritting his teeth in rage and helplessness, not noticing how the rings of his still unknown Daojutsu spun. A faint spark of life ignited in Sasuke's body, who moved slightly, attracting Naruto's attention. Sasuke, Sakura, Sasuke is still alive. Sasuke-kun. Naruto quickly moved away from his other companions, feeling uncomfortable with people around him. The confusion still persisted. He was still in shock, but he noticed the sound of something hitting the ground. He turned his purple eyes towards where he could see Zabuza. With one arm, his sword Kubikiri Boucho clashed against a kunai that Kakashi was holding tightly. Naruto concentrated on that and launched himself to perhaps support his master, but Kakashi placed his hand, stopping his steps. Naruto, will talk later, now I need you to cover for the bridge builder. But Kakashi-sensei, that's an order, Naruto, I don't know what's happened to you, we mustn't take any risks. Take risks, you say, Kakashi? Don't play dumb, I know you know what those eyes are too. Zabuza interjected in a serious voice, jumping away from Kakashi and Naruto and placing Haku on the ground. Naruto, shocked, saw that it was the girl he had met a few days ago. I don't know what you're talking about, Zabuza. Don't play dumb, Kakashi. I researched Daojutsu to face you. Obviously, everyone knows about Daojutsus. What? Interesting, Kakashi. You couldn't teach your student what Daojutsus are. If I did, I just. With the Sharingan, what a bad teacher you are. A true master instructs his students in the shinobi arts as quickly as possible. Zabuza knew this well. When he murdered that entire class of students in his exoneration when he was just a child, he was instructed in all the shinobi arts quickly, making him someone recognized throughout the elemental continent today. Don't interfere, Zabuza, or I'll silence you by killing you immediately. You're nervous, I know, I am too, Kakashi. We are witnessing the resurrection of the impossible, that which gave rise to the world as we know it. Enough, Zabuza, this is none of your business. Yes, he is. He has been the spectator of the rebirth of the most powerful Daojutsu. It's time to end this, Zabuza. Stop, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto shouted at the top of his lungs, stopping his master who was about to create another Raikiri. The aforementioned glanced at his pupil who was looking at him with utmost seriousness. He turned his gaze, concentrating on Zabuza. Speak. What is this thing I have in my eyes? Child, what you have there is the most precious treasure for more than 1,000 years. You have the most powerful weapon of all. Speak up. Naruto isn't. Not now, Kakashi-sensei. I want to know. Naruto the Jounin had never seen his pupil so angry. It was understandable, being so confused and not being told about it made him angry. Perhaps the same thing happened with the Kyuubi. Chapter 10, These Damned Eyes. Therefore Kakashi remained silent and gave Zabuza a silent look, indicating that he too would speak. All right, Naruto Dojutsu, as I mentioned before, are ocular techniques that can only be obtained through Kekegeka. It's like the Sharingan, kid, only different in the world there are a great number of Dojutsu with genuine abilities. But only 2 are recognized as the most powerful. The Sharingan and the Byakugan. Well, 3, from what I can see, brat. So what I have is the Sharingan. No, Naruto, what you have is the most powerful one, the Rinnegan, Kakashi stated seriously, surprising Naruto. But before he could say anything, they saw a mob of bandits appear on the other side of the bridge, interrupting their conversation. Well, the ninjas I've hired are hanging out with scum, Zabuza, you've disappointed me. It seems I'll have to kill you along with that bitch who always accompanies you. Gojo emerged from the crowd with a confident smile, thanks to the number of ninjas accompanying him. Kakashi looked seriously at Zabuza, who smiled maliciously looking in the direction of the Gojo mobster. Naruto just looked furiously at Gojo since he sent some bandits to harm Tsunami and her son Inari. Zabuza spoke with an air of amusement. Well, Kakashi, it seems we are no longer enemies. It seems so. Maybe the fighting spirit has been lost, hasn't it? Yes, it was because of this kid anyway. I have nothing to do. Shall we take care of them? The rogue ninja from Kiri casually pointed to the group that was not intimidated by the two deluded jounin. Yes, I need to release tension. Naruto is taking care of the builder. Zabuza won't attack him anymore, but these bandits will, the white-haired man ordered, placing his headband over his left eye. Zabuza glanced at Haku to check that he was all right, and with a nod from the two jounin, they launched themselves towards the group, who responded in kind. In Konoha. It's been activated. This is worrying, Hayashi said seriously, sitting across from the Hokage who was smoking his pipe to calm his nerves. And on his first mission outside the village, I don't know what happened. I don't understand, said Fugaku, who was also worried. Perhaps something traumatic happened. As Fugaku said, when he had a strong shock, the genjutsu would dissipate immediately and the Rinnegan would be revealed. I know that very well, Hayashi. It's the same issue. The only way he could have suffered a severe mental shock would be the death of a comrade or his first murder. Yes, Naruto already knows about the Kyuubi, and his father's family knows it too. I told him so. Yes, I heard that rumor, but I didn't believe it was possible because Uzumaki seemed emotionally stable, and since he hadn't shown the Rinnegan, it was obvious to me that the rumor was false. And thankfully he found out about his father. Minato and Kushina must be happy that he found out. Your assumptions would have been correct, Fugaku, but they weren't. Naruto knew about the Kyuubi, but thanks to Uruka, he was able to cope with the news and digest it properly. Luckily, that wasn't the second time it activated. Perhaps the genjutsu has been diminishing since the first time it happened, Fugaku said. Well, let's leave the matter of how it was activated behind us. If Naruto is injured, I've already sent an ANBU to help him. I'm glad to hear it. I haven't forgotten the promise Hokage-sama made to me. I've done my part by checking for any alterations in Uzumaki's chakra points or system over the years and have kept the news a secret. Yes, I know, Hayashi, but I thought you. What would portray me? Yes, I know the boy isn't exactly a model of good manners, but his attitude is understandable. When you've lived in solitude, I couldn't offer him much help, or the clan would be harmed in some way by the villagers. But he possesses the Rinnegan, he has a great path ahead of him, and if the boy continues with that willpower to become Hokage, he will be the youngest Kage of all, and I wish that the Hyuga clan will be related to the next Hokage. Things never change, just like Fugaku, always thinking about the future. Since I've already done my part by putting Sasuke on Naruto's team, it's time for you to do yours. Yes, exactly, Hokage-sama, Fugaku confirmed. That's right, Hokage-sama. I've already informed my daughter Hinata that we'll have a conversation tonight. I want to prepare her and be ready before the council attacks. That's what I wanted to talk to you about, Hayashi. It's about marriage. What's wrong, Hokage-sama? In response, he received a notification which he began to read slowly. When he finished, he just frowned and sighed wearily. You wouldn't show me this knowing I wouldn't like it. I know the Hyuga clan is hostile to everything related to Kumo, but knowing Danzu, I know he will force the council to accept this alliance, mainly using Sasuke as a means for the alliance of the two villages. Hokage-sama, I knew this was going to happen at any moment, Fugaku said. But when Naruto returns, that will be impossible, since the Rinnegan will elevate the Uzumaki clan to the highest level. And I know that everyone on the council, in fact, I'd bet that some clan representatives wanted Naruto to have offspring with the Rinnegan. In short, they'll pass a free marriage law, I see, and they'll use this treaty to kill two birds with one stone, said the Uchiha leader. I will fulfill my part of the deal. Besides, I know that your daughter loves and respects Naruto very much. If I know, I suppose she'll faint when she finds out, Hayashi clarified. But it's inevitable. Naruto will have to have several girlfriends. The two men blushed slightly. Obviously, no one without emotions would be startled by that kind of information, but in the end they sighed until the patriarch of the Hyuga clan spoke again. Hokage-sama, who will be in charge of Uzumaki's training. I think with Jiraiya he has experience in that. Do I think it would be better if someone trained in how to control their Jujutsu? Or not, Fugaku said. That may be, but Jiraiya actually once had a disciple with the Rinnegan, said the Hokage, surprising the two leaders. See, if you'll excuse me, Hokage-sama, I must speak with my daughter, with your permission, with a nod from Sarutoba. I also have to go and sort some things out with the clan. Hayashi and Fugaku got up to leave the Hokage's office, leaving the third Hokage mentally exhausted. Noticing that no one was watching him, he took an orange book from a cabinet, but before reading it, he just hoped that Naruto was alright. Back in Nami. Having been decapitated, Gojo's body fell into the sea, leaving a trail of blood near the shore. Zabuza sighed wearily as he sheathed his sword on his back and made his way to where Kakashi stood atop a pile of corpses. Zabuza ignored him. He didn't want to fight at that moment, and besides, he didn't want to end their alliance. He headed towards the still unconscious Haku. Kakashi understood the same. He would see what to do later if he didn't concentrate on his student. Naruto sat on the ground looking through the reflection of his kunai into his enigmatic eyes. He didn't know what to do with it. His master in Zabuza said he was a do-whatever and the best. Her eyes burned with helplessness at not understanding anything that was happening. With her hands, she dried the small tears that had escaped. She felt terrible. It was yet another thing happening in her life that she didn't understand why these things were happening to her. First, his life was a misery. Everyone hated him to death because of that damned fox, and now this. He has the strangest eyes and he didn't know what to do. No, I won't let this break me. I'll continue with my dream of becoming Hokage. Naruto suddenly shouted, drawing the attention of those present, as he had been standing apart from everyone, huddled under cover, and was now yelling furiously at who knows what shadow clone jutsu. Appearing with 6 clones, Naruto intended to show that with strange eyes he was still the same as always, but a sudden dizziness made him fall to his knees, putting his hands to his head and groaning in pain. Kakashi became alarmed and approached his student. But Kakashi noticed how the clones were looking around with their eyes wide open, as if they were contemplating the landscape in such a profound way that it seemed strange to him. The clones looked at their hands and among themselves until finally they saw Naruto, who kept his eyes closed until all the clones saw him. He suddenly opened his eyes. What the hell, damn it, I see everything, I see everything. Kakashi approached his student, who fell to the ground from the strong shock, as did the clones. The situation was too much for him. His master took his student with great concern. Naruto, Kakashi shouted before Naruto collapsed. Chapter 11, A Proposal. Days later, Zabuza along with Haku stared intently at Kakashi. About 2 days had passed since the battle on the bridge, and surprisingly, Kakashi let Zabuza live. He and the Isealment Konoichi remained hidden but close to the cabin where Team 7 and their sensei were staying. Sasuke had awakened that same day and his wounds were successfully treated. On the other hand, Naruto was still unconscious. Apparently the appearance of his daijutsu was a hard blow. Kakashi had appeared where the 2 former ninjas were hiding, who reacted instinctively to a possible threat. Haku remained on high alert in case any Anbu ninja from Konoha or Kiri appeared. Zabuza decided to speak. What do you want, Kakashi? Our confrontation was only because I was hired, it wasn't personal. What? I know, but I have a problems. I'm sorry, Kakashi, but I won't let myself be captured so easily. No, what I want is for you to join Konoha. Zabuza and Haku exchanged a glance, then looked at the copy ninja with distrust, a sign that his proportions seemed insane to them. I know it will seem crazy to you, but it's for the best. Explain yourself, copy ninja, Haku whispered in a deadly voice. She would always protect Zabuza from any danger, so she stood in front of him with senbon in hand. Zabuza, you saw it yourself, it's the Rinnegan that Naruto possesses, do you understand me? That caught the attention of the rogue ninja, who lowered his sword, which he held in an attack position, showing that he was interested in what the copy ninja was talking about. Speaks. He possesses the Rinnegan, which, according to myths, was the initial daijutsu and belonged to Rikudo Sennin, the creator of ninjutsu. Rikudo Sennin. Haku inquired, puzzled, looking at Zabuza, who was completely confused since she hadn't been present when Naruto showed his new transformation. Zabuza just growled, telling her to keep quiet, an order that Haku obeyed. Whatever, Kakashi, that's a myth. It was more like Zabuza. Naruto's eyes are proof that this myth exists. And if that's true, Naruto will obtain power superior to the Kyuubi. The Kyuubi? It can't be, then it is him. Zabuza was surprised. Everyone knew that the 4th Hokage had defeated the most powerful Biju, the Kyuubi, by sacrificing his life, an impressive feat, but many know that this is impossible and the only way to defeat a tailed beast is by sealing it in a human. Yes, but this has nothing to do with it. I'm just as surprised as you are. I suppose sending a child with those eyes, and especially with that power, on a mission like that can't be possible. Maybe the power of the beast, but those eyes are unheard of. That's right, this is so unexpected that precautions need to be taken. Keeping the information secret, I see. With those eyes, all nations will want it one way or another, but if they don't have the information, there won't be any danger, right? That's right, that's when I ask you to join Konoha. Being from Kiri, I could divulge the information or track the boy down for Kiri and have my sins atoned for, although that's impossible. That's why you're asking me to join your village, a peaceful way to avoid problems. Well, It would prevent the information from being leaked, and besides, it would give Konoha a great ally. It's your only option. You said it yourself, you could divulge this information or kidnap Naruto. Therefore, you have two options, accept or die. Kakashi was serious, and to ensure his threat was real, he showed the Reikiri. Zabuza laughed at Kakashi's threatening manner while Haku remained tense, anticipating a possible confrontation. Hahaha, I like you, Kakashi, you know how to play your cards right. It's true, the only way for the information to get out is by keeping me locked up in their village or killing me. What do you decide? Simple, we'll join Konoha, Zabuza declared in a determined voice, leaving Haku impressed. She turned to look at her master, completely incredulous. Kakashi didn't appear surprised, but in reality he was. A part of his mind told him it was impossible for her to accept. What surprised? To be honest, I thought you wouldn't accept. I'm doing this because I want to see what that boy will do. He possesses the most powerful eyes in the world, as well as the strongest Biju, and I want to be there to see what he'll do with them, destroy his village, or to become Hokage. Wow, that brat has high expectations. Yes, it's a good decision to watch the brat's path. It seems we have visitors, he said, looking to his side. Kakashi sighed wearily and disinterestedly took out his Ika book. Finally, that spectator fell from some trees. It was an Anbu from Konoha. He had purple hair and a cat mask. Haku again got into a guard position while looking sideways in case Kakashi attacked from behind. But seeing his relaxed muscles and reading that book, he believed that he would not make any movement. Haddock, you and your team are required to return to the village immediately, declared the Anbu, who turned out to be Yugo, drawing her short katana and positioning herself in attack mode to eliminate Zabuza as she recognized him as one of the Kiri deserters. Yugo, calm down already, I'm sure you heard what I said, right? I always forget you were an Anbu captain. How much did you know I've been here? From the beginning, I don't like to repeat things. Yugo, Zabuza, Momoshiki, and young Haku will come with us. I'll speak with the Hokage to introduce him to the shinobi force. But Kakashi-san, Zabuza Momoshiki is a rogue ninja, and if the girl follows him, it's because she must be the same. The young lady has nothing to do with that, but you heard me. The introduction to Zabuza's ranks is to maintain the information, didn't you hear? Understood, I just need to verify what the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi possesses. The Anbu disappeared in the blink of an eye. Kakashi sighed again, as he didn't like her speaking in such a harsh tone, one of the reasons he stopped being an Anbu. What now, Kakashi? Wait for Naruto to wake up and leave immediately for the village. With that, the three disappeared using a Shushin no Jutsu to think about what they would do in the future. One day later. Purple-ringed eyes slowly opened until they were fully open. He moved his eyes from side to side as he noticed that he saw differently. He continued to see more clearly. He quickly got up to go to the nearest mirror in the bathroom. Upon arriving, she pushed open the bathroom door forcefully and saw herself in the mirror. She immediately noticed that they were still there, those eyes, the purple eyes of who knows what, growling once more. She slammed the bathroom door shut and let out a few bitter tears. In the room was Kakashi, accompanied by a curious Sasuke and Sakura who were watching an Anbu with them. They heard the bathroom door slam, and Sakura intended to go upstairs and yell at Naruto for being rude, but a stern look from Kakashi made her stop, remembering what happened 3 days ago. On the other hand, Sasuke felt confused and happy. Happy because he had managed to unlock the Sharigan. It was one more step towards defeating Itachi, but he was confused because everyone was behaving strangely regarding Naruto. When he asked what happened in the fight, Sakura assured him that Naruto had emerged victorious but didn't say how, and his teacher became serious about it. Besides the presence of that Anbu, those ninja gave him a bad feeling because of his brother, but he was intrigued by the fact that there was one on his mission. He could only attribute it to the fact that they realized the mission was a rank instead of Yugo waited patiently for the Jinchuriki to arrive. She was confused, though it wasn't noticeable because of her mask, but even without it she couldn't be seen. Kakashi proposing that a rogue ninja join Konoha, protecting information. Rikudo Sennin, the Rinnegan, she just hoped all her doubts would be resolved when the Uzumaki came down to see what was happening. After about 2 hours, Naruto's slow footsteps could be heard. Kakashi glanced at Tazuna, who asked his family to leave the ninjas alone. Sasuke noticed this and his anxiety to know what was happening gnawed at him, while Sakura only concentrated on how Sasuke would react to seeing those strange eyes. Kakashi thought the same about Yugo, although in a different way. Kakashi-sensei. The blonde boy's weak voice suggested he had been crying. Kakashi put his hand to his forehead. He had forgotten that this could be traumatic for his student. He knew that he already knew the truth about the Kyuubi and could be susceptible to changes and events that one cannot easily understand. Here we are, Naruto. Step after step, everyone felt the anxiety in the air. When Naruto finally descended, everyone was able to contemplate the Rinnegan with surprise since it had only been seen slightly, not completely. Yugo could not help but let out a groan of surprise upon seeing the third and most powerful Daojutsu of all, which far surpassed the Sharingan and the Byakugan. "Do I have something on my face, Dadabeo?" he asked innocently. He was uncomfortable with those looks. It was already bad enough that everyone looked at him with hatred and death without them also looking at him as if he were a freak. The first to recover was Kakashi. "Naruto, good mornings." Good morning, sensei." "How do you feel?" "I dizzy confused different sensei." "Different?" "Yes, Kakashi-sensei, I see everything very differently. My chakra feels different when I created the clones. It felt different also, the clones." "What is it, Naruto?" "It's just that I saw what the clones were seeing. It was strange. Sensei, I could see everywhere. Wherever the clones were looking, I could see it." "I see. Well, stay calm, Naruto. You can learn about it later, but keep calm," Kakashi said in a sympathetic voice. He detected that his student felt anxious. He remembered feeling that way a little after he obtained the Sharingan since obviously no one instructed him how to use it. Naruto smiled nervously and noticed that his companions were looking at him very strangely. Trying to clear the heavy atmosphere, he smiled at Sakura, but she looked away and pretended to talk to Sasuke, who was looking away with an extremely cold and hard expression. Naruto just lowered his gaze slightly. He felt rejected by his classmates because of his eyes, those eyes that made him feel uncomfortable, nervous, so many things. He clenched his fists and headed to the kitchen to have breakfast under Yugao's analytical gaze. "I highly doubt Hokage-sama sent me on this mission by mere coincidence. This will bring many problems. I hope this child makes a great decision for better or for worse." Chapter 12, I Am a Monster. Naruto walked with his head down, not wanting to lift his gaze from the ground. Time had passed and they were getting closer and closer to the village, and he could feel a bad feeling, which he could confirm with the Anbu that accompanied him. For days his teammates hadn't paid him much attention. They always looked at him strangely and avoided talking to him, the only difference being that Sasuke would give him the occasional cold look for no apparent reason. He could only think that it was his eyes' fault, since the close relationship of companionship he had with Sakura and Sasuke had suddenly vanished, and he thought they had made a small advance, but it seems he was wrong. He slightly shifted the bandages that covered almost his entire face, which Kakashi said would prevent his eyes from being easily discovered. He remembered that his master had told him a little more about the Rinnegan, his Jujutsu. Kakashi had told him about the origin and legend of the eyes of the ancient creator of ninjutsu, the one who, according to myth, defeated the powerful Mao Jubai and achieved world peace. The story helped Naruto somewhat to learn about his Daojutsu, but it made him feel a great deal of anxiety about possessing something that no one had ever had for more than 2,000 years, which would add much more loneliness to what he already had. It was obvious that many would distance themselves from him because he possessed the strongest Daojutsu, and adding to that the fact that he had the Kyuubi, his hopes of being accepted were decreasing more and more, and nobody made him feel much better. His master only dedicated himself to watching the path while he was ignored by his companions, and the Anbu kept an eye on him on some occasions but simply ignored him. Naruto sighed once more and raised his right hand where he had stabbed himself to make a promise, to never back down, and it was thanks to that he has not yet committed suicide. No one understood that having something that others do not have increased his loneliness, and he did not believe that he could endure it for much longer. Among the trees was Zabuza along with Haku watching the group of leaf ninjas. They clearly agreed that it was better to take different paths so that the genin would not be startled and then meet again in Konoha. On the other hand, Haku noticed something extremely important, so much so that she jumped towards the genin who, upon seeing her, went on guard while Yugo and Kakashi looked at her waiting to find out why her presence. But they were short of guessing when the young woman of the ice element approached directly to Naruto to give him a light hug before the surprised gaze of the younger ones. Haku had noticed long ago that Naruto was in a state of emotional turmoil, and he confirmed this by observing the blonde boy's tense muscles and the way he kept his gaze fixed on the ground. At first, he didn't think much of it since Naruto must still be in shock from possessing a Kekkei Gekkai, but this lasted for more than a few hours, and he knew precisely when the blonde boy was about to collapse. Zabuza huffed in frustration as he emerged from the bushes. He had taught Haku not to let her emotions get the better of her, but she had to remember that even though they were shinobi and weapons, they could have emotions, and his pupil proved it by doing something that many before her would never have been able to do: show any emotional reaction in public. Naruto, noticing the gentle hug he gave the ice Kunoichi, made his eyes water, and maintaining what little pride he had, he held back his tears but was grateful to at least have someone who cared about him. After that, the group continued on their way now, including the fugitives from Kiri. Sakura asked about the presence of the two rogue ninjas, but Kakashi made it clear that they were now allies. Sakura did not object again since she trusted her master and Sasuke could face them once more. On the other hand, the Uchiha couldn't get the sight of his companion with those eyes out of his head, those ringed purple eyes. He knew they were a doujutsu since he obviously possessed one himself. Naruto's doujutsu was extremely different from the Sharigan and the Byakugan, but according to what he overheard from his master, the Rinnegan, as that strange doujutsu was called, was simply superior to the other existing doujutsu, causing a feeling of fury and jealousy to grow within him. I glanced sideways at Naruto, who was standing a little behind with Haku's arm around his shoulders. I noticed they were talking in hushed tones and that Naruto's eyes were glassy, a clear sign that he'd been crying silently. This reignited Sasuke's fury. His stupid teammate should be proud of possessing a doujutsu never before seen, or at least of maintaining his sanity, not turning into a coward. It was a blow to his pride to see someone so weak, with though it stung his ego to think it the strongest doujutsu, even stronger than the Sharingan. Naruto was feeling slightly better thanks to Haku's caresses and profound words. He managed to calm down and release some of his anxiety. She told him how she felt when she began to control her Kekkei Gekkai, and she understood, since not having anyone to tell her how to use it was a difficult experience. But Haku spoke to her with great affection without knowing why, explaining that it was thanks to the support of her master Zabuza, who encouraged her to become the best weapon of all, that she was able to master her element and thus advance on her own. Naruto didn't like hearing that Haku considered herself a weapon, but he felt better upon hearing that with Zabuza's support she had been able to progress and leave behind the anxiety of her unknown abilities. Kakashi glanced at it all briefly and simply smiled beneath his mask, seeing that at least his student was emotionally better, as his master once said, "To heal our sorrows, the company of a good woman is best." Although his master told him that the Sannin Jirgia had said that, which is why the double meaning of the sentence was understood. Zabuza glanced around from time to time. He was already approaching Konoha, and he knew well the chaos that would ensue with his presence, and not only that, but from the eyes of the little genin, and he knew that the most coveted thing in the ninja world is power, and the Rinnegan is the ultimate power. So says the legend of Rikudo Sennin, but if we add the Kyuubi no Yauko to the sum, we would literally have a god, and Zabuza had to be with that boy during his journey. Zabuza has always followed the strongest, or to put it another way, it's a survival instinct to follow the strongest, and that's what he was going to do. Zabuza glanced to his side, watching the blonde Jinchuriki calmly speak to his personal weapon. The ninja from Kiri sighed inwardly, thinking about the possibilities of future wars that would be fought over the name of Naruto Uzumaki, but he preferred to be with Konoha rather than Kiri. There they could kill Haku for his Kekkei Gekkai. Although if he remembered correctly, he had heard that the dark reign of Yagura, the fourth Mizukage, had ended a long time ago. Little by little they saw the gates of the village, and Kakashi tensed up. He felt that something bad was going to happen, not so bad, but it would be uncomfortable, stressful, and tiring. Sometimes he cursed that sixth sense that told him that something very bad was happening. Naruto, the copy ninja called softly. The group stopped, waiting for the Jounin's words, but he only sighed and gestured toward a bush. A dog emerged with a ninja headband on its forehead and something in its teeth. Yugo recognized it. It was Kakashi's spy dog, Pakun. "Here's Kakashi," the dog said in a raspy voice, eliciting a gasp from the younger ones at the sight of a talking animal. Kakashi crouched down and saw what looked like orange visor lenses between its teeth. "Thank you, Pakun, Naruto here." After thanking him, Kakashi took the glasses and threw them to the blonde boy who, because of the bandages, couldn't receive them well but managed to catch them in his hands. When he saw them, he noticed that they looked like snow goggles and looked questioningly at his sensei. "What is this, Kakashi-sensei?" "These are glasses that will prevent everyone from seeing your Rinnegan. They belong to a friend." "Really? And who is it?" "Well, a friend who fell in battle, the one who gave me this," Obito Uchiha. When he said that, Kakashi casually pointed his thumb at his hidden eye, making Sakura and Naruto gasp. On the other hand, Sasuke didn't object at all. Instead, he was satisfied to know where his sensei had gotten his Sharingan from, and it had nothing to do with Itachi. But sensei, why are you giving it to me?" "There was no other way. They're the only glasses capable of partially concealing your eyes. Besides, I sent Pakun for something else. Tell me what happened." The white-haired man asked seriously. Naruto decided to follow his master's instructions and put on the glasses. Pakun watched as Naruto removed the bandages from his face, finally seeing the Rinnegan. "Interesting, I see it was true." "Listen, Kakashi, it seems the Hokage knows about Naruto's eyes." When he said that, Kakashi and Zabuza looked at each other, then at Yugo, implying that her presence confirmed it. On the other hand, "Wait a minute, how is it that the Hokage knows about this? I'm tired of all this mystery. Why does Naruto have such strange eyes? It doesn't make any sense. He looks even more like a monster than he already is." Sakura's hurtful words made Naruto tremble as he finally put on Obito's glasses. Haku glared at the pink-haired girl and was about to pull out some senbon needles, but Kakashi's voice stopped her. "That's enough, Sakura. This situation is none of your business. As your sensei ordered, keep your mouth shut. This isn't the time for nonsense," Kakashi reprimanded, slightly annoyed. His student might be confused, but those were hurtful words to Naruto. Sakura grumbled at them but said nothing more. On the other hand, Naruto gritted his teeth in a show of helplessness and anger but said nothing. He always kept his feelings to himself and didn't let them control him. Kakashi, what should we do now?" The dog asked disinterestedly, finally getting the required attention. The copy ninja thought for a few moments about what he should do. He supposed they should go directly to the Hokage, but he needed to know a few things. Does anyone else know? Unfortunately, the village council knows this too. This set off alarm bells for Kakashi and Yugo, and they exchanged glances, nodding in agreement. The situation was worse than it seemed. It was common knowledge that the village council was headed by the Hokage, but the other members had a vote on important village decisions. Chapter 13, Support. But the situation didn't end there. Kakashi remembered the things the council had denied in the past, but the worst part was the apparent pleasure of making Naruto's life miserable, and he had plenty of evidence to prove it. Kakashi knew very well that Naruto was the son of his sensei, Minato Namikaze, and for that reason, for years since the Kyuubi attack, he had tried in every way to adopt Naruto. It was like his duty since he was the last of the Yondame's students, but the council refused, stating that he was too important a ninja for the village to waste his time raising a demon. Of course, whoever said that died beheaded by him. The same thing happened with Jiraiya. He too wanted to legally establish his role as Naruto's godfather, take him along to travel the world and make him his student, but the council refused, claiming they needed Jiraiya and his legendary spy network to search for potential enemies of the village. But that wasn't all. The council has denied Naruto many things, such as being adopted in his childhood, the Namikaze clan's refusal to grant him his master's mansion, and the transfer of assets between the Uzumaki and Namikaze clans. Worst of all, and something the council is still fighting for, is the ownership of the land of whirlpools, since Naruto, as the heir of the Uzumaki clan, was entitled to the entire destroyed village of Uzu. That and more was the injustice they had done to his student, especially that they denied him the opportunity to train him to the fullest, and instead forced him to train Sasuke because he possessed a fully developed Sharigan. Kakashi sighed and glanced once at Yugo, who wasn't making any physical gestures, but he could tell she was displeased beneath her mask. She was loyal to the third Hokage, which is why she harbored such resentment toward the council, just like Kakashi. The copy ninja hadn't expected things to turn out this way. He'd planned to speak to the Hokage about it, then devise a plan to tell the council and definitively prevent Naruto from falling into Danzo's clutches. I knew the War Hawk perfectly. He was someone who believed he could defend the village but also had greedy desires focused on one thing: war. Danzo had asserted in the past that to make Konoha the strongest and safest village, they had to conquer and annihilate other countries through war, as he always says, sacrifice for the greater good. But the third Hokage did not accept that ideology. Danzo was known for using ninjas with extraordinary abilities, training them, and then stripping them of their emotions, turning them into mere weapons. Danzo was always like that. On more than one occasion, a few years after the Kyuubi attack, Danzo suggested using his sensei's secret jutsu at the academy to strengthen the Konoha army and launch into war. The third Hokage and his associates, as well as other Jounin, were horrified to think of using the fourth Hokage's flying thunder god technique in that way. Luckily, that idea was replicated again. But the thought of Danzo wanting to get his hands on Naruto fills him with fear, not fear for himself but for the elemental continent. Rinnegan plus the Kyuubi would mean the devastation of everything, and everything under Danzo's command was simply something no one would want to live through in that hell, Kakashi thought seriously. What will we do, Kakashi? I suppose the Hokage will know what to do. It's best to go and talk to him. A few seconds had passed, but Kakashi had used all his concentration to weigh the consequences of this information, just like Yugo. They were and are Anbu for a reason. Pakun nodded, disappearing in a small puff of smoke, and the group continued on their way in silence. What's wrong, Kakashi? Is there a problem? Zabuza asked the copy ninja, who completely ignored him, leaving the ninja of the mist in a bad mood. Now more serious, he dared to ask, what will happen now, Headache? First, we need to speak with Hokage-sama about the most important matters, and then we'll see what happens with you too, Kakashi concluded in a nonchalant tone as he pulled out his usual orange book. Team 7 and their companions crossed the village gate. The guards recognized Kakashi and his genin team but were puzzled by the extra person, though they didn't object since he was accompanied by an ANBU. Continuing along the path, Naruto's vision looked a little strange through those orange glasses, and with the Rinnegan he could see all the colors of the place differently. He didn't want to admit it, but Sakura's words hurt him like nothing he'd ever heard. They were the same words the villagers had said to him when they attacked, beat, and hurt him during his childhood. Naruto had to use all the self-control he never thought he had to keep from shedding a tear. The memories were too horrifying to hear from his teammate and secret crush. That was so cruel. Why is she always so cruel to me? Naruto thought, clenching his hands. He always forgave Sakura, but this was unforgivable. But Naruto decided to let it go. He didn't forgive her, but he wouldn't hold a grudge either. If he did, the village would have been destroyed long ago. Sighing softly, he unclenched his hands and waited to speak with the old Hokage. Haku noticed this and smiled imperceptibly at Naruto. It meant the blonde had managed to calm down. On the other hand, she saw the stupid pink-haired girl who should apologize for her offense, but instead, she saw how the girl called Sakura had only been trying to flirt with the Uchiha, something that left her surprised and angry like never before in her life. But as a killer, she told herself that killing her would only be an excuse to be expelled from Konoha, or perhaps they would both be killed. They continued on their way. Haku and Zabuza noticed, without surprise, how the civilians and some genin and chunin looked at them with curiosity and bewilderment. But when they saw Team 7 a little further back, and more specifically Naruto, their expressions changed to hatred and fury in the vast majority of the villagers. This didn't surprise Zabuza at all, but it made Haku even angrier. Finally, they arrived at the Hokage Tower, and before entering, Kakashi stopped the group, thinking about what he should do. Once he had decided, he stood in front of the genin team and looked at them seriously. Sakura, Sasuke, good work on the mission, but I need you to go directly home. I'll give you your mission pay tomorrow. That's an order, Kakashi stated firmly, seeing that Sakura was about to protest. Without another word, he entered along with Zabuza and Yugo. Naruto hesitated since they hadn't mentioned it, but he looked at Haku, searching for an answer. She nodded slightly. Go on, Naruto-kun, I'll follow you. With the calm words of the ice user, Naruto left to catch up with his master. Meanwhile, Sasuke, angry and jealous, immediately headed towards the Uchiha residence. Sakura, unsure what to do, intended to follow her obsessive crush, hoping to flirt with him once again, something she knew wouldn't work. But then she felt someone grab her wrist tightly, and when she looked up, she saw it was Haku, watching her with closed eyes and a calm smile. What are you doing, you idiot? Did you see what you did? Sasukekun is gone. The genin stopped immediately upon feeling a senbon needle directly against her neck, causing her to literally break out in a cold sweat. Haku looked at her coldly. That girl didn't seem like a kunoichi, since she had done nothing but scream, kick, cry, and shriek the entire time she had known Team 7, in addition to treating someone as pure as Naruto terribly. He couldn't allow that pathetic excuse for a kunoichi to continue with that attitude towards Naruto. He lightly pressed his senbon against a frightened Sakura and looked at her with utter coldness. I recommend you keep your mouth shut from now on, you hear me? He hissed in a dry, threatening voice, pressing the sharp weapon a little harder against the pink-haired girl's neck in a menacing gesture as several drops of blood fell. Sakura nodded slightly in fear, and Haku, still looking at her coldly, released her and turned his back on her. Haku didn't bother to turn around. From the footsteps and sounds he could perceive thanks to his senses, he noticed the bubblegum-haired girl running off in a sea of tears. Honestly, Haku still wonders how such pathetic ninjas can exist. With slow steps, he caught up with his master along with Naruto and the copy ninja, who soon stopped in front of the Hokage office door. Hokage-sama, it's me, Kakashi. With those words, he entered the Hokage office with the charismatic group. Upon hearing the door open, the Hokage turned in his chair to face them. Kakashi immediately recognized Zabuza as a rogue ninja from Kirigakure, as well as a young woman whose attire suggested she was a kunoichi near the ANBU level. But his focus was on Naruto, who wore goggles that he immediately recognized as belonging to Obaido Uchiha. Sarutobi sighed heavily. It had happened. Chapter 14, finally in front of the Hokage, Konoha Hokage's office. Naruto, do you know what those eyes are? He asked calmly. The wary blonde removed his visor glasses to show the Rinnegan in all its splendor. Sarutobi analyzed the gestures of the former Kiri ninjas, and they showed no surprise whatsoever. Therefore, making several hand seals, he activated a technique that set off Haku's alarms and took out 3 senbon, but Zabuza stopped it by putting his arm in front of it. Don't be silly, Haku. The old man has activated a silence seal in addition to a restriction. In short, what will be discussed at this moment is class information, Zabuza concluded seriously. He was an ANBU captain after all and knew a great deal about procedures for securing information from each village. The old Hokage nodded slightly. That's right, and I've also had a lot of trouble with one of my council members, he replied softly, recalling Danzu even though the Warhawk wanted to use the Rinnegan as a weapon. Naruto, I know you're confused, but... And I'm so confused. How did this happen to me? Why do I have these eyes? You told me about the power I possess, but I never believed this. Why do they say it belongs to some Rikudo Sennin? I don't know. It's all just a lot with the Kyuubi, and now I possess this power that goes beyond what I imagined, the blonde boy shouted angrily, and it was no wonder he felt like he was on his last legs. He clenched his teeth in a gesture of anger and sadness. Zabuza and Kakashi maintained their composure, but they assumed the Jinchuriki must be feeling very overwhelmed. The only one who showed surprise was Yugo, upon learning that Naruto already knew about the Kyuubi. Poor boy. I know Naruto, but this is the truth, this didn't actually happen. Everyone looked at the Hokage, extremely interested in what he would say. Naruto, you were born with those eyes. What? That is impossible. I apologize if Hokage-sama intervened, but what the young Uzumaki says is true, he was born with blue eyes. You're wrong, Naruto, you must understand that the Kyuubi was something that shouldn't have happened, the story is very long, but you are the wielder of the Rinnegan. Don't think this just appeared out of nowhere, Sarutobi stated seriously. He wanted to make the blonde boy understand that the Kyuubi or any other event had nothing to do with it. The Kyuubi was simply something added to Naruto's life. From birth, it was his destiny to obtain the Rinnegan. Kakashi remained silent until he spoke again. Hokage-sama, could I try it? The copy ninja asked seriously. The Hokage looked at him for a few seconds and nodded slowly, taking off his Hokage hat and whispering Kai. A photograph was released from a seal which he handed to Naruto, who looked at it carefully. It was a picture of him as a baby with the Rinnegan, but he wasn't alone. There were 4 other adults in the photograph. He recognized one of them, and it was the Hokage himself. There was a guy with white hair, red markings around his eyes, and a very strange headband who, according to what the Hokage had told him, was his godfather. Another had black hair and eyes that upon closer inspection he realized were the Sharigan, and finally there was one with black hair and extremely white eyes. Who are these old men? They are the leaders of your clans, your brothers Naruto, Fugaku Uchiha and Hayashi Hyuga. Zabuza, Kakashi, and Yugo exchanged glances, discussing illustrious ninjas from the elemental continent who possessed legendary Jujutsu. Naruto sat on the ground and racked his brain. Where had he heard those surnames before? He knew he recognized them somehow, or at least that a memory of those 2 men had surfaced. He recalled the old man's words and the mention of the Daojutsu, and could only conclude that it was lost. I got confused, he said without any remorse, causing the Hokage to fall backwards. Zabuza and Yugo just hit their foreheads in a gesture of exasperation, and only Haku and Kakashi laughed nervously at the whole thing. Naruto, I'm talking about the strongest Jujutsu, the ones closest to the Rinnegan, the Sharingan, and the Byakugan, Sarutobi said calmly, making the blonde remember that the Sharingan was possessed by the Uchiha clan, briefly recalling Sasuke. He also realized that if he followed logic, he could attribute the Byakugan, whatever it was, to the Hyuga clan, and then he remembered. That was the clan that the girl belonged to, the one who didn't talk to him much but never treated him badly. Her name was Hinata Hyuga. Also, if he thought about it correctly, she had the same eyes as that guy in the photograph, and the other one had the same eyes as his teacher Kakashi and Sasuke, so he finally understood. I see, old man. Why are these guys with me in this photo? Well, Naruto, as I said, they were the leaders of the 2 clans of your Daojutsu brother, the Sharingan and the Byakugan. I needed their help at that time. Like what Hokage-sama. I knew very well that with the Kyuubi Naruto wouldn't have a normal life, but when you were born, Naruto, you already had the Rinnegan. That's why I spoke with your godfather. Pointing at the white-haired man in the photograph, Sarutobi allowed himself a sigh with a touch of pain as he remembered that Naruto never had a normal life, and even less so with the Rinnegan, nor will he ever have that of an ordinary shinobi. Don't talk about my godfather, it doesn't make sense for him to be so important if he wasn't even there for me, she said with some resentment since she assumed he was her godfather. Calm down, Naruto. Sarutobi said seriously, in a commanding tone that only the village leader could use. You must know that there are things you still don't understand, but I have to tell you abruptly, ahead of time. One of them is that the council decided that no one would adopt you. Naruto put his anger aside to listen attentively to the Hokage. Speak up, old man. Why was I denied the opportunity to have a family? Why? Because the self-imposed council to Jiraiya, your godfather, was to search for the culprit behind the Kyuubi tragedy, but above all, there are some individuals who wanted to use you as emotionless weapons, but I immediately opposed it. But the damned council accepted my order if only you didn't have someone to protect you. Because those who wanted to take care of you in your childhood were rejected for it, Kakashi said casually, holding his now inseparable orange book in his hand. Naruto slowly nodded at the information already given. All right, old man, you still haven't told me why these guys were in this photo. The reason was that it prevented you from knowing the Rinnegan. They used a very complex technique to seal your Jujutsu. Is that why you remember Itachi coming to examine you once? It would only be free when you made a great impression, but I hope that would be when you had your first face-to-face encounter with death or when you released the Kyuubi's chakra. Haku raised his face, remembering when Naruto became angry, believing Sasuke had died. He noticed that for a moment the air felt heavy, but after that Naruto summoned his Rinnegan. Naruto attributed that to his belief that Sasuke had died. The blonde boy reasoned with such logic and supposed it could be true since, in the end, he didn't know about those doujutsu. Perhaps he had truly always had it. Feeling the burden on his shoulder lighten, he allowed himself to sigh. If that doujutsu had been born with him, it meant he wasn't abnormal. He was born that way and that's how it had to be. The kyuubi was the factor that shouldn't have appeared. Sarutobi massaged his forehead in a gesture of weariness. The council would cause a terrible problem because of all this, but he knew how to play his part well and he had his moves ready. Besides having Hiashi and Fugaku as allies, their mission was to preserve the safety of Naruto, whom he considered a grandson and a future successor to the position of Hokage. Suddenly she sensed the presence of someone familiar in the hallway, so she gestured to Naruto to put on his visor and deactivated the seals. Yugo understood it was time to leave, so bowing to the Hokage and nodding to the others, including those from Kiri, she disappeared in a Shushin no Jutsu. Suddenly the door is opened by a woman with purple hair and clothing that left nothing to the imagination. Upon entering, he saw the Hokage with the kyuubi boy Hadake, and to his surprise, the demon of the mist, Zabuza Mamachi, along with a Konoichi of about 13 or 14 years old. What's wrong, Anko? Hokage-sama, the council has already learned about the arrival of Hadake's Team 7, and ANBU asked me to inform you, Anko said with a bit of sarcasm, looking at those present. Kakashi and the Hokage looked at each other, remembering something. Things will be more difficult from now on. Chapter 15, Discussion, the Ninja Council. The old Hokage rose from his chair to leave the office for the meeting with the advisors, but not before saying a few words to Naruto. Naruto, I know you feel strange, but just remember that you were born with these eyes. It's not a curse or anything bad. You were born this way, and this is who you are. Naruto will get together tonight to talk about this a little more. Naruto. Hi Jiji, okay, I'll think about this some more and I'm sure I can overcome Thistatebio. Alright Naruto, Hiruzen said with a half smile. Kakashi, please stay here in the office until the meeting is over. I'll call you if I need you. He spoke, looking at the whole group. Sarutobi slowly left the office towards where the greatest torture awaited him. Eyes that torture. To speak with the Warhawk and his supporters and make it clear who the leader of the village was. Upon arriving, Hiruzen sat in a chair in the middle of the meeting. Well, let the meeting begin. I want to know exactly why you called me here. The Hokage shouted seriously to the entire audience. Hokage-sama, we've heard that the Uchiha boy almost died. One of the elders spoke, but we've also learned what happened to the kyuubi boy, which could be of great help to Konoha, interrupted the old Warhawk. How is it, Hokage-sama, does the demon have another power besides the kyuubi? One of the civilians spoke with hatred. Shut up. Talk about Naruto like that. He yelled, his murderous instincts palpable. Naruto is free to do whatever he wants. Let's not drag the poor kid into this. He's already badly mistreated by all of you, he said, pointing at the civilians. I'm sorry, Hokage-sama, but we can't just leave the kyuubi like this, especially knowing its power. Now it could really serve as a weapon for Konoha. Excuse my interruption, Hokage-sama, but what power are you talking about? More than half the council doesn't know what you're talking about. Upon hearing this, Danzo gave a half smile and seized the moment to sway everyone to his side so he could take the boy's power. With it, he could be invincible. After all, what could be better than a boy with the power of the Nine Tails, plus the Rinnegan, the most powerful Jujutsu in the world, and the chakra of the Uzumaki clan? If he could take control of Naruto and train him, he would be a war machine, capable of destroying armies single-handedly. Hokage-sama, I propose that you take charge of him, but with the ANBU root program, thus turning him into a weapon. And to answer your question, that child possesses nothing less than the doujutsu that was thought to be legendary. The Rinnegan, the old hawk spoke, leaving everyone speechless and the atmosphere completely silent until the screams began. Hokage-sama, you'd better accept Danzu's proposal, shouted the civilians and some ninjas, causing Danzu to smile. Hiruzen knew that Danzuo would use this to gain power and bring Naruto into his organization, but he had a plan in case that happened. I'm sorry, Danzu, but it won't be possible since I enrolled Naruto in the ANBU program before he came. Tusk damn Hokage, Danzo thought, realizing he had ruined his plans, but what Danzo didn't know was that it was all a facade. Naruto had indeed signed up to join the ANBU, but there was a condition: he had to be at least a Chunin to be promoted to ANBU. Hiruzen had only included that clause to see if Naruto truly deserved to be an ANBU member. Well played, Hokage-sama, Fugaku thought. How is that possible, Hokage-sama? Naruto will have to take some tests, said Amura, one of the advisors. The document Naruto signed to become an ANBU includes a clause stating that to become an ANBU he must first be a Chunin, and that once he becomes a Chunin he will undergo the necessary tests. But then legally he wouldn't be an ANBU, said an old woman helping Danzu since she too wanted him to become a weapon. Not legally, but there's an article that says that when that contract is signed, it would be reciprocated by the group even if he doesn't manage to join immediately. How long until the contract expires? Asked Danzu, who had found a way to obtain the Kyuubi. In a year, oh crap, I didn't think that through. Naruto, I hope you can pass the upcoming Chunin exams, otherwise you'll have to join Root and become a weapon, the old Hokage thought, realizing his mistake as he looked at a smiling Danzo. Hokage-sama, how can you put that demon child in ANBU? A civilian asked. Silence. The Hokage said to the civilian, who managed to fall silent. Well, this meeting is over. Since there's nothing to vote on, the meeting ends. Hokage-sama, there's another matter we need to discuss, the old man spoke again. You reminded me Kakashi Hatake offered 2 rogue ninjas a place in Konoha's ranks. Before any civilians could interrupt, he continued, there's a reason for this. Those enemies saw Naruto's Rinnegan. If they were to escape, it would give other villages information about what our village possesses, and they would surely launch attacks to steal those eyes. Hokage-sama, I agree with that, Danzu said to everyone's surprise. I don't want to lose those eyes, and even less do I want another village to get them. Does anyone disagree? The Hokage asked, though he was somewhat annoyed by the way Danzuo was treating Naruto. No, Hokage-sama, we all agree, said the leader of the civilian council. Hiruzen left the council and waited outside for Fugaku and Hayashi to come out so they could talk. After a while, those 2 people arrived. Hokage-sama, I'm surprised at how you managed to counter Danzu, Fugaku commented. To be honest, I've been researching this for a long time and this was the best option I could come up with. I'm still worried though, Naruto has to pass the Chunin exams and there are only 6 months left. I hope he learns to use his powers. That's what I wanted to talk about, Hokage-sama. The boy was training with Itachi, so he at least knows the basics and one of the clan's jutsu. He also told me he knew the shadow clone jutsu. So he knows how to use elemental jutsus. What kind of affinity will he have? Hayashi asked. According to Itachi, he can use all 5 chakra natures, something that has never been seen before. Itachi told me that it was surely because of the Rinnegan, even though it wasn't active, he could already use all 5 natures. That's impressive, said the Hyuga clan leader. I figured as much. Jiraiya told me about the boy who could also use the 5 natures during his training. What do you think? Do you think it would be a good idea to tell him about his heritage and give him the scrolls with his father's jutsu? Hokage-sama, with all due respect, I believe that would be best, Hayashi said very seriously. I agree with Hayashi. I think you should tell him the same. Make sure Naruto doesn't say anything. Hokage-sama, I'll take my leave. Call me if you need anything. Me too, Hokage-sama. I have to go train with Hinata. See you later, he said, bowing, and they disappeared with a shushin. Hokage's office after the council meeting. Naruto was sitting talking to Haku in the Hokage's office. Sarutobi himself told them not to leave until the meeting was over. Just then someone opened the door, alerting all the ninjas. Hokage-sama, I see the meeting is over, said the copy ninja. Exactly, Kakashi-san. Now Anbu, please take Zabusa Momochi and his student to a residence. From now on they will be members of Konoha. So you accepted, thank goodness, because I wouldn't miss out on Naruto's journey, and Haku will be safer here. I truly thank you, Hokage-sama, he said, bowing. No problem, Zabusa, everyone on the council agreed. The one I should thank the most is Kakashi though. He thought quickly and came up with a solution for both of us. It would help you have a better life, and besides, he'd keep the secret at least for a while longer. Zabuza and Haku withdrew, leaving only Kakashi the Hokage and Naruto, who looked at the Hokage, intrigued by what he was going to say. Naruto, the Hokage called. Luckily the council won't lay a hand on you, he said with a half-smile, satisfied with what he had accomplished. Thank goodness, I'm glad about that, Kakashi said, sounding calmer. Thank you so much, Jiji. I really didn't want to end up like a weapon without feelings. But how did Hokage-sama manage to prevent the council from doing anything? Use a method, making a clause that says if Naruto-kun signs the paper before I leave, he will automatically be considered as ANBU, making it so the council cannot put him in any other organization. But then would Jiji be ANBU right now? Said an excited Naruto, who had managed to regain some composure thanks to Kakashi and Haku's conversations. Hold on, Naruto, he said with a smile, seeing that Naruto had regained his senses. There's a clause that says you'll have to become a Chunin to fully join the organization. But this is just a trick, because as a Chunin you'd be considered an adult and no one could do anything against you. That was well thought out, Hokage-sama, flattered the copy ninja. Thanks, Kakashi, haha, the Hokage said, laughing. Well, Hokage-sama, I'll take my leave, said Kakashi as he departed in a swirl of leaves. Naruto was also about to leave, but was stopped by the Hokage to discuss something of utmost importance. Chapter 16, The Truth About What Happened That Night. Hokage's office, conversation between Naruto and Hiruzen. Naruto, I need to talk seriously. It's about what happened that night, she said as she placed a silent seal on him. Seriously, Grandpa, what's going on? I know my parents locked up the Kyuubi, you told me so. he shouted, sounding angry and disappointed that he'd never told her. I'm sorry, Naruto, but your past couldn't be revealed. Please sit down, she said, gesturing to a chair in front of her desk. Please, Naruto, try not to interrupt until I finish speaking. I know you have many questions, but please. Okay, Grandpa, I'll try not to interrupt, calming down a little. Well, Naruto, first of all, your parents loved you and wanted to have a peaceful life with you. If they loved me so much, I don't think they would have put this demon inside me, Naruto murmured with some disappointment. Naruto, now I'll tell you exactly what happened that night, and you'll see that they couldn't bear that tremendous burden because, well, your parents, first of all, died sacrificing themselves for you and the village trying to defeat the Kyuubi that was attacking the village, although you already know that. Yes, Grandpa, I already know that, she said, sounding a little sad and finally understanding why she didn't have parents. Well, I'll tell you the story in more detail. Your mother was Kushina Uzumaki, one of the last of her legendary clan and also a former Jinchuriki. When your mother was pregnant with you, the seal that kept the beast contained weakened, causing the Kyuubi to escape and destroy the village. So my mother died in childbirth, she said, a few tears running down her face. No, Naruto, there's more. Your father Minato Namikaze, he said as Naruto looked on seriously, upon learning of the Kyuubi's release went to confront it. But seeing that there was no other option but to seal it, he imprisoned it within someone he trusted to control its power, which is what I told you the other day. Well, another thing is that when he left us in Georgia's care, we saw those eyes. That's when we discovered your eyes. So that's when they realized, and they never even asked my parents. He said, looking seriously at the old Hokage. Naruto-kun, Minato told me before he died that he and Kushina loved you and that we should treat you like a hero, but since your father has a very hated name, we decided to keep your surname and give you Kushina's. We also believe that your Rinnegan comes from the Uzumaki side. Did my parents love me very much? I'm glad to hear that, Ojos, she said with a half-smile and while crying her eyes out. Naruto, your parents loved you, but unfortunately they sacrificed themselves and left you with this heavy burden which your father believed you could handle, although one of them was unforeseen. The old Hokage chuckled somewhat melancholically. Touchin Kachin, I will fulfill what you entrusted to me and I will also become Hokage Databeo. He shouted to the four winds. But I have another question, Ojos, will my parents know that I was born with the Rinnegan? Naruto, that's still a complete mystery. Neither Kushina nor Minato possessed any Jujutsu, much less the Rinnegan, although there was a case of an Uzumaki who awakened the Rinnegan. Seriously, who? He asked, somewhat surprised to learn that there had been another one like him. Naruto, what I'm about to tell you is an S-rank secret, in addition to what I already told you, which you'll also have to keep secret at least until you become a Chunin. But speaking of the other thing, your godfather, the one I told you about last time he spoke as Naruto nodded, once trained in Uzumaki who possessed the Rinnegan. So he could know why I was born with this Jujutsu. I asked as Hiruzen shook his head. Naruto, Georgia was there the first time we saw your eyes and he didn't know why you were born with them. The Uzumaki boy he trained sadly died in a war. So it's still a mystery how I activated it, he said, sounding somewhat discouraged. I see, Naruto, that you've regained your sanity and no longer lament having those eyes. The truth is, Grandpa, I was born with them, so nobody can tell me what to do, unlike the Kyuubi, which was something that shouldn't exist. Anyway, I understand my father completely, and I know I can control this power. Besides, I discovered that these eyes could help me get to take off your hat faster, Grandpa. He spoke as a sinister smile formed at the corner of his lips. Oh my god, this Naruto never changes, haha. I'm really glad he recovered from the trauma, though I imagine it must have been difficult to regain his composure after that, the old Hokage thought to himself. Well, Naruto, now that everything's settled, are you feeling better? Well, yes, that's true, although I'm still a little scared by these eyes. I'm afraid I won't be able to control it. I know, Naruto, but it's something you'll have to get used to. It's a good thing I told you to let your hair grow long last time, haha, he said, looking at Naruto with hair longer than Minato's. Before you go, I want to tell you that you're a carbon copy of your father. Thank you for everything, Grandpa, she said, leaving through the door. Ah, Naruto, tomorrow you'll receive your other inheritance I forgot to tell you. How is that, Grandpa? He shouted in surprise. Your parents' inheritance is a lot of money, and since your mother is the daughter of the Uzukage, you own 3/4 of the Uzu lands. There are also some scrolls containing important jutsu belonging to your parents. He informed him, as a blonde boy fainted from receiving so much information, both good and bad news in a single day. All right, Grandpa, now I'm going to rest, Naruto said again. He felt very tired and under a lot of mental stress. No one normal could be okay after everything he'd been told. Naruto withdrew, leaving the Hokage deep in thought. Naruto, I understand you're feeling this way, but I hope you recover quickly. I need you to train hard so you can become a Chunin and not just an ANBU root member. Although I just received some very good news. Your godfather Jiraiya will be returning to the village sooner than planned. The next day, Naruto's room, 9 a.m. Naruto slowly got out of bed, greeting the sunlight filtering through the windows. As he sat up, he thought about everything that had happened these past few days. It's been a crazy few days, he said. I never imagined I possessed such terrifying power. Besides that, I have a beast sealed inside me by my father. Although I understood why he did it, I didn't feel any resentment towards him. Instead, I was grateful that I trusted him so much. Naruto got out of bed and went to have breakfast. When he finished, he left the apartment and walked aimlessly through the village. As he went for a walk, some villagers looked at him with a degree of respect, which surprised the blonde boy since they usually glared at him with hatred. Now that he thought about it, he realized they treated him this way because he was Konoha's ultimate weapon, having surely learned of his legendary eyes. Naruto didn't care about the stares and decided to ignore them, continuing calmly through the village. "Excuse me, Naruto," the blonde heard strangely, turning around quickly and striking a strange defensive pose. "Kakashi-sensei, I didn't hear you," said the blonde boy as he lowered his guard. "That's strange you didn't see me," he said, surprised since the Rinnegan could see everything. "I was very distracted," the blonde replied quickly. In reality, he had seen him but pretended not to see what he would say. "I imagine, Naruto, aren't you still scared because of your eyes? You seem quite cheerful now," he said despondently as the famous U formed in his eye. "Of course I'm still scared, but what good is that fear? I prefer to keep moving forward and fulfill my dream," she said with a big smile and determination. "So that's how you overcame all the mistreatment from the villagers. I see you're strong, Naruto, and not just physically," thought the copy ninja. "I see," he said in his usual listless voice. "Naruto, do you want to go shopping for clothes?" the silver-haired boy asked, surprising the blonde. "Seriously, Kakashi-sensei," he said in an animated voice, seeing that his sensei was indeed interested in him. "So Naruto, after all, your clothes were pretty wrecked in your battle with Haku, and if your dad saw you in that orange jumpsuit he'd kill you, haha," he said as if what he'd said was unimportant, a smile forming beneath his mask as Naruto's face changed to one of surprise. "How did you know that, Kakashi-sensei?" the very surprised blonde boy asked. "Hokage-sama didn't tell you, but I'm one of your father's students, as if it were the most common thing in the world for a student of your deceased father to be your sensei. The truth is, there was only one explanation: destiny." "I'm really glad you're my sensei," the blonde boy said, surprising Kakashi. "And speaking of other things, how's Hakuchin?" he added, changing the subject. "Naruto, I'm also grateful that you're my student," Kakashi thought. "Why do you ask that, Naruto? Maybe it's because you're interested in Haku, haha. Besides, I helped you a lot back then, right?" he asked in a mischievous tone. "No, Kakashi-sensei, how could you think that? It's nothing like that, Debyo," Naruto shouted, his face turning bright red. "That only confirms it more, ha 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 ha," he laughed again, annoying the blonde boy. "Well, that's enough, let's go shopping for clothes," he said, returning to his carefree expression. Chapter 17, The Best Sensei. Kakashi and Naruto walked peacefully through the village until they reached a large ninja clothing store. "We're finally here. Naruto, I have a proposition for you," the silver-haired man said, piquing the blonde's interest. "What is it, Kakashi-sensei?" he asked, puzzled. "Please, Naruto, choose clothes that don't have so much orange. I know you like that color a lot, but on the battlefield it's very visible and your enemies will be able to see you. I know you're a sensor and that you can hide most of the time, but there's always someone better than you. It's better to be prepared than to suffer the consequences later." "Oh, why, Kakashi-sensei?" he said, crying comically. "Can I at least keep some orange, at least a little bit?" the blonde boy asked hopefully. "All right, Naruto, let's go in," he said as he opened the shop door. Upon entering, he saw what he expected. The man behind the counter looked at him with that face he was so used to hatred. "Hello, Kakashi-sama, it's great to see you back here," he said until he noticed a small blonde boy. "What are you doing with that demon?" he asked, pointing at Naruto, who simply lowered his head. "Apologize now, you know Naruto isn't a demon and he's a valuable ninja of the village," the copy ninja shouted angrily. "All right, Kakashi-sama, I won't say anything. Please excuse me, what would you like to buy?" he said, changing the subject since it wouldn't be good to anger a jonin, especially Kakashi, who is one of the best ninjas in Konoha. "I just want some clothes for Naruto. I want something that isn't so shiny, you understand. I just want to keep the orange a little bit." "All right, Kakashi-sama, now I'll see what I have," he said, ignoring Naruto. Just as he left, Naruto lowered his head in disappointment. "Why does the whole village treat me like this?" he muttered silently as Kakashi quickly replied, "They're ignorant, Naruto. All they see in you is the nine-tailed fox, even though you aren't it." After about 5 minutes talking with Kakashi, the vendor arrived with black Anbu pants, a ninja mesh shirt for protection, and a black hoodie with orange lines, very similar to how he is dressed in the last. After that, Kakashi accompanied him to the Hokage Tower. "See you later, Kakashi-sensei. Thank you so much for everything." "It's nothing, Naruto. See you later and good luck with the Hokage," he said as he waved goodbye and disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Naruto entered the Hokage Tower and went directly to his office, finding a busy Hokage surrounded by paperwork. I see you're busy, Ojos, hee. Naruto, what a surprise. Are you sure you came because of yesterday's conversation or not? Exactly, Ojos, I came to talk about why you're giving me my inheritance databeo. Alright, Naruto, but not a word about this. I'll have to play a trick on the council so they don't find out about your lineage, he said with a half smile as he was thinking of something. Alright, Hokage, I'll wait, but when will I be able to reveal it? I mean, will they realize it at some point? The blonde boy said, surprising the Hokage because he had noticed that detail. When you become a Chunin, you'll legally be an adult. At that point you can say who your parents are, so you absolutely must pass the Chunin exam, Sarutobi said seriously. Alright, Grandpa, you'll see that I will become a Chunin. He shouted with great determination. Now I'll retire, Grandpa. I still have a few months to train so I can get stronger. Speaking of which, I have good news. An AMBU bag will be your personal trainer, at least until 2 months before the exams. Seriously, old man, but why? I don't think anyone would want to train me. Relax, Naruto already knows him, you even trained with him. Is that Itachi-sensei? I know it's him. She said with a smile. Exactly, Naruto, but there's another person who will also train with you. These people will help you with Jujutsu since they are both Uchiha and have the Sharigan, which is one of the Jujutsu descended from the Rinnegan, the old Hokage explained wisely. I have a question, Grandpa. What is it, Naruto? He asked, intrigued. Why are the Uchiha helping me and not the Hyuga? There are 2 reasons. The first is that Itachi likes to train you and you were already his student. The second is that the Hyuga clan can't help you much since most of their ninja arts are based on taijutsu, and I don't think that style would work for you, Naruto. You're right, Grandpa. Well, that's fine. I'll go see Itachi-sensei. Where can I find him? One more question. What will happen to Team 7 and Kakashi-sensei? Itachi is waiting for you outside, and the other question is that you'll have to leave Team 7 for a while since you'll need time to train your skills for the Chunin exams. Sasuke and Sakura are also preparing for the Chunin exams with Kakashi's help. I think they're training right now. Konoha Field Number 7. Sasuke and Sakura were waiting impatiently on the field because Kakashi had summoned them to give him some important news. Sakura, do you know why we were summoned? She surprisingly spoke first. I have no idea, Sasuke-kun, but it's sure to have something to do with the monster from Naruto. Sakura, why the hell are you saying that? Don't you see that idiot has a legendary Jujutsu? I don't understand why they call him a monster. On the contrary, they should have all the respect for him. You damn fool. Why does he feel bad about having those eyes? He doesn't deserve that power. You're right, Sasuke-kun, you deserve that power, she said in her fangirl mode, but also a little scared of how he yelled at her. I see you're still the same as always, he said as Kakashi climbed down from a tree. Sensei, they both shouted at the same time. What's wrong, Kakashi-sensei? Why did you call us here? Sakura asked. Guys, I'm going to tell you what's going on, but there are 2 things I want to tell you very seriously. First, Sakura, don't ever treat Naruto badly again. He's a very important person to the village now. And besides, Naruto never treated you badly. I don't know why you hate him so much, he said as Sakura lowered her head a little regretful. Second, I'll be training you for the Chunin exams for the next few months. You won't have any missions or anything, and Naruto won't be training with us either. Why on earth does Naruto have to train separately? That's not fair. I should have my own training too. Relax, Sasuke, you will train with me. I will teach you everything I know about the Sharigan. Besides, I'm sure your clan will train you too. Well, fine, he replied, a little calmer. Anyway, I don't know why you're making such a fuss about that idiot. He's useless, he said while Kakashi grimaced in disgust. He didn't like it at all when they treated his sensei's son like that. He knew Naruto was strong on his own, but now with the Rinnegan and the power of the Kyuubi, he would be a monster in combat if he managed to control both powers. Okay, let's start training now, I said without much enthusiasm, outside the Hokage's office. Naruto left the Hokage's office very happy to have Itachi as his sensei again. He quickly went down to the door where Itachi was waiting for him. When he arrived, he saw Itachi, but there was also another man who seemed to be the same age as Itachi and also had the same Uchiha characteristics, black hair and eyes. Hello, Itachi-sensei, Naruto greeted cheerfully. Hello, Naruto, he said in his usual monotone voice. I see that Hokage-sama already told you that we would train you. What? Yes, she told me you were going to train me, she said cheerfully. But I wonder why with you guys. Oh, and who is he? She asked, pointing to the person standing next to Itachi. Naruto, Hokage-sama asked me to train you to use the power of the Rinnegan. Our Jujutsu are fully developed, and since it's a Jujutsu derived from the Rinnegan, we can help you, although the training will be very tough. We'll also be teaching you other things. He is, he said, pointing to a boy the same height as Itachi, with the classic black hair so characteristic of the Uchiha clan. Shisui Uchiha, the strongest Uchiha of the clan. He will help you a lot. Nice to meet you, Naruto, he said with a half-smile, noticing that his character was different from Itachi's and that he was a little more relaxed. Hello Shisui-sensei, the pleasure is all mine, Naruto greeted cheerfully. It's a relief that at least he's not so serious, haha, Naruto thought. Okay Naruto, we'll go to training ground number 16 now, it's the only one that's unoccupied. Alright Itachi-sensei, Shisui-sensei, let's go, I have to master this power to become a Chunin. Alright Naruto, but calm down, Shisui commented, his expression now a bit more serious. Supposedly, from what Itachi told me, he's very talented and has enormous chakra reserves. Between the Nine Tails and the Rinnegan, I think in a few years he'll be unstoppable. Not even I could stand against him with those powers, Shisui thought. Chapter 18, The Training and Meeting. Naruto, along with Itachi and Shisui, marched to training ground number 16. Upon arriving, they talked for a while to decide what they would teach Naruto first. They discussed it for a while and decided that it would be best to start with chakra control exercises and physical exercises to improve his taijutsu. Alright Naruto, the first thing you'll do is run 2 laps around the village and do 100 push-ups, 150 sit-ups and squats to improve your physical strength. Do you still have the gravity seals? Itachi asked as the blonde nodded, somewhat disappointed at not wanting to do the exercises. Itachi-sensei, is all this necessary, and if I keep them they're only at 5 kg, he said looking down. Yes Naruto, it's necessary to advance in your training, Shisui interrupted. If you don't have physical strength, you won't be able to fight with taijutsu, and I think that's one of the things you're best at, isn't it? Alright Shisui-sensei, I'll do the exercises, he said, already defeated. Naruto keeps changing the weights of the gravity seal if you get used to it. I know Itachi-sensei, he muttered as he started running through the village. Naruto followed his exercise routine to the letter. Afterward, Itachi and Shisui explained some more advanced aspects of chakra control, as well as elemental chakra and its uses. So Itachi-sensei, I possess all 5 elements and can use any jutsu of any element, he asked. Wait a minute Naruto. I mean you won't have any trouble learning jutsus of different elements, but that doesn't mean you won't have to put in the effort to learn them. It wasn't hard for you when I taught you the Katen, Gakkyū no Jutsu, but I don't think you'll learn the other jutsus so easily. So what will we do now? Will you teach me some jutsus? First, before that, I want Shisui to teach you something, obviously if he wants to. What will Shisui-sensei teach me? He asked excitedly since it wasn't every day that one of the best Uchiha would teach him a jutsu. Alright Itachi, I'll teach him that jutsu only because he possesses the Rinnegan and I think it will be more useful to him than to me. But Naruto, you'll have to spend 2 months with me to learn that jutsu to its full potential. Alright Shisui-sensei, I'll learn it Databeo. He shouted excitedly. Well, the jutsu I will teach you, or rather I will make you learn its mastery because I'm sure you know it, is the Shunshin no Jutsu. This jutsu, when you reach its mastery, will give you almost unstoppable speed, but for that I need you to increase your physical qualities as well as have good chakra control. So Naruto, your training will be like this. First you will do the routine you just did every day, plus we will gradually increase the weights of your gravity seals, then we will do chakra control and elemental jutsus with me, and then you can train with Shisui who will teach you his jutsu as well as other basic things. Alright, Itachi-sensei and Shisui-sensei, I'll make you proud. Naruto shouted excitedly. This training will last 4 months, and I forgot to mention that we will also help you try to control some of the power of the Rinnegan since we possess similar Daojutsu and we can help you. Okay, enough talk, let's get started with the training. Hi, Naruto shouted at the top of his lungs, after 4 months of training. In these 4 months, Naruto made tremendous progress. First, he increased his gravity seals to 10 kilograms, bringing his total weight to 40 kilograms, allowing him to move freely. Thanks to this, his strength and speed for taijutsu also increased. Then he underwent extensive chakra control training to improve his previously terrible control. Although it was difficult, he now had at least stable control and didn't expend so much chakra, even though his reserves were enormous. Furthermore, he was able to perfect Shisui's jutsu, enabling him to move at great speed. Another thing he gained some control over was the Rinnegan, which granted him a degree of gravity manipulation Deva path, although it was very difficult for him to do so. Well Naruto, your training with us ends here, but I must say I'm very proud. You were able to control my jutsu in a very short time. It was difficult, but I'm sure it will help you a lot now. Thank you so much, Shisui-sensei. He praised, bowing respectfully. Well, I see we've finished part of your training, although you still have a part left, but you won't be doing it with us. What do you mean I won't do it with you guys? Naruto asked, intrigued. Hokage's office, Konoha Center. Meanwhile, in the Hokage's office, a busy Sarutobi was seen signing many papers until suddenly a noise was heard at the window. So you've arrived already? The old Hokage asked without taking his eyes off the papers he was signing. As you can see, old man, said a deep voice belonging to a rather tall man with white hair, wearing red clothing and a strange headband that said oil. The great Jiraiya the Magnificent is back. He shouted while striking a ridiculous pose. I see you haven't changed a bit, Georgia. How have those years of travel been? Perfect for now, although you know why I came back or not, old man, although I also have some other bad news for you. Of course I know you'll want to train Naruto. After the letter I sent you saying he absolutely has to pass the Chunin exam, it was obvious you were going to come. What? Yes, I was very surprised. It was a very good move towards the council, but besides that I've come for another reason. My spy network has discovered an organization that is trying to track down all the Jinchuriki in order to extract the Biju from them. Damn it, Georgia, are you sure? Hiruzen asked, very surprised. They'll come for Naruto, I see. That's why you came too. You'll make him strong so he can defend himself against that organization. The organization is called Akatsuki. I don't know their objective exactly, but I'm sure their prey are the Jinchuriki and that all their members are powerful S-rank shinobi. I have to protect Naruto at all costs, at least until he grows strong enough to defend himself. But until then, I'll help him in any way I can since I couldn't help him in his childhood, the Sannin said in a low, depressed voice. Georgia, you know the council wouldn't let you. Now Naruto is safe and sound. He had a tough childhood, I won't deny that, but the council played dirty and wouldn't let you adopt him because it would be obvious he's Minato's son. They didn't want a war with Iwa after the Kyuubi attack. It was obvious they weren't going to let you, the old Hokage said sadly. I know, but I still had to leave him abandoned in an orphanage with no one to take care of him. That doesn't matter. What matters is that Naruto is a good person and he'll surely forgive you even if it wasn't your fault. Okay, fine, but where's Naruto now? I want to see him. Well, Georgia, since I knew you were coming, I ordered Shisui and Itachi, 2 elite Uchiha, to train Naruto for these 2 weeks, and this last week before the exams you would be in charge of his training. Perfect. But now I have a couple of questions. How does he get along with the Uchiha, and also how skilled is Naruto? You told me you would train him, but you never told me what he needs my help with besides his abilities, which, given that he possesses the Rinnegan, I can imagine a little. What? He gets along very well with the Uchiha, he said as Georgia made a face of disgust. Although he doesn't have arrogance or superiority, and as for his abilities I think it would be best if you asked Itachi, the Toad Sannin said with a smile, promising a great surprise. The only thing I'll tell you is that he has the same or more chakra than Kushina, he said, leaving the Sannin speechless. That kid might have more chakra than me, and along with the Rinnegan that makes me want to go to him right now and be his teacher even more, he thought before flying out the window, leaving the Hokage laughing at his students' impatience. Meanwhile, with Naruto, Itachi, and Shisui, field number 16. What, Georgia, a Sannin and also my godfather is going to train me? Naruto shouted loudly. Yes, exactly. Georgia, the Toad Sannin, will train you for these 2 months. It's not long, but together with him, I know you'll do several things that will help you in the exams. Naruto, unable to wait any longer, disappeared in a gust of wind, demonstrating his mastery of the Shunshin no Jutsu by adding the wind element to it, leaving Itachi talking to himself. Itachi, I think they've left you talking to yourself, he said mockingly. Not a word about this, Shisui, Itachi said with a serious face, causing Shisui to laugh. Meanwhile, Naruto, who was speeding towards the Hokage Tower, collided head-on with someone who was also moving at high speed. Naruto bounced off the person's robust body. When he got up to look at the person, he saw a very tall person with white hair. These characteristics were those of the famous Sannin since he knew from what he had talked to Itachi about who had described him. Regarding Georgia, when he saw a child bounce off his body, he was surprised. He was going at a very high speed, and for their bodies to collide, the child would have had to be moving at a similar speed. When he looked down, he was shocked to see that child a carbon copy of Minato. When he saw him, he saw his father reflected in him. Couldn't they be that similar? Boy, what's your name? The Sannin asked, pretending to be clueless and helping him to his feet. My name is Naruto, and you're the Toad Sannin, right? The blonde boy said excitedly. I see she looks just like Minato, but personality-wise she seems more like Kushina, haha, the Sannin thought. Well, I see you already know who I am. Of course I know who you are, but I see you realized it too, didn't you? Naruto asked, already knowing her answer in advance. Haha, exactly, shorty, I like you now. Well, as you know, why don't we get down to business and go train, but before that, why don't we go to the hot springs to relax? I asked with a slightly perverted smile. Okay, Jiraiya-sensei. Why does this sound suspicious? Naruto thought, not imagining what was coming. Chapter 19, Rikudo Sennin, the Legendary Sannin. Naruto and Jiraiya were walking peacefully towards the hot springs. It was an awkward silence until Naruto asked something. Jiraiya-sensei, why are we going to the hot springs first? I want to train right now. We're only 2 months away from the Chunin exams. What? I already told you, Naruto, you need to relax. After this, I'll teach you a technique that your father created, the Sannin said, leaving Naruto desperate because he thought he didn't know he was his godfather and also because he was going to teach him a technique from his own father. Jiraiya-sensei, so you knew. Well, that's fine, but I hope that technique is spectacular. Databeo, hahaha, Kushina would be happy right now, the Sannin thought. Well, Naruto, that'll be later, now we have to go in. Looking at the entrance to the baths, he said ominously before dashing off towards the baths. I have to do my research. Investigations, what investigations? He said before being dragged away by Jiraiya. In the hot springs. The two quickly entered the restrooms, well said Jiraiya, since Naruto was being dragged along by him. Once inside, Naruto wondered why he was in such a hurry, finding the answer a few minutes later. Jiraiya Sennin was spying in the restrooms. Naruto was perplexed as to how someone with such renown could stoop so low, so to get revenge, he decided to play a prank on him. Jiraiya-sensei, he called to the man who was looking through a hole that led to the women's bathroom. What's up, Naruto? He answered without looking at him, I have a surprise for you. Just turn around, he replied as he turned around, and Naruto made a cross with his fingers, Harem no Jutsu. He shouted, making a bunch of naked girls appear, causing the Sennin to have a nosebleed. Damn brat, he said, covering his nose to stop the blood from gushing out. You like what you see? The clone said seductively, approaching him. Jiraiya couldn't take it anymore and flew off with a massive nosebleed, also having the bad luck to land in the women's restroom and receive a real beating. Hahaha, that's what he gets for being such a pervert, Rikudo Sennin. Hahaha. Naruto laughed as cries for help and curses directed at Naruto could be heard. After Jiraiya received his beating, they went to field number 16, but not before receiving a lecture from Jiraiya. Dwarf, why did you betray me like this? I was just doing my research. Because you're a pervert, Rikudo Sennin. That's not research, that's spying. Besides, what's the point of these so-called investigations? I'm not a pervert, I'm a super pervert, he said, striking his usual ridiculous pose. Besides, I don't like you calling me that. You don't know anything, kid, that's why. What, Rikudo Sennin, but it fits you perfectly, hahaha, she said as she threw herself to the floor laughing. Damn kid from hell, he said as he turned around and continued walking. Currently field number 16. Alright Naruto, let's begin your training, the Sennin said, now more serious. I'll teach you the Rasengan, a jutsu your father developed that could be very useful to you. It's an A-rank jutsu, so it will take you quite a bit of effort to master it. For now, we'll concentrate on that. I don't know your current level, which is why I told Itachi to come back in about 5 minutes so he can explain your level to me. I know you at least know the basics of chakra control, right? He asked, receiving a nod from Naruto. Well, the jutsu consists of concentrating chakra in your hand and rotating Ita chakra rotation but without losing its shape. I think the best way to understand it is for you to see it, he said as he formed the Rasengan and slammed it into a tree, creating a hole right in the middle and leaving Naruto very surprised by the power of the jutsu. I understand, Jiraiya-sensei. Now what's the first step? He asked, very excited. The first step is this, he said, handing him some water balloons he had previously bought. These balloons are for you to try to form the chakra within it, he explained as he took a balloon and it popped. If it pops, it means you were able to. Yes, Rikudo Sennin, I know I can do it. He shouted as he grabbed the balloons and tried. Meanwhile, Jiraiya moved a little away towards where he was going to meet Itachi. After a few minutes, Itachi finally arrived. It's a pleasure to see you, Jiraiya-sama, he said, bowing respectfully. Alright, no need for so much formality, Itachi, I said, waving my hand well, getting to the point. What is Naruto's true power level? I know you've been training with him quite a bit, and that leads to my other question. Why is the genius of the Uchiha clan training Naruto? Well, Jiraiya-san, the first answer is that Naruto has average chakra control, possesses the 5 affinities, and also has a couple of high-level jutsus such as the Shadow Clone Technique, Shadow Shuriken Technique, Fire Release, Great Fireball Technique, Water Release, Pressurized Water Jet, Wind Release, Air Ball, in addition to Shisui teaching him his mastery of the Body Flicker Technique. As for your other question, Naruto, besides being my student, is someone dear to me. I saw how he suffered in this village, but he never gave up. The truth is that he can become not only physically strong but also mentally strong. He's going to be a great shinobi, especially considering his enormous chakra reserves, his healing power thanks to the Nine Tails and the Nine Tails chakra and his Jujutsu, which will give him great power. Alright Itachi, thanks for telling me everything, though I kind of expected it, he said before leaving, somewhat regretting asking why he'd trained him. I really didn't expect an answer like that, but speaking of his abilities, he truly has tremendous potential. His speed and strength are already that of a Chunin approaching Jonin. He possesses an arsenal of jutsu, and the added bonus of Shisui teaching him that gives him a huge speed boost. It'll be perfect to use that with the Rasengan. It'll be similar to how Minato used his Rasengan with his jutsu. Well, Naruto, a great future awaits you, he thought as a smile began to form on his face. Meanwhile, Naruto was still trying to pop the balloon. He moved it around but couldn't break it completely. Naruto was frustrated, but just as he was about to give up, Jiraiya appeared. What's wrong, shorty? Can't get it right, he said mockingly. Shut up, Rikudo Sennin. And don't call me a dwarf, he shouted, a large vein popping out on his forehead showing his anger. Hahaha, okay kid, I saw you were able to make some progress, but can you not go any further? He asked, now more serious. If the truth is I haven't even been able to break the balloon, I can only puncture it. I know you've discovered that you have to form chakra inside the balloon, but besides that, what could you do to make it stronger so you can break the balloon? The Sannin asked, hoping Naruto could figure out the trick. Naruto thought for a while, but after a few minutes something occurred to him. Hirosenin, he called, a vein popping out on Hirosenin's forehead at the nickname he'd been given. Is it possible that I have to make the water rotate more forcefully with the help of chakra so that it applies more pressure to the balloon so that it can break? He asked, making the Sannin laugh a little. The blonde was right, and Giorgio was happy to know that Naruto had at least a little deduction ability to think about jutsus, something essential for developing and learning them. You're right, well Naruto, I'll let you try again. I'm going to the Hokage Tower to see if I can talk to the Hokage about something important. I'll be back in a few hours, see you later. He said goodbye as he disappeared in a body flicker technique. Naruto trained for an hour, finally managing to make the balloon pop. Having achieved his goal, he rested and reflected on everything that had happened so far. The truth is, when I discovered this power and learned my lineage, my whole life changed. I'm so grateful to Jiji. If it weren't for him, I'd be in a much worse place right now. No matter how much I suffered as a child, all that suffering was worth it. That's why I decided to follow this path and become Hokage. Ka-chan and Tu-chan would be so happy for me. It's a shame they won't be able to see me become Hokage. Honestly, all of this is so wonderful. He exclaimed before lying down against a tree to rest for a while. Now that I think about it, I wonder what Hakuchin is doing. He said before closing his eyes and drifting off to sleep. Meanwhile, in the center of the village, Zabuza and Haku walked peacefully through the village. The truth was, neither Zabuza nor Haku were used to this change yet. They had never been so calm in their lives. Before, they had to be alert to every danger they could encounter, but now, at least while inside the village, they could be a little more at ease. Haku was thinking about all the changes they had gone through. She never imagined Zabuza would accept Kakashi's deal, but even though she would follow Zabuza no matter what decision he made, she wanted to come to Konoha. She wanted a quieter life, and besides, here they wouldn't hunt her for her Kekai Henkai. But beyond that, she also wanted to come for that boy. The truth was, Naruto seemed like a completely sincere boy with extraordinary abilities. Besides possessing great powers, he was down-to-earth and cheerful. I don't think that boy wanted power to destroy. Quite the opposite, he wanted it to protect. Haku was very interested in Naruto, although she couldn't say in what way. Zabuza, for his part, was only thinking about his own safety and Haku's, as well as the fact that he could keep track of the boy's progress. It wasn't every day that one would see someone possessing the Rinnegan in addition to the Kyuubi, two absolutely ridiculous powers that if they were ever controlled would make someone unstoppable. This boy would change the world, but besides that, Zabuza also had his thoughts on the blonde boy's personality, someone sincere and with a pure heart completely opposite to his own. This boy would only use his power to protect his loved ones. Zabuza was very interested in him. If necessary, he might even take him on as an apprentice. Although their ideologies were completely opposed, they both sought the same thing, peace. Chapter 20, The Two Uzumaki. Haku and Zabuza arrived at the Hokage Tower, as the Hokage had summoned them to discuss a few matters concerning their lives in Konoha. Upon entering, they went directly to the Hokage's office and knocked on the door, only to receive a simple come in from him. Ah, I see Hakuchin and Zabuzasan have arrived. Well, for those I summoned here, it's to see what you will do now. Do you wish to become shinobi of the village? Your 4-month waiting period of control with the ANBU has been completed. Now you can join the shinobi force. Yes, Hokage-sama, we will join the forces. We are shinobi, we couldn't have any other life, said Zabuza. Alright Zabuza, and I know Haku is the same. Well Zabuza, with your skills and experience, you can be a jounin without any problems. It's up to you whether you take a genin team or work as a normal jounin, although I already know your answer. And you Haku, I'll give you 2 options. Which ones are Hokage-sama? The Ice Ninja asked hesitantly. The first is to become a chunin, and the second, but I think you'll choose this one, is to be a genin but on the same team as Naruto. Zabuzasan, may I? The Ice Ninja asked hopefully. Alright Haku, I was going to tell you to choose that option anyway so I can see the kid's progress, he said while nodding to the Hokage. Alright, it's decided. I'll let you know when you can meet up with Naruto since he's currently in training, he said while Zabuza wondered who he would train with. Well, Hokage-sama will be taking our leave. Goodbye, he said as he said goodbye to Haku and left his office. I see that young woman was a great help to Naruto when he lost his mind, the Hokage thought as he smoked his pipe. But just as Sarutobi was relaxing, he heard a noise from the window, already imagining who it could be. I see you've already met Naruto, Jirja. Yes, exactly, old man, he said as he climbed in through the window. Honestly, he surprises me. He's more than I expected. He's a genius, though I imagined him to be the son of Minato and Kushina. He has everything it takes to become the ninja of prophecy, and he's also a kind-hearted person. I hope to guide him down the right path. I know you'll do it, Georgia, but why have you come here now? I imagine you left Naruto training. I left him training for a bit, but I imagine he's finished by now. I need to talk to you about a few things. What is it, Georgia? Is it about Naruto? If it's about Naruto, I'd like to meet his teammates. It's important that he knows them because if he's prepared for the Chunin exams but his teammates aren't, he won't be able to pass the first part of the exam. Don't worry, Georgia, there are two solutions. The first is that I'm thinking of changing Naruto's team, but even if that's not possible, his current team is training with Kakashi. Ah, I see, old man. At least you could tell me who the members of his current team are or the next team he'll have. Alright, Georgia, your current team is occupied by Sasuke Uchiha, Itachi Uchiha's younger brother. He's very skilled as a ninja, possessing two affinities, fire and lightning release, and he already has the second comma of the Sharigan. However, he has a personality problem and is arrogant. He thinks he's the center of the world just for being an Uchiha. Something his brother doesn't have as much of. Your other member is Sakura Haruno, a kunoichi with good chakra control and intelligence, but with a great obsession with the Uchiha clan. I see, said the Gamma Sennin, but who do you want to trade him to now? The Sannin asked, intrigued. If the old man wanted to change his team, it was for a reason. You'll see now that Haku is here, an excellent kunoichi who also possesses a Kekai Henkai. We recently received a girl who was found in the village hidden in the rice, but the most interesting thing about her is that she's in Uzumaki, he said, leaving Georgia surprised. But that's impossible. I thought Naruto was the last survivor. Don't believe that, Georgia. There were some survivors and they spread throughout the ninja world. Well, now I see why you want to change his team, but now we'd have two problems, old man. First, has the girl received ninja training? And second, what will happen to Naruto's old team? He can't just leave them alone because now he'll have a better team. The girl's name is Akame Uzumaki. She's an expert sensory ninja, able to sense the presence of ninjas from miles away. She's had very poor shinobi training, but I've already put Yugo in charge. The girl learns quickly, and she also has Naruto's terrible traits. I imagine the enormous chakra, larger than our own, being Kage and Sannin. Hahaha, exactly, Georgia. The difference is that he has less than Naruto. If we're talking about someone who would never have to worry about low chakra reserves, it's Naruto. That kid could repeat jutsus like crazy if he had good chakra control. That's a shame, but at least he has pretty decent control. I'll settle for that, he said as he climbed out the window. See you later, old man. He'll come to visit you in a little while. Now I have to train Naruto. Okay, Georgia, see you later, sometime later. Naruto looked great, smiling and happy to have achieved his goal. Now he was truly stronger. This time he would never again have to see a friend suffering or on the verge of death for being too weak. Naruto was walking peacefully until he heard a voice. Your training ends here. I'm proud of you, said Georgia, who had appeared using a body flicker technique. Sennin, thank you for training me, he said with a big smile, while Georgia's forehead throbbed with a vein because of that stupid nickname. Leave him there, brat. Now we just have to think about the Chunin exams, he said, thinking about Naruto's training. Flashback. Naruto made great progress in his training with Georgia. Although due to their limited time, the only thing they could do was enable Naruto to perform the Rasengan without clones, in addition to improving his chakra control. Although at this point his level would be Chunin level, he could defend himself against a Jonin quite well, or at least escape. Another thing that improved considerably was his control of the Rinnegan, at least in Shinra Tensei and Bancho Tenin, meaning his control over gravity. Furthermore, his relationship with Georgia grew stronger. Georgia told him about the prophecy entrusted to him by the Toads, as well as his desire for world peace, and also passed on his ideology to Naruto, who seemed very similar. Naruto, in turn, told him about his dream of becoming Hokage, making the Sannin laugh and think that he was just like his father. Current time. Naruto and Georgia were walking towards the Hokage Tower because they had been summoned, although they weren't the only ones. Haku and Zabuza had also been called. Haku, what could the Hokage have called you for? Could it be about the proposal I mentioned to you the other day? Zabuza asked. I don't know, Zabuza-san, but I hope that's why. I'm bored of being in my room all day. I want to go back to ninja missions, he replied. I know, Haku, but this all seems suspicious to me. I mean, the Hokage offered you a team with Naruto even though he already has a team. Besides, a Genin team has to consist of 3 people and a Jonin in charge. Plus, he'd have to put someone on Naruto's old team. There'd have to be one more person on his next team, and also a Jonin sensei. Do you understand, Haku? He asked, making the ice ninja nod. This really smells fishy to me. I honestly don't know, teacher, but I hope this is at least interesting. Haku, all I'm saying is that Naruto is pure potential. Right now I'm telling you he should be at your level. Listen to him, that boy is going to be a great ninja in the future, Zabuza finished, while Haku looked seriously at Zabuza. It was very rare to see Zabuza praising someone. He must know well what he could be in the future, so Haku just nodded and obeyed. Haku and Zabuza finally arrived at the Hokage Tower, surprisingly finding Jiraiya and Naruto there. "Hello, Hakuchin," Naruto shouted, surprised to see the girl in the tower. "Hello, Naruto-kun," he replied with a smile as he and Zabuza approached where Naruto and Jiraiya were. "Hello, Jiraiya-sama," Zabuza greeted, having spotted the Gamma Sage. "I see you didn't choose just anyone to train Naruto. Who would have thought it would be none other than a legendary Sannin?" Zabuza thought. "Ah, I see you know me, Zabuza," the Sannin said, surprising Zabuza that he knew him. "I see you know me too," he replied, surprised. "Of course I know you. How could I not know one of the members of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist? Besides, they came to live in Konoha thanks to Naruto. Besides, do you also know who I am or not?" "How could I not know Jiraiya-sama?" he replied, while Haku looked at him, waiting for him to tell him who he was. "How could I not know one of the 3 legendary Sannin of Konoha?" he said, surprising Haku. "Well, since we're here, are you sure the Hokage summoned you all?" Naruto asked, already wondering why everyone had been called. "Well, shall we go in?" he asked as they all followed him into the tower. When they arrived at the office, they knocked on the door, causing the Hokage to shout for them to come in. But when they entered, they were surprised to find a girl about Naruto's age, who also had red hair and wore clothes with the Uzumaki symbol, leaving Naruto in shock. "Hey old man, we're here," he called to Hokage Jiraiya. "So that's Uzumaki, she's pretty cute, Naruto, you gotta take advantage of this, hahaha," he thought while also imagining perverted things and also grateful that he was assigned such a young student so he could gather material from him. "Well, do you know why I called you or not?" the Hokage asked. "She's Akame Uzumaki," he introduced, clearing up Naruto's doubts. "Hello, nice to meet you," Uzumaki said loudly. "Hello, nice to meet you, Akame," Naruto replied quickly, while the others also greeted him from behind. Akame was surprised because the first person to greet her upon sensing his chakra astonished her. This boy possessed the most chakra of all the villagers, even more than she did as his reserves were quite large, not to say enormous. It was astonishing. But his chakra was also warm, as if in perfect harmony, though there was another presence within it, almost like an evil chakra. In short, Naruto's chakra was like yin and yang. The only thing she couldn't stop thinking about was that his chakra was similar to her own, but it was impossible for him to be in Uzumaki since his hair was blonde. But the most pleasant surprise for Akame was seeing that eye of legend, the great Rinnegan. This boy was the bearer of those great eyes. "Well, Akame, the one you greeted first is also one of the survivors of your clan. He is Uzumaki Naruto," the Hokage said, finally addressing Akame. She hadn't expected this, having dismissed that possibility, although she already suspected that Naruto was a mix of 2 clans. "Hahaha, I see, Akame-shin, that we're from the same clan. It's good that there's another one from the same clan," he said, sounding a little depressed since he felt very lonely, believing himself to be the only one in the clan. But that state only lasted a while because Akame rushed towards Naruto and hugged him. "I thought I was alone," she said through tears. "Don't worry, Akame is not alone," I replied as I returned the hug, reassuring Akame. Although Haku was suppressing his urge to kill Akame, Zabuza noticed this and gestured for Haku to calm down. He would have to talk to Haku seriously about this later. "Well, since we're all here, the reason I called you here is to tell you that I'm going to create a new genin team with you as members," he said, surprisingly pointing at the 4 of them, Naruto, Haku, Akame, and Zabuza, leaving everyone who didn't know in awe. Chapter 21, Equipment Test. "Hokage's room. What do you mean, that you're going to change my team?" he asked, intrigued. "Well, as I said, Naruto, this team will be created simply because new ninjas have entered the village, and don't worry about your old team since it will be assigned to someone who entered the genin of the Anbu Sai, so your old team won't be so bad. But still, Jiji, you can't just leave Sasuke and Sakura like this. I know they hurt me by saying some things, but Sasuke risked his life to save mine. They're not such bad people. I know, Naruto, but this is only being done because we need to form a new team, and since you're in Uzumaki and also Haku's friend, you'd be the best fit for that team. Kakashi Hadake will be notified immediately that he'll have a new member and that you'll be leaving the team," he said in an authoritative voice. "Okay, Jiji, I give up," she said, although she was happy because she would be with someone who helped her and a girl from her clan. "Well, this week you'll have time to train your teamwork. The genin can retire now. I want to speak with your superiors, but first, any complaints?" "No, Hokage-sama," Haku and Akame replied simultaneously. "All right, you can leave," he said as the 3 disappeared. "I see the 3 of you know the body flicker technique, haha," the Sannin said. "Now for the important question, Zabuza-san, are you sure you want to accept this equipment?" "Yes, of course, Hokage-sama, besides I know that at least Naruto and Haku are qualified to be Chunin. I don't know anything about Uzumaki." "I have my doubts too, old man. How skilled is Uzumaki?" the Sannin asked. "Yugai, come here." Sarutobi shouted, causing an Anbu to appear. "What do you wish, Hokage-sama?" I want you to explain the Uzumaki's abilities since she has been training with you for these 2 months. Akame is truly skilled. She's a highly skilled sensor ninja. I'd even say she can compete with the best in this field. Furthermore, the girl possesses enormous chakra and immense strength. Regarding jutsu, she knows some elemental jutsu. Her affinities are wind and fire. The truth is the girl is quite skilled, but at this moment she's at the level of a chunin. It's a classic Uzumaki and it's also very good, Jirya said. I see you'll have fun, Zabuza, haha, laughed the Hokage. I see that, he said before retreating towards the genin. What a great team the Hokage created. I hope they gel quickly. I have 2 Uzumaki with almost inexhaustible chakra, one of whom possesses the Rinnegan, and Haku who wields the ice element. I think many would be jealous of the team I have, haha, he thought as a grin formed, revealing those shark-like teeth. Meanwhile, like Haku, Akame, and Naruto. Naruto, there's something I've wanted to ask you since you greeted me, Akame asked, sounding somewhat uncertain. What is Akame-chan? It's about your eyes, are they really the ones I think they are? He asked, making Naruto and Haku tense up since he knew about those eyes. Yes, exactly, Akame-chan, these eyes are the Rinnegan, a legendary Daojutsu, Naruto replied very seriously, while Haku was surprised to learn that he was already handling being the bearer of such powerful eyes well. But now the question is, how do you know that? What I expected, my parents told me before they died, she said, sounding somewhat depressed, making Naruto regret asking. Flashback. A beautiful little girl with long, fiery red hair is seen sitting at the table, chatting with her 2 parents. Well, Akame-chan, it's time to tell you a great legend that is told about the Uzumaki. Okay, Kachin, replied the little redhead. Well, it all began with a strange woman who fell from the sky. This mysterious woman fell in love with a man who lived in a village. At that time there were no ninjas or anything like that, so the world was in a constant state of war. This mysterious woman married a man who lived in a village and everything was happy until her husband was murdered. Tired of so much war, she went to a tree that had supposedly also fallen from the sky and ate its only fruit, becoming the first person to possess chakra. She stopped the war and they were able to have a time of peace. Later, she had 2 sons named Hagoromo and Hamura. As the years passed, these 2 sons developed a different ideology from their mother. After some time, she became a sovereign hungry for chakra and power. Then the 2 sons decided to defeat their mother. Being the sons of the first person to possess chakra, they had great power. Her eldest son, Hagoromo, developed a great ocular power called the Rinnegan. This power, combined with his brothers, allowed them to defeat her and seal her on the moon, which the younger brother then took charge of. To take care of her, while Hagoromo spread the teachings of chakra throughout the world. Wow, that's surprising, Kachin. Akinchin, if you ever happen to find someone with those eyes, I want you to follow him, especially if that boy happens to be an Uzumaki, her mother said, leaving Akin completely confused at the time. End of flashback. I don't know, Kachin, if this is pure coincidence or if it was meant to be, Akame thought. I'm sorry, Akame-chan, I didn't mean to hurt you, Naruto apologized. It's okay, Naruto, no problem, she said with a smile. But how did you get those eyes? From what I've heard, they're legendary eyes. Well, I was born with them, I still can't explain where I got them from, he said, brushing his bangs aside to reveal the 2 Rinnegan, which even without murderous intent quite intimidated Haku and Akame. Those eyes are powerful, I don't want to face that again, Haku thought, remembering what happened when they fought, making a mental note never to bother Naruto again. While the kids were chatting about trivial things, Zabuza arrived, silencing everyone. Alright brats, as the Hokage said, I'll be your sensei. For those who don't know me, I'm Zabuza Mamachi, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, he said, surprising Akame, who hadn't imagined one of the 7 ninja swordsmen would be in the Hidden Leaf Village. Well, as the Hokage said, we need to prepare for the Chunin exams and I decided to give you a test that Kakashi recommended, he said as Kakashi appeared. Hey guys, he said, raising his hand in greeting. Kakashi-sensei, it's good to see you, but do you already know about the team or not? I know, Naruto, it's no problem if you change teams. If you need help with training or anything, just call me. It doesn't matter if you're on another team, Naruto, she said, cheering Naruto up. And who is he? Akame asked. He is Kakashi Hadake. The copy ninja, Akame said before Zabuza could reply. I see you know me, said the copy ninja. How could I not know one of the best ninjas in the village? I did a lot of research on this village to adapt, and when I was studying some things, the first thing that came up was that you are one of the best ninjas. Thanks for the compliment, but it's not that big of a deal. There are several good ninjas in the village. Well, Kakashi came here to help me with a test that Naruto knows very well. Wait, don't tell me that's the return test, she said as Kakashi and Zabuza smiled beneath their respective masks, but Haku and Akame understood nothing. Exactly, all they have to do is take our bells, he said, showing one bell belonging to Kakashi and the other to Zabuza. This won't be as easy as last time, Naruto, he said, making Naruto swallow hard as he had said it in a very serious tone. Alright, let's begin, said Zabuza, and immediately the three genin disappeared, putting Kakashi and Zabuza on guard. The three genin met in a part of the forest because they had to plan something to be able to take the bells from him. Naruto, you already know what the test is like, tell us a little more, said Haku. Well, the test itself consists of teamwork. When he tested me with my old team, I managed to take it from him purely by luck since he got distracted and overconfident. I know it won't be as easy this time. Well, we need to come up with a plan. We can't fight two jounin together, Akim said as they brainstormed. Meanwhile, with Zabuza and Kakashi. The only one I sense is Haku, Zabuza said, surprised. Me too, said Kakashi. The Uzumaki, besides possessing enormous reserves, I see that they hide quite well. I could sense Naruto there, Zabuza commented. I see he got tired of hiding his presence. The only one I can't sense is Akame, that brat really knows how to hide. But just as the two jounin were talking, Naruto appeared, created a clone, and with a Shunshin no Jutsu appeared in front of the two jounin, making them defend themselves and separating them. I see they plan to separate us, Kakashi thought. Not so fast, Naruto. Kakashi shouted, taking off his headband and activating his Sharigan, dodging every blow Naruto attempted. I see I'm still no match for a jounin in Taijutsu, Naruto said, sounding a bit depressed. The only option I have left is this. What the? Kakashi didn't get a chance to speak because Naruto raised both hands and shouted. Shinra Tensei making Kakashi fly, finally separating him from Zabuza. In addition, Haku had been preparing the whole time for this moment. When Kakashi landed on the ground, Haku acted immediately and immobilized him with an ice jutsu, finally taking the bell from him. I see you managed to catch me, but Haku, please let me go, my ankles and wrists are freezing, said Kakashi, whose clothes were filthy and had some tears in them. Meanwhile, with Zabuza. Zabuza easily defeated Naruto's clone, but at that moment Akame appeared to fight Zabuza. Although she wasn't on the same level in Taijutsu and Ninjutsu as the jounin, she defended herself quite well. Zabuza, fed up with this, decided to teach her a lesson. Suten Suryuden no Jutsu, she shouted, forming a water dragon that was heading towards her. But surprisingly, Akame responded. Air release, water release technique, he said, contrasting somewhat with Zabuza's jutsu, though he couldn't contain it all. But before being swept away by the water, he was saved by Naruto thanks to the body flicker technique. Naruto, I see you've been able to perfect the Shunshin no Jutsu. Even I can't reach that speed. How did you learn this in such a short time? The creator of that jutsu, Shisui, taught me, he said, leaving Shisui's mouth agape. The flickering body then showed him his famous jutsu. Alright, enough talk, let's fight Naruto, he said, drawing his enormous sword and plunging it into the ground. This test was only to see his skill level and teamwork, not to kill him. The two took their positions at full speed and engaged in a taijutsu duel. Zabuza came down at full speed, attempting to hit him with a left hook which Naruto by chance dodged. Naruto noticed that Zabuza lost his balance slightly while trying to land the blow. He spun around, attempting to hit him with a kick which Zabuza caught and threw away. He was a jounin after all. Naruto pulled out a shuriken and threw it. Zabuza, confident since he had once used the same jutsu against him, was only going to dodge, but he was surprised when Naruto shouted. Cage Shuriken no Jutsu, causing the shuriken to multiply by 100, making it a very difficult task since Zabuza was dodging. But being focused on that task, he didn't see that Haku and Akame were going to do a collaboration jutsu. Hyoten Hyoryuden no Jutsu. Futen Kaizukiri no Jutsu. They both said as the great wind-propelled dragon crashed into Zabuza, causing him to dodge the attack, though not easily, as the attack struck his leg, immobilizing him. Taking advantage of this, Naruto removed the bell from Zabuza's waist while he was recovering from the attack. The three genin withdrew from there, waiting in the center of the field for their sensei to appear. They waited about 15 minutes until Zabuza appeared, having recovered, as had Kakashi. What's up, Kakashi? I see you're pretty dirty, haha, Zabuza laughed. I think I'm not the only one, he said, smiling beneath his mask, which irritated Zabuza. Well, since you completed the test, you have these last few days to rest before the exams, he said before Kakashi and Zabuza disappeared. Well, girls, I think I'll see you tomorrow. See you later, said Naruto, who left looking somewhat sore. The girls noticed, but just as they were about to say something, Naruto disappeared, leaving their words unspoken. Chapter 22, Surprise, Hawkage Tower. Zabuza and Kakashi, having just finished their fight, went to the Hawkage Tower to inform him. Kakashi, Zabuza, I see you've arrived, the Hawkage spoke. Yes, Hokage-sama, we just finished the test, Kakashi said. Sarutobi saw how the two Jonin were and couldn't help but smile. Three genin had put two of the best ninjas the village currently had in a tight spot, although it was obvious that if they had wanted to, they could have beaten them. I see the three of them caused him trouble, haha. Those three brats are too strong to be Genin. Haku herself, whom I trained from a young age, could fight a Jounin if she wanted, obviously a low-ranking Jounin, but a Jounin nonetheless. Naruto is at the same level as her, or so I believe. Don't be so sure, Kakashi interrupted. He demonstrated the power of those eyes to me today. What did Kakashi do? The Hokage asked, intrigued. It was a rather strange jutsu. It was as if it controlled gravity, it directly repelled me from my position. It was as if something was pushing me extremely hard. That's called Shinra Tensei, a voice interrupted. Jirya, Kakashi shouted in surprise. So it's one of his eye jutsu, Zabuza said softly. He only has a little control over it, but you know what Kakashi can do, right? He said with a smile. If it were perfected, he could destroy Konoha if he wanted to, he said, making everyone present swallow hard. Okay, enough talk, Zabuza, tell me how everyone performed. Well, to begin with, all three of them have an excellent ability to conceal their chakra, making them difficult to track. Naruto was the first to face us, managing to separate us both using the jutsu Kakashi mentioned, which also destabilized him. From what Haku told me, he used a jutsu to immobilize him, he said as Kakashi nodded, thus obtaining the first bell. In my case, I faced Naruto, who, thanks to the cage shuriken no jutsu, distracted me, allowing me to dodge and repel the shuriken. At that moment, Haku and Akame took advantage of the situation to attack me from behind with a collaborative jutsu. I was able to dodge it, but Naruto acted immediately, and thanks to his speed, he was able to take the bell from me, allowing me to successfully complete the test. I see, very intelligent. I see you have good teamwork, and I'm pleased with that. You may leave, Zabuza Hokage said as Zabuza nodded and disappeared along with Jirya, leaving Kakashi about to leave but being stopped by the Hokage. Hold it right there, Kakashi. What happened, Hokage-sama? He asked, already knowing what he was going to say. Have you told the boys yet? Sai is arriving today and you need to introduce him to his new team, the Hokage said seriously. I was just about to go talk to Sakura and Sasuke, Kakashi said. Don't hide it from him anymore. I know this will affect the Uchiha, but this will be temporary since I plan to put Sasuke back on the same team if they both become Chunin. Fugaki will kill me when he finds out. I'd better go talk to him so I can sort this out too, the Hokage thought. Alright, Hokage-sama, I'll take my leave, he said as he disappeared with a shunshin, heading towards training ground number 7 since Sasuke and Sakura were surely training there. Anbu, shouted the Hokage. Yes, Hokage-sama, the Anbu asked. Summon Fugaku Uchiha immediately. Sarutobi shouted, yes, Hokage-sama. He replied before leaving, wondering what argument the Hokage would face since he would be betraying a promise even if it was only temporary. Meanwhile, Kakashi, who had arrived at field number 7, saw Sasuke with his Sharigan activated, showing 2 commas in one eye and 3 in the other. His hand was also filled with Raiten chakra, demonstrating that Kakashi had taught him the Chidori. I see you were able to master it, Sasuke, said Kakashi, who suddenly appeared. Yes, Kakashi-sensei, I finally mastered it, the Uchiha said arrogantly. And where is Sakura? He asked doubtfully. He's training over there, I replied disdainfully. Sakura, meanwhile, was training her aim and physical strength for taijutsu, surprising Kakashi, who watched her progress from afar. Sakura had truly improved. She had made the most of those months she'd been given to train. Now, Kakashi was also surprised that she wasn't bothering Sasuke. What could be behind Sakura's change? Sakura, Kakashi called, surprising her. Kakashi-sensei, I see you've arrived, he replied with a smile. Sakura, since we're alone, can I ask you something? He asked. Of course, Kakashi-sensei, is this why the sudden change? You're not bothering Sasuke, and you're focused on your ninja training. It's not that I don't want to. In fact, I'm glad you've improved so much compared to 6 months ago. Well, Kakashi-sensei, where do I begin? It was that time Haku the Ice Ninja spoke to me. I've been reflecting and everything she said is true. How can I treat Naruto like this? And how can I only worry about Sasuke knowing that my life and Naruto's and Sasuke's are also in danger? I don't want them to be the only ones facing these dangers. I want to be useful too. Speaking of which, I still like Sasuke, and I'll support him in everything, but that doesn't mean I'll neglect my ninja training or mistreat Naruto. Sakura said, surprising Kakashi, who had expected anything but this. At least Sakura had changed a lot in these 6 months, something surprising. Sakura usually seems like a fangirl, but with this she showed she's more mature than she appears. Hahaha. Sakura, I'm glad about that, she said as a U formed in her eye. Well, now I need you to come with me. I need to talk to you and Sasuke about something very important. Alright, Kakashi-sensei, he said, then followed Kakashi to where Sasuke was. Guys, now that I have you both together, I have some bad news, he said. Leaving the 2 genin intrigued. Naruto no longer belongs to this group, he said, now truly surprising them both. Why doesn't that Dobi belong to the team anymore? He said hatefully. He couldn't bear to see that Dobi leave without first beating him and proving that he didn't deserve those eyes. Relax, Sasuke. If you want to fight him, you'll have your chance. All I'm saying is be careful. He's strong, I know you are too, but he's not weak, he said, leaving Sasuke surprised. Kakashi would never lie and say something like that. How is that possible? That idiot is a failure. He proved it in the fight against Zabuza and Haku, Sasuke shouted, angry at the praise Naruto was receiving. I fought him recently and didn't fare too well. I may have held back, but you have very complex and powerful jutsu that gave me quite a hard time, he said, leaving Sakura and Sasuke surprised. So Naruto, now that those eyes have awakened, is very strong, Sakura thought intelligently. How is that possible? Sasuke asked. His eyes, Kakashi replied simply. Grant him very complex jutsus that control gravity. Damn Dobi, how can you get so strong just to make Kakashi-sensei look bad? He thought. Well, they changed the subject. The important thing now is that Naruto will have a new team with Haku, he said, looking at Sakura, who lowered her head in disappointment, and in Uzumaki, making them both look at Kakashi strangely. Wait, Uzumaki, isn't that Naruto's last name? Sakura asked. Exactly, it seems he found a girl his age who is in Uzumaki. They decided she should join the village. The Uzumaki, believe it or not, are a large and very powerful clan, distant cousins of the Senju, he clarified, leaving Sasuke thoughtful. So Naruto is related to the Senju. No wonder I always didn't get along with him and had a rivalry with him even though he was much worse than me, Sasuke thought. I never thought Naruto was from a clan, I thought he was like me, said Sakura. Believe it or not, Naruto has very special blood, and that combined with the Kyuubi gives him a very advanced healing ability, healing wounds in a few hours. Also, do you remember what I told him when we climbed the trees? Does Naruto possess more chakra than us? Sakura asked. Exactly, the more chakra the harder it is to control. That's why Naruto was useless during his childhood. Naruto has more chakra than anyone in the village, even more than the Hokage. All that chakra is thanks to the Uzumaki blood combined with the Kyuubi, he said, surprising Sakura. Why does something tell me you already knew that, Sasuke? Kakashi asked, since Sasuke was listening intently to everything he was saying about Naruto's abilities. I knew it, I felt it. Naruto possesses far more chakra than you or I. Enough talk, I just want to train now, he said before leaving to continue his training. Before you go, Sasuke, I want to let you know that we'll have a new member on the team. I'll introduce him to you this afternoon. See you later, he said before leaving. Meanwhile, at the Hokage Tower, Fugaku was summoned by an Anbu to see the Hokage. He didn't feel well, but went straight to the Hokage Tower anyway. When he arrived and saw the Hokage's face, he knew something was wrong. Fugaku, please sit down, the Hokage said. No thanks, Hokage-sama, but I prefer to remain standing, he said very seriously. Fine, whatever you want. Well, I'll get straight to the point, she said, looking at Fugaku, whose face was very serious. Well, what happened is that I switched teams with Naruto, she said before Fugaku could explode. How is that possible? He's betraying his word. The Uchiha shouted furiously. I'll explain, Fugaku, he said, recounting all the events that had transpired and the new genin who had joined the village, also telling him that if Sasuke became a Chunin, he would reunite them on a team. Alright, Hokage-sama, I'll accept for now, but you'd better make sure you reunite them when he becomes a Chunin, he said with complete confidence in Sasuke. How can Naruto change teams? He's probably doing it to show off in the Chunin exams. I'll let it slide only because I know he keeps his word. Besides, I need to talk and train with Sasuke. He needs to mature for once, Fugaku thought as he left. I see you're still the same, Fugaku. You only want to be partners because of Naruto's famous eyes, the Hokage said before returning to his work. Damn paperwork, he muttered before getting down to it. Meanwhile, Fugaku went directly to the Uchiha compound to meet with Sasuke, whom he would now train. Upon arriving, he found Sasuke training his Katen technique by the lake. Sasuke, the Uchiha leader, called out. Tausen, what happened? I thought the Hokage had called you, he asked. That's why I came to talk to you. You know Naruto changed teams, right? He asked, making Sasuke angry. I know, Tausen, I don't know why you think that Dobi is so important. I swear I'll defeat him to prove he doesn't deserve those eyes, she said angrily. Calm down, Sasuke, now I'll tell you something I should have told you. What is it, Tausen? The reason Naruto was on your team in the first place, he said, looking at Sasuke, who was analyzing what he was saying. Naruto was put on your team because I had a deal with the Hokage for you to be comrades and teammates, he finally spoke, leaving Sasuke surprised. Why did you do that, Tausen? Naruto and I have been rivals for a long time. Even though I used to beat him badly, now he's really got strong, he said, even though it hurt his pride. Naruto was born with those eyes, and I was one of the first to find out. Hayashi Hyuga and I cast a genjutsu to hide his full power and prevent him from activating it. But in return, we asked that you and Naruto team up. But why, and besides, what did Hyuga ask for? Why would it be good for an Uchiha to be the rival of the boy who possesses the Rinnegan and the Kyuubi? He said's lying. He asked for an arranged marriage, although if Naruto doesn't want it, I don't know what the Hokage will do to convince him. So that's why, Tausen, he said, now motivated. I imagine they asked him to marry Hinata. Damn Dobi. Imagine marrying Hinata, haha, he thought, laughing. Although he wouldn't admit it and was jealous, Sasuke did consider Naruto a friend, even though above all he was his rival. Okay, enough talk, let's get training, he said as the two of them went to the woods to train. Chapter 23, The Beginning of the Chunin Exams. Namikaze Uzumaki Mansion. Naruto was seen lying in bed, suffering from the pain in his leg. When he saved Akame from Zabuza's jutsu, he was going so fast that he didn't realize he braked badly and a piece of wood pierced his leg. Thank goodness I left. How embarrassing it would be if they knew I hurt myself through my own carelessness. Besides, I used up a lot of chakra. I still haven't fully mastered Shinra Tensei. At least I'm happy I knocked Kakashi down, haha. He laughed before lying down to rest. That test had been very tiring. He had pushed himself to the limit. He knew that if Kakashi and Zabuza had used their full strength, he wouldn't have stood a chance, but at least he was happy that he had put them in a tight spot. He would have to practice a lot more to be able to reach their level. I see you ended up in a very bad way, said a voice that came in through a window. Sennin, to be honest, I ended up in very bad shape. It's not easy fighting a jounin. Damn brat from hell, he yelled at that cursed nickname. You little brat, believe it or not, you're very strong. Not just anyone could face a jounin while being a genin, you're just as talented as your father. My father was already a jonin at my age. I can't compare myself to Sennin, Naruto said with a smile. But I know I can surpass him and be a better Hokage than him. He spoke with determination, causing Jiraiya to see Minato's silhouette reflected in Naruto. Hahaha Naruto, you're just like your father, he said as he left, finally through the door. Get some rest. The exams are in 5 days. Get plenty of sleep. See you later. He said goodbye as he slowly closed it. Goodbye, Sennin. He shouted happily, delighted that someone who trained his own father, the 4th Hokage, told him he was just as good. A great compliment indeed. After 5 days. Finally, the Chunin exams were about to begin, and Naruto and his team were already together, heading to field number 16 where Zabuza was going to speak to him before finally entering the exam. I see you brats have arrived. Are you ready for the exams? He said, looking at the 3 genin dressed as usual. Haku with his no characteristic and the Konoha headband on his forehead. Akame wearing an outfit similar to an ANBU's but all black and without armor. And finally Naruto, who had the same clothes as before but with the difference that he was wearing Albedo's glasses, which Kakashi had given him, hiding his eyes, and his bangs were tied in 2 braids framing his face. All of this was planned since the Hokage had told him to hide his Daojutsu and not reveal it until the final battles. Yes, Zabuza-sensei, replied the 3 genin. Haku, I know you've been able to develop a new jutsu, he spoke again. Yes, master, I was able to develop a new ice jutsu, but I still don't have full control, replied the ice ninja. Haku-chan, you're amazing. The blonde boy exclaimed in admiration. Well, I know you two have trained and progressed a lot. I know you can eliminate the competition, said the ninja of the mist as he disappeared. As fast as ever, Akame commented. Okay girls, let's go to the tower, Naruto ordered, and the girls obeyed without saying a word. Meanwhile, elsewhere. Sakura-sai and Sasuke were with Kakashi, who was giving them some advice about their abilities and wishing them luck. Well guys, I know you can advance, you've trained very hard, you can go now. As they walked along, 3 children were talking about trivial things, and as Sakura passed by, they called her ugly just to annoy her, which made her furious. She had matured, but that part of her personality was never going to change. Konohamaru, why are you calling me ugly? You'll pay for this. She yelled furiously, going after the children who turned down a street and unfortunately bumped into a person wearing the Suna headband. You damn brat, why are you bumping into me? The unknown ninja said angrily, grabbing the boy by his shirt. He was about to hit him, ignoring his sister's warning who was standing next to him, but just before he could strike, the boy mysteriously disappeared from his grasp, causing him to punch the air and look like a fool. Damn it, who was it? He asked angrily. Naruto Niasen Konohamaru. He was being lifted up by Naruto, who saved him thanks to his speed. Naruto Sakura spoke, almost intervening. I don't think he'd like it if his brother behind that dobi got angry, would he? He asked, having sensed Sasuke and the sand ninja he was keeping watch. But when he felt that ninja's chakra, he was surprised. That boy was like him, a Jinchuriki. Then he thought about threatening those ninjas since they would surely be afraid of him for possessing a biju. Damn dobi, the Uchiha said as he left his position. He knew he had hidden well, but Naruto sensed him perfectly. He also knew the Suna ninja was behind him, but decided not to do anything unless he intervened, since just by sensing his chakra, he knew he was powerful. So you've sensed me, I see you'd make a good offering to my mother, said the sand ninja who appeared behind Sasuke looking crazed. Gaara, please control yourself. He told the no-identified red-haired ninja. Shut up, Temari, why didn't you stop Kankuro? He asked angrily to the blonde girl. I'm sorry for the inconvenience, we'll leave immediately. But Gaara, that brat hit me. Kankuro said, shut up or I'll kill you. He shouted seriously, making everyone's blood run cold. But before I go, you two, what are your names? He asked, pointing at Naruto and Sasuke. Naruto Uzumaki, and I know what you are, he said very seriously, surprising Gaara's brothers. This boy was to be taken very seriously, since he knew about Gaara's tailed beast, and not just any genin could know that, in addition to his amazing speed. He knew that the blonde boy was surely hiding. Sasuke Uchiha, he said as Gaara looked at him seriously. Both boys were skilled ninjas, one extremely fast who humiliated Kankuro without him even noticing, and the other from a great clan of Konoha, the Uchiha, feared for their Jujutsu. Although Gaara didn't know that the other boy also possessed a Jujutsu and an even more powerful one at that, his mother would be very grateful for his bloodline. And what's your name? I'm interested in you too, Sasuke shouted. Sabaku no Gaara, he spoke before retreating with a Shunshin no Jutsu with his brothers. That atmosphere was heavy, Sakura said as Naruto and Sasuke stared intently at where she had gone. These exams were going to be interesting. I see you've improved, Dobi, Sasuke said. I hope to face you. You're also one of my targets, Sasuke declared to his eternal rival. Hahaha, I see, team. The first thing you say to me after we met a long time ago is that, fine, I also want to face you. But know this, from now on I am not like before, he said, taking out his glasses and showing his eyes, which intimidated Sasuke a little while Sakura, feeling the power, moved away a little. I'm not the same old Dobi either, he said, activating the Sharigan, which had 3 Tamo in each eye. This surprised Naruto, who knew that having 3 Tamo at such a young age meant he was a talented ninja. He knew this because Itachi had told him all about Jujutsu, just in case he ever had to fight one in the future. It would definitely be an interesting Chunin exam. Seeing this, Sakura decided to speak up to break the tension. So, Naruto, how are you getting on with your new team? Sakura asked, happy to see her former teammate. Well, at least you weren't upset that I changed teams. He asked, sounding a little sad. He hadn't liked the idea of being switched teams much, even though Sasuke and Sakura had offended him, he had grown fond of them. No, Naruto, I know Hokage-sama had his reasons, but first of all, I'm sorry for treating you like a monster when you found out about your eyes, she spoke sincerely, full of regret. Okay, Sakura, that's in the past, but I forgive you. I see you've matured quite a bit, hahaha, Naruto laughed. Just then, a red-haired girl arrived, frantically searching for Naruto. Naruto, where were you? You left so fast we didn't know where you were, she exclaimed, hugging him tightly. HMPH Haku, who had also appeared, cleared his throat. Well, Sasuke, Sakura, this is my new team, she said with a smile. This is Akame Uzumaki, a survivor of my clan. Yes, Kakashi-sensei told us about her, Sakura said as Sasuke looked away. Nice to meet you, the girl said with a smile. Sakura returned the gesture while Sasuke said his classic HMPH, to be explained later. Well, you already know her, she spoke as Haku waved. And where's her teammate? She asked, and as if she were summoning him, Sai appeared in a Shunshin no Jutsu, proving that he wasn't an ANBU for nothing. I see you're Sakura and Sasuke's old teammate, he spoke in a very cold tone, reminiscent of Sasuke. Those two were alike. Yes, exactly, said, also somewhat seriously. Well, see you guys, let's go, Haku, Akame said as they obeyed him without a word, demonstrating that he was the closest thing to the team leader theirs. See you later, Naruto, Sakura said, waving to him as he returned the gesture. Remember, too, I'll defeat you, Sasuke said with a half-smile, provoking the Uzumaki. Damn it, stop calling me that, he said, now furious, unable to stand the Uchiha who only had an arrogant smile. Relax, Naruto, he's just provoking you, Haku said as the 3 of them left with Akame, leaving the Uchiha muttering curses under his breath, though after that they continued on their way behind Naruto's team. When the teams arrived, they all went directly to the 3rd floor, since that's where the first part would take place. But when they entered the academy, they saw some genin who thought it was there because a genjutsu had been placed on the door, making some people believe the exam would be held there. Naruto, thanks to his Rinnegan, realized it right away and they walked right past. They must have done that to filter people out, Akame said, who had also noticed the genjutsu due to the chakra interference. As a censor, she quickly realized it. I'm still amazed by your skill as a censor, you're even better than me, he said, admiring the redhead who blushed at the blonde's compliments. Okay, enough talk, let's go into the real room, said Haku curtly, obviously jealous of the Uzumaki's advances. Chapter 24, First Exam. Naruto and his team had already entered the room where all the teams had gathered. When they entered, there was a deathly silence. Obviously, the ninjas from other villages and some of the more senior ninjas were eyeing Naruto, Haku, and Akame like prey. They simply ignored them and went to sit in a corner. But then Team 7 entered behind them, also looking quite confident. I see the new ones are quite confident, said a man with glasses and white hair who looked a little older than the others. I'm confident in my team, Naruto said very seriously. Who are you? He asked. My name is Kabuto, I'm a Leaf Genin too, the white-haired man said amicably. I see you're quite a bit bigger than us, you're probably a failure, said Sasuke, who had just arrived with his team standing next to Team 16, Team Naruto. Well, that's true, let's just say I'm a veteran, the ninja said ruefully. How many times did you take the exam? Akame asked, getting ahead of Sakura, who was about to ask the same question. "Oh, you're Akame, right? The new genin and an Uzumaki," he asked, surprising Akame that he knew him. "I've taken the exam 7 times, and I'm warning you now, it's not easy." "How do you know who he is?" Haku asked. That ninja was very well informed. "That's the good thing about having experience," as said, taking out a deck of card slits. "Just say I've gathered information on all the participants." "If that's true, I want to know the abilities of 3 people," the Uchiha demanded arrogantly. Sasuke Uchiha said, confirming who was speaking well. "Who do you want to know about?" The white-haired boy asked, intrigued. "I see you know me," he said with his classic arrogant smile. "I want to know about Naruto Uzumaki." He looked at his eternal rival who was intently watching Kabuto. Not just any genin could know all that information, it would be dangerous. "Gaara and Akame Uzumaki," he added, surprising her with the Uchiha's interest. "Well, their names will suffice," he said, grabbing a card with Naruto's information. "Well, the first one is Naruto Uzumaki. He possesses excellent taijutsu and also an enormous amount of chakra, which grants him tremendous skill in ninjutsu. Furthermore, he is the wielder of the Rinnegan," he said this, dropping the card in surprise. Naruto was simply grateful that only the village ninjas heard him, as he didn't want to reveal this yet. "I see this child is the wielder. That explains the glasses. What a beautiful combination, the Kyuubi and the Rinnegan. Orochimaru, I think, has found a new body, and to think he only wanted the Uchiha at first. I have to tell him about this," Kabuto thought. "Did you get that information?" Naruto asked, his voice thick with murderous intent. "I'm just doing my research to be prepared," he replied simply. "Okay, now for Sabaku no Gaara." Grabbing the card, he has a very good average on his missions. 12 rank missions, 4 rank missions, and 1 A rank mission, and he's returned unscathed from all of them. His abilities consist of controlling sand, making him a very difficult ninja to hit because of the sand that covers him at all times. He surprised everyone. It wouldn't be a good idea to face him, most of the genin thought, although Naruto and Sasuke were considering confronting him. He would be a difficult opponent, and finally, Akame Uzumaki, he said, while staring intently at the Uzumaki she teams up with Naruto. "Well, the rest is already known. I'll tell you about her abilities. She's a very good sensor ninja. I can sense people from miles away, making it difficult to catch her off guard. And in terms of taijutsu and ninjutsu, she can defend herself quite well. She even knows a couple of elemental ninjutsu." "Well, now we know what you wanted to know," Sasuke said, turning away while the others talked about something else, although something had been bothering Akame for a while. "What happened, Akame?" asked Naruto, who had noticed. "Is it because of that chakra?" "Yes, exactly, Naruto. Besides the fact that there are 2 people who have a chakra similar to your evil side," she spoke, "but there is also a chakra that is the same as ours." "I already knew there were 2 Jinchuriki, but the fact that their chakra was the same as ours seemed strange to me too," Naruto said, who, although he wasn't as skilled a sensor ninja as Akame, was quite adept. "Could it be another Uzumaki?" "I think so, it's our same chakra. I think she'll feel it too, although I don't know about yours since remember that you possess a different chakra," said Akame, who was serious, which surprised her since she was almost always cheerful. "Well, if we ever get the chance to talk, we will. For now, let's just focus on the exams," Naruto said with a smile, receiving a loud hi and a smile from Akame. "Can I ask why you 2 are talking so much?" asked Haku, who was also there but wasn't paying much attention. "It's something about our clan, Hakuchan. Don't worry, it's nothing." "All right, Naruto, now let's just prepare," Haku replied curtly. Meanwhile, with Team 7. "Sasuke, can you tell me why you asked about Akame?" Sakura asked. "It's strange that Sasuke asks his enemies about their abilities," said Sai stoically as he sat drawing. "It's nothing, I asked more because he's from Naruto's clan. I imagine they must have similar abilities," he said analytically, demonstrating that although he was arrogant, he possessed great deductive ability and skill. "So the great Sasuke is scared of Naruto," Sai said mockingly, though he didn't show it because he was serious. "Shut up," he shouted, causing Sai to force a smile. "Well, Sasuke, I know you can win, but don't get overconfident. Naruto, whether we deny it or not, is strong, and so is his team," said Sakura, who has gone from being a fangirl to a true ninja. "HMPHHE," replied simply. Right after that conversation, a jounin arrived shouting, surprising several genin who saw a large, rather intimidating 190-meter man with a scar on his head. "All right, brats, get ready. I'm Ibiki Morino. I'll be your proctor. Now sit down at the table. The first exam will be a written test." "Oh shit," said Naruto, who, although he's not an idiot, didn't know much about the history of ninjas, but rather about the applications of chakra and things like that. Some chunin who were also acting as censors for the first exam arranged everyone, leaving Naruto next to Sasuke and Neji. It's unknown if it was a coincidence that the 3 Jujutsu wielders happened to be together. "Ibiki-san, why are you with the 3 of them who have Jujutsu?" a chunin asked the jounin. "It was on purpose. It would be easier to control all 3 of them together. Besides, I want to see which eyes are better for gathering information. In my opinion, it's the Byakugan, but I wanted to see the Rinnegan," the jounin thought. Damn, right next to the other two Daojutsu thought Sasuke, who wanted to copy using the Sharigan. So this was planned so we wouldn't copy each other. Having all three Dojutsu together would make it easier to keep an eye on each other, Neji analyzed, knowing about Naruto's Rinnegan because his uncle had told him. So he's a Hyuga. I'd heard he was Hinata's cousin and Hayashisen's nephew, he thought, staring intently at Neji, who returned his gaze with a serious expression. All right, brats, now I'll explain how this evaluation will work. It will be all theory about chakra and general ninja history, he said, pausing, but anyone caught cheating will be in serious trouble. There are Chunin who are very vigilant about any irregularities. Anyone caught cheating will be disqualified along with their team. Now begin. Some genin were disqualified after a few minutes because the exam was too difficult for mere genin to solve. But some managed to overcome it, like Hinata, who used the Byakugan, as did her cousin Neji, who was next to Naruto and also took advantage of his Dojutsu to see with superior vision. Similarly, Sasuke copied Sakura's hand movements, and she seemed to have no problem solving the exercises. The other genin from Konoha also managed to cope. After an hour, the end of the exam arrived, and many genin had already been disqualified. Okay, the last question, Ibiki shouted, drawing everyone's attention. Be careful, this last question is difficult, and if you don't know the answer, you'll be disqualified forever, he spoke, frightening several who had already given up. Well, before the question, does anyone want to quit? He asked, causing several more to give up. Surprisingly, none of the Konoha genin raised their hands, though Naruto hesitated, but in the end he decided that no matter the question, he was going to pass. He was determined to fulfill his dream. Well, brats, I see you've got guts. Those of you who stayed behind are passed, he declared, leaving everyone surprised. Suddenly, the classroom window shattered, revealing a large poster and a very special kunoichi. All right, brats, now it's my turn. I'm the great Anko Mitarashi, a young woman with purple hair and an outfit that left nothing to the imagination, as she only wore a miniskirt and a mesh top, introduced herself. I see you've been talking to Ibiki, said, looking back at him. There are several good genin this year, Anko mentioned. After this, she simply told all the genin to follow her to the next phase of the exam. When Ibiki was alone, he went to collect the exams. After collecting them all, the first thing he decided to do was compare the results of the three Daojutsu. He was surprised to find that Naruto's and Neji's exams, for the Byakugan and Rinnegan respectively, had a perfect score, while the Sharingan only scored an 80. So your vision is the same as the Byakugan. I see those eyes you possess are quite powerful, Ibiki said as he left the classroom. Meanwhile, with Naruto, all the genin encountered the great training ground called the Forest of Death, something that made everyone's hair stand on end. Well, brats, this forest is no ordinary place. It's teeming with enormous beasts, a perfect setting for the second question, don't you think? He asked with a psychopathic grin, startling several genin. The test involves each team being given a scroll, either from the sky or the earth. To complete the test, you have to. So that means we have to take it from another team. That way, at most, only half the teams here would remain, interrupted the blonde boy who had analyzed the entire test before Anko could explain. Well said, Foxy-kun, he said with a smile, sending a shiver down Naruto's spine. Naruto also realized he recognized him as the Jinchuriki, though Anko was somewhat surprised by how analytical the blonde boy was. Oh, one last thing, before entering the Forest of Death, you have to sign this paper acknowledging your responsibility if you die, he added, causing everyone to panic. So we could die in this test. Haku spoke amidst the murmurs of the frightened genin. That's right, girl. Now if you sign, go to that store, Anko said, pointing to the store where someone was using a stamp to authorize the formulas. They'll give you the parchments there. All the genin surprisingly signed, many telling themselves that having come this far, they weren't going to give up so easily. Chapter 25, Second Exam, the Forest of Death. After everyone had signed, Anko spoke again. Anko unrolled a map of the sector. First, I'll give you an overview of the training grounds. Everyone focused on the map. Battle Training Zone 44 has 44 locked access gates. There are forests and rivers inside. In the center is a locked tower located 10 km from each gate. Everyone listened attentively. It is in this confined area where you will undergo the survival test. The test consists of she closed the map and put it away a battle at any cost to get your hands on these scrolls. She took out 2 scrolls, 1 blue and 1 white. 2 scrolls. Suzuki repeated. Yes, you will fight to obtain both. He extended them, the Scroll of Heaven and the Scroll of Earth. No one said anything altogether. The 26 teams will take part in this exam, so half of them will go after the Scroll of Heaven and the other half will try to obtain the Scroll of Earth. I will give a particular scroll to each team, and that is what they will compete for. I understand, and how do we pass the exam? Akame asked, waiting expectantly for the pink-haired girl. Your entire team must bring both scrolls to the tower, he replied. That means half the teams will fail, or even more if not all teams can get both scrolls, the pink-haired girl said confidently. Nobody ever said it would be easy, Naruto said, somewhat annoyed. And one more thing, the exam has a time limit. He put the scrolls in his jacket. You have to finish it in 5 days. 5 days stuck in there. Yamanaka Ino complained. So this exam doesn't just begin and end with obtaining both scrolls, Haku said. Judging by the terrain and the rules of the second test, the purpose of all this is, he pondered with complete seriousness, to reduce the number of groups aspiring to Chunin by more than half. Wow, you're perceptive, Anko smiled somewhat haughtily. What do you mean? Kiba, as always, couldn't come up with the answer on his own. It's simple, the brunette replied, looking him in the eye. If you don't have both scrolls, you won't pass the second exam, but you also won't pass if you don't have all your team members with you. In this forest, there are many things that can kill a person, from the smallest insect to the largest reptile, not to mention the possibility of casualties from fights with rival teams. What? Chaoji shouted, and what are we supposed to eat? Look around you, Anko said dismissively. The forest is full of things to eat, there's enough to feed you all. Yes, but there's not only that in the forest, Kabuto said. There are also mane-eating beasts and poisonous plants. Oh, old man, Chaoji despaired even more. Calm down, that's why it's called a survival exam, Ino complained to her partner. Which means that under these circumstances, there's no way half the teams will pass the exam, Neji maintained the same position as Haku. With the days getting longer and the nights getting shorter, we'll have less time to sleep and less time to recover, Lee agreed. It's quite a challenge, actually, she added with a Colgate-style smile. Completely surrounded by enemies, Naruto thought aloud, analyzing on his own what this second exam entailed. There will be no rest. We must remain constantly vigilant. That's right, this exam will also measure your resilience against enemy lines, the examiner continued. This exam is designed to be very demanding, and I'm sure several of you will not pass the challenge. Shikamaru raised his hand to get their attention. Hey, can we get out of this halfway through? Anko looked at him with annoyance. Of course not. In the middle of a battle, they won't be able to say, sorry, can we leave? Akin laughed at what had been mentioned before. What a rude woman, she thought. Well, they could, but it would be the last thing they'd ever say, he continued. Oh great, Nara said sarcastically, this is going to be problematic. There are other ways they can be disqualified. Anko ignored him and continued her explanation. The first is simple. She raised a finger. If all 3 team members don't reach the tower, or in certain cases all 4, just as I said, and with both scrolls after 5 days. She raised another finger to emphasize the number 2. Number 2, if a team loses a member, or if a member becomes incapacitated and can't continue. But most importantly, none of you, absolutely none of you, can see the contents of the scrolls until you reach the tower. And what happens if it accidentally opens and we read it? Kiba asked. Let me put it this way, you don't want to read that, she replied with a smile, but with a threatening aura. He just sighed in defeat at not getting the answer he wanted. Sometimes ninja are asked to carry secret documents. The scrolls are to prove their integrity. Well, that's all, she concluded the half-baked explanation, pointing toward a makeshift tent. Each team take your consent forms and go exchange them over there for your scrolls. After that, each team chooses a door through which you'll be allowed to enter. She sighed wearily. Oh, and I'd like to warn you about something else, she said grudgingly. Don't die. Everyone became alert. After a while, everyone was separated. I understand this now. We won't know which team has which scroll, Sasuke observed, not far from the makeshift tent where they were supposed to exchange their cards for scrolls, which was being covered by a curtain. And we won't know which team member is carrying the scroll. Stealing information is truly a matter of life and death. He prepared to read the consent form. It's just as Ibiki said. His eyes rested on the applicants near him. We all have the same chance of passing, and they're all my enemies. Anko watched from afar. It seems they are beginning to understand what this exam really entails. All right, everyone, listen up. A ninja emerged from the makeshift tent. We're going to start handing out the scrolls. He returned to the tent, and team after team entered to exchange the cards for the scrolls. Anko watched each group from afar. I wonder if any of them will survive this. Team 14 had already submitted their consent forms, and one of the ninjas in charge handed the blonde man the sky scroll. Really, we're seriously going to win this, the blonde man thought seriously. Anko checked her watch, which read 1 minute to 2. Listen, all the teams have received their scrolls, she called to the others. So go to your entrance gates and wait there. The gates will open at the same time, and the exam will begin. All the teams were already waiting behind their doors. Hinata and her team were waiting at gate 16. We're the law of survival, there's no way we'll lose, Kiba said confidently. Hinata, you'd better be strong. The girl with pearl eyes looked at him uncertainly. Oh yeah. Ino and her team were at gate 27. This exam could cost us our lives, how troublesome, the young Nara complained, as he rarely did. But since we have to do it, let's just let that idiot Naruto go first. He said this with conviction while the chubby kid stood beside him counting his chips and the blonde girl looked at them with a certain disinterest. Team 16 was at Gate 12. Naruto, what plan would we use in the Forest of Death? Haku asked, looking at the deep vegetation in front of the large gate. The first thing we'll do is find a relatively safe haven to recover and figure out how to attack the other teams so we can get the remaining scrolls, she replied, noticing that she seemed a little nervous. Relax, we'll be safe. Our team is quite strong, we just have to be careful with the other Jinchuriki and also with one or two other people. Okay Naruto, I know our team is quite strong, Akame replied confidently. Team 7 waited at Gate 10. Sasuke-kun, what are we going to do when we get inside? Sakura asked, her cheeks flushed. The first thing we'll do is find the other team so we can steal the scrolls and finish as quickly as possible, he said arrogantly, while Sai remained silent. The Sound Ninjas waited at Gate 20. The moment is approaching when we'll have to open the gates, the hunchbacked ninja with bandages on his face said anxiously. Kabuto and his two companions were waiting at Gate 38. Where are Naruto and Sasuke? Kabuto was lost in his own thoughts. How long will it take you to get to the tower? He smiled arrogantly. The Sand team waited at Gate 6. Not only will I have to deal with the filthy members of the other teams, Kankuro eyed the redhead suspiciously, I'll be with Gaara and he might try to kill me. Beside him, the blonde from the Sand looked at him uncertainly. At Gate 15 stood the Grass Ninjas. Let's focus on the rookies, they're easy prey, said the chubbiest of them. We'll get the scrolls in a second, said the woman on the team. Anything can happen, right? At Gate 41 stood Lei and his team. Gai-sensei, the round eyes of the boy in green blazed with determination. I'll make you proud, sensei, just watch. Soon everyone will know the name Rock Lee. At just 3 minutes to 2:30, they began removing the locks from all the doors. Anko checked her watch again, confirming the time. All right, ready, worms, she shouted, hoping the teams could hear. The second part of the exam has begun. The doors opened, and all the teams started running into the woods. Naruto's team found a good place to stay and think of a plan. Since we've been resting for a while, we're ready to attack another team to get the scrolls. We have the Sky Scrolls, so we need to get an Earth Scroll. We have to observe before attacking, Naruto said seriously to Haku and Akin as the two thought and commented, planning well so they wouldn't make a mistake. After half an hour of devising the plan, they left. Akin and Naruto, taking advantage of being sensei ninjas, looked for nearby teams. All the other teams were jumping or running non-stop in the middle of the forest. Shikamaru and Ino walked stealthily through the forest, moving forward without attracting the attention of those around them. Are you kidding me? What are you doing? The blonde looked in amazement at her fat companion sitting on the floor ready to eat. Chaoji opened one of his fries. Eating a snack, I need to stay strong, don't you think, guys? He began to eat. Ino approached him. We haven't even been here 5 minutes. Shikamaru also approached him. Yeah, please, Chaoji, we have work to do. The chubby boy turned his back on them. I can't help it, I have to eat, they're the kind with chili and lime. You and your snacks, the blonde was losing her temper. This is a survival test. She pulled out a kunai and approached her. You should have packed more kunai and less candy. Shikamaru, who at first looked at them with indifference, felt a presence and called out, quick hide. Ino hid, followed by the Nara boy who was pulling the white scarf that the robust boy was carrying. 3 ninjas, seemingly older than them, descended not far from where they had hidden, scanning the area in every direction. Shikamaru, who had been spying on them from the bushes, noticed some potatoes lying right beneath the ninja's feet. Oh no, he squeezed his eyes shut, afraid of being discovered, but luckily the 3 ninjas left without noticing the traces of food. Once they were gone, they sighed in relief. Oh darn it, I'll have to deal with this for another 5 days. A few meters away from Kiba and the others, rain ninjas watched them from the high branches of a large tree. If we're all going to have to get to the tower anyway, the boy with the puppy began to tell his 2 companions, I say we set some traps nearby and take the scroll from whoever lets us. The puppy sniffed something. Well, we have company. He began to discreetly observe his surroundings, attracting the attention of his companions. Bunch of idiots, one of the rain ninjas mocked from afar, standing there in the open field as if they wanted to be caught. It seems they sensed our presence, but they're such pathetic ninjas, said another ninja from his team, that they can't even indicate our location. The first rain ninja began to turn blue. Hey, what's going on? Asked the third one. What are you carrying under your clothes? He asked the first one because there was clear movement on his back revealing a strange animal attached to it. What is that thing? The second one asked, terrified. More of those animals began to fall from above them, letting out a scream of terror. Kiba scoffed. Well, it seems the leeches found them. They sensed their body temperature and their sweat. Some of those leeches were lying on the ground, wounded by kunai and shuriken. Then, as a group, they made them their prey. If they suck your blood for 5 minutes, it's all over. The rain team was sprawled on the ground. Those creatures are cunning. Let's take advantage of their predatory instincts to trap our enemies. Take them off me, the first member of the Rain team said with difficulty, moving a trap cable that trapped them in a large net hanging from a nearby tree. One less team, smiled the boy with the puppy, victoriously and without any remorse. The desperate cries of those ninjas could be heard throughout the forest. Anko smiled wickedly. I think the fun has already begun.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.